Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Was Gifted Demonic Powers. Now before starting, please give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. A man looked out at the field in front of him, the same field that he had almost lost his life 10 years before. The sun was just beginning to rise over the horizon and he knew that meant his time was up. No more stalling, no more finding a way to prolong the inevitable. The man used his right hand to remove the cloaky hand, letting it drop down and revealing his left arm being completely gone with the sleeve of his dark purple jacket hanging limply. He kept his eyes on a large webbed crack of multiple colors of energy in the sky just meters above the field, and his body began to glow with a golden light. His body gained an almost diamond-like complexion and a circular, golden shield appeared in his right hand, knowing it was just about time for the final fight of his life. A sound of thunder was heard and the glowing crack in the air began to get bigger and red lightning arced through it, signifying that the embodiment of evil he had locked away hopefully for eternity was breaking out. The emerald-haired man chose that moment to briefly reflect on his life, all of the years that led up to this point, all of the pain, hardship and regret that filled his life, as well as all of the joy, happiness and bonds he had made in his life. Everything that had been building up to this one action and choice he has made. All he could do to show all of his mixed emotions was let a single tear drop from his one unscarred eye and say 5 words. I'm not ready for this. Many years earlier, Izuku Midori sighed as he rubbed a bruise on his shoulder. Didn't have to hit me that hard, jerk. He muttered to no one in particular. Someone who had at one point had given him the bruise after Izuku had said something that rubbed him the wrong way. Given that the person was Katsuki Bakugo, a classmate with anger issues, just about anything set him off. Izuku wasn't even sure what it was this time since he had fallen into a blur of events nowadays with everything having become dull to him. Izuku considered himself lucky that the only hurt part of him is his shoulder, so pretty much not noticeable if he wasn't obvious. However, the burn mark on his school uniform might alert his mother and make her get concerned. He didn't need her to worry more than she did for him. Her constant stress over his quirkless status was more than enough if you asked Izuku. Lost in thought trying to come up with a more believable story for his mother, Izuku walked right into someone, falling over as a result. "Oh, I am so sorry," Izuku shot out fast. "I wasn't what? You're what I am left with," the person cut in. "Pretty scrawny and apparently a wimp." Izuku sputtered as he looked up at the person who just insulted him. The person was a tall, well-built man with short, said-back black hair. Izuku didn't get much of his clothing, stopping after the dark purple jacket that had no right sleeve, revealing his sculpted arm that had intricate lines going up and down it slightly glowing with a dark purple light. Is all you say to that kid?" the man asked. "When I was your age, if anyone called me a wimp or anything like that, they would lose a tooth or two." Izuku was beginning to wonder if he should be worried for his safety. Who was this guy and why was he even talking to Izuku? What did he mean? Izuku was all he had left. "Well kid, my time isn't exactly good to waste, so get up and follow me," the man said as he turned around and started walking the way Izuku was originally going. What Izuku either had a really lazy kidnapper or Katsuki was getting creative and messing with him. "Def 2, come on kid, we are going to your place," the man said as he stopped. "I guess the confusion is slightly allowed seeing as how I don't know where you live. Probably should tell me that to make this an easier meeting." Why you need to know where I live?" Izuku sputtered out. This was quickly becoming a very bad situation. Izuku was probably 5 seconds from bolting fast as possible in Katsuki's direction for help. Speaking of which, why was there no one else around this early in the evening? "Well, I do believe it would be rude to take you for a trip before we tell your parents and make sure I am correct in my guess." The man started walking again. "So kindly hurry your ass up because my time is limited." At this point, Izuku was equal parts confused, worried, and curious. This didn't add up to a kidnapping. Who would actually visit the mom of the victim as they did it? What exactly was this man meaning when he said trip? That sounds close to kidnapping, but who honestly is upfront like that? Finally, what is this man trying to be sure of and in a rush because... "Runt, do you think that's all in your head?" the man asked, standing right in front of Izuku. "If you are the one, then I definitely have to beat the muttering shit out of you." What Izuku took a stop back. Now this man was threatening him. "What do you mean by the one?" The man groaned. "If you could hurry up, I can answer all your questions, little shit. I am not explaining shit if 1, we don't go to your place, and 2, I am not explaining this complicated shit in public." He turned his head down at Izuku, who felt this man's eyes burning into him through the sunglasses the man was wearing. "So let's go already." His swearing was a good indicator to Izuku that this man was annoyed as an understatement. If Izuku had any chance to escape this man, it was gone and long gone. This man was intent on following through what he was saying, so Izuku began to take a pace towards his home. "Gotta get you some toughness too if you cave that easily," the man said as he started walking alongside Izuku. What do you want? Why with me? Why are you doing this? Izuku barely whispered out while shaking in his pace, worried that asking this man of his intentions would provoke him into violence. First off, please grow up and have some testosterone, kid. Jesus, the man said, with what sounded like thunder in the distance at him saying Jesus. Crap, now I am gonna get a stern look and bullshit. Anyways, man up. And I'm not even a threat to you, kid, maybe. Depends on if you are the one I was sent for. Deciding it was better not to question him again with a stutter, he took a breath. Who sent you for me and why? Once again, I will answer those types of questions when we get there. Your parents need to hear all of this for sure. Please don't hurt my mom, Izuku pleaded as they came within view of the apartment building. Not on the list of chores I am here for. Not even worried about your dad. Don't think I'm a threat to him or something. The man looked at Izuku and noticed a wince from the scrawny kid. My dad isn't here anymore, Izuku quickly said, with a tone suggesting it was something he does not want brought up, because he didn't want to remember his trauma. Hey, don't worry, kid, your mom is safe. Probably going to worried as hell, but that will make sense seeing as how her son brought home a huge, powerful, and mysterious man. The man chuckled at that as they entered the building. Izuku gave no response as he started going up the stairs. Silence followed them up until they got to the door, where the man stopped Izuku with a hand on his shoulder that Izuku tensed up under. Is this a home where I gotta take my shoes off? Izuku looked down at the man's feet to see the dark brown boots that looked like they had been through hell with two thoughts. 1. Why is this something this man tried to be polite over? And why did the boots look like they got thrown in a fire? I don't think my mom would mind. Alrighty then. After you, I guess. The man scratched his bare should, the purple lines glowing with brighter intensity when his fingers grazed them. Izuku mentally prepared himself in a quick second, not risking any more time because he did not feel like seeing if this guy would call him any of the curse words he was throwing around in front of his mom. A feeling told him that this guy most likely would. Mom, I'm home and I think we need to talk, Izuku announced as he walked towards the dining room with the man following. Sweetie, did something happen today? Izuku heard his mother, Inko Midoriya, ask from her room. She quickly came out of her room. Did some kid mess with yo? Inko stopped talking as soon as she saw the man who had sat down at her dining table across from her son. Who are you? So that's where he gets that from. The man nodded at his own words. Hello ma'am, I believe I might be your ancestor that doesn't exist. What? Inko exclaimed, taking a step back. Izuku was equally shocked. This man was claiming that they were related, and that he didn't exist. How was that even possible? Sounds confusing, doesn't it? Well, to be fair, I am still confused, but the big guy said it was part of the deal I made with him. The man chuckled. He does love being confusing and it annoys me. If I may ask anything. Who are you? Inko said as she stood next to Izuku, holding an arm on his shoulder to comfort him. Sorry, I forgot my introductions. The man reached his arm across to Inko to shake. I'm Johnny Gat, 3rd Street Saint and 1st degree badass. He grinned at his introduction. I am an ally or whatever, so don't worry. Inko reluctantly shook his hand. Inko Midoriya. Now I can tell you want to know why I am here, and I can only really say if I confirm that your son is the one I am here for, Johnny Gat said as he held his right arm to his, the purple glow of the lines becoming intense, creating a large glow that formed in the palm of his hand. A grimace formed on his face. What are you doing? Izuku panicked, feeling his mother tighten her grip on his shoulder. Almost as quick as Izuku finished, a sound akin to shredding metal erupted throughout the room and the purple light disappeared. Johnny Gat was holding what looked like a golden circle that was cracked. Why would you do that without telling us? Inko looked frightened. Johnny ignored her as he held up the cracked golden hoop. Is Lucifer's cracked halo, given to me to help me punch Satan in the face, and if you are my descendant, yours, kid. What? Izuku felt like that was just his word of the day today. This man claimed to not exist, have a fallen angel's halo, and also claimed to punch the devil. This day just couldn't get weirder. Yeah, I assumed you would say that. Pretty confusing stuff, but I still gotta confirm it is you before I start explaining, Johnny said as he placed the halo on the table, leaving his hand over it. At this point, Izuku noticed that the once intricate and glowing purple lines that graced Johnny's right arm had faded into dull, black lines, with a small sliver of purple still running through them. Did this halo give him powers or something? Did that mean the halo is the real deal? If Izuku touched it, would he finally get powers? Would it even be worth it to touch the devil's halo? How are you going to confirm that my Izuku is related to you? What purpose does giving him the halo serve? Inko asked, breaking Izuku's train of thought. He touches the halo and doesn't blow up. He is my, Johnny said in an almost bored tone. What blow up? Izuku definitely didn't want to touch the halo now, chance to become a hero or not. Why would my baby blow up? Why would you even risk that without any other way to confirm it? Inko almost yelled at this man who was risking her son's life. Never said he had to. Johnny Gat shook his head. Big guy said I should find my descendant to give this to, or someone else who might be worthy of the heavy burden of the thing. I got thrown here to wherever this city is, and I followed a gut feeling that led me to 2 boys in a fight. Izuku was now worried for another reason past his possible combustion. Now his mom will find out that Katsuki has been bullying him. And while the bigger part of me thought the kid with the weird explosions was who I was being led to, an annoying part led to believe it was you. What fight, Izuku? You were in a fight with who? Katsuki and Co asked with a tone that suggested she was very unhappy hearing this. Bigger picture right now, lady, Johnny said rudely but still somehow sounded slightly polite. I have limited time to find out who this goes to, and then show them how to use it before I gotta go. Inko looked a bit irritated but nodded. So what exactly is this offer for? Johnny scratched his chin. I give the halo, provide my knowledge and experience to make that person good with wielding the halo. That's the big guy's thing. I am adding on making them a saint. Is it even possible to be a saint while having that thing? Inko gestured to the halo still in Johnny's hand. Who is this big guy you refer to? I forgot that the saints don't exist here anymore, or Stillwater for that matter. Johnny ignored the big guy question. Saint Stillwater? Izuku felt like every minute with this guy just added more questions for him to be confused by. And the guy didn't even make the full offer yet. What exactly do you mean by saint then? Izuku finally spoke up. Street gang, Johnny stated. I do not want my son to be a gang member, Inko exclaimed. Technically, he can't be a gang member if he is the only one. Gang is non-existent, sadly. Technically, this isn't even a bad gang to join since we were the last humans and actual heroes by the end of it. The gang would only be bad if the squirt makes it be bad with his leadership anyways. Look, the offer is to touch this thing. Prove you have the of a saint, train to use the power and prepare yourself for your future. Don't touch it and I will find someone willing. Gat moved the halo slightly towards Izuku, but still holding onto one side. I used it to save a friend from a dumb plot of Satan's and big guy says I gotta pass it on. Inko stared at Johnny questioningly. How can you be so calm about this? My son could turn out to not be related to you and get killed by this thing. Izuku didn't hear Johnny's response to his mother. He stared at the halo deep in thought. This halo could be passed on to him, giving him powers to wield of his own. This means he could become a hero. The guy did say that the saints he wants him to be like were heroes. However, there was a chance this guy was wrong. The guy could have been there at the fight because he was lead to Katsuki. They both do seem to share similar vocabulary. Izuku could be risking his life on his dream to become a hero if he took the offer. It scares Izuku knowing that he could die just to have this slim chance to be closer to his dream. In the end, he knew what he wanted, and he would hate himself later on if he didn't even try to take this chance. Izuku remembered the words he hasn't heard spoken to him in years. Weak, useless. Without a further thought or word, he grabbed the halo completely with his hand, wanting to prove he wasn't useless. Izuku, his mother yelled right before it happened. A blinding white light engulfed the room all of a sudden and Izuku couldn't hear anything but a loud humming noise. Izuku feared this was what he was feeling while being blown up and sent to the afterlife. He immediately felt bad because his mother was right next to him when he did the admittedly selfish or idiotic act of grabbing the halo. Hoping she would be okay, he noticed the sound was quieting down and the white light was slowly becoming a deep purple. Kid, can you hear me?" A faraway voice, that or a whisper resembling Johnny, broke the cycle of humming. "Well, I will be damned, that thing reacted more to you than me. Izuku, baby, are you okay?" Inko panicked while rubbing her eyes to clear the light. "I think he is better than okay." Johnny stood up and grinned. "Runt has more of a connection to it than I did." Izuku, finally able to see again, was able to understand what Johnny meant. Looking down at himself, he saw similar glowing lines running up and down not just his left arm that grabbed the halo, but practically his whole body. Unlike Johnny, Izuku didn't have just a dark purple, but also lime green as well. Each color was giving him a nice feeling of strength and confidence he had never felt before. "Whoa," was all Izuku could get out. "Feels great, doesn't it?" Johnny asked. "I didn't have nearly as much of a connection to the halo as you do, and I got drunk with power when I had it." "My Izuku is going to go mad with power." Inko's panic somehow got worse. "Well, I am kind of a sociopath and violent, so that was natural for me. Kid here doesn't seem nuts enough to react like me." "Oh, kid might want to stand up for the next part," Johnny said as he stepped back. "What else is going to happen?" Inko jumped back, exclaiming, somehow ignoring the man just admitting to being a violent sociopath. Before Izuku could ask as well, he felt a sharp pain in his entire back, most intense near his spine and shoulder blades. I don't remember hurting like this." Johnny actually looked worried, which only made Izuku freak out even more. Was this the blowing up? Was the halo just teasing him earlier? The pain just kept on feeling worse and Izuku fell face first onto the table and everything went to black. Waiting was something he never really enjoyed doing. In fact, it was the opposite of what Dane Vogel preferred to do. Time was money. Wasting time was wasting money, and Dane Vogel was not one to waste money. He tried to do everything in a neat, quick fashion as to make sure not a single resource was wasted. He had never made a mistake in his life until he poked the hornet's nest that was the Saints, which ended in him being killed by their boss, which resulted in his company being controlled by two big gangsters and him being dropped in hell. His biggest mistake, and it no longer existed because of a different choice he had made. being the one who assisted Johnny Gat, a very much alive man in hell, save the very person who killed Dane made him an ally of the saints. So when the saints get credited with preventing Satan's plans to take to war with heaven and basically best friends with God himself, Dane also gets credit when that was nowhere near the profits he thought of gaining from picking a fight with the devil. Sadly, being a man in hell who had basic control of a fifth of the main city of the afterlife and a decent standing with God wasn't as satisfying to Dane anymore. He had no more interesting ventures in the city of New Hades to go after, which led him to his current position, sitting in his office, waiting for God himself to call him to listen to a proposition he had previously mentioned in a letter. The phone rang and Dane practically leapt towards it, stopping himself from picking it up. However, he fixed himself. Can't mess up what couldn't be described as the biggest sale he would ever make in his afterlife. "Hello, Dane Vogel here," he said in a smooth tone. "Sup, Dane, it's me, Pierce." The voice of Pierce Washington, a saint Dane knew of back from when he was alive in Stillwater. "God wanted me to listen to a deal or something from you." Dane was irritated as an understatement. Why wasn't God himself calling Dane to listen to him? The letter Dane sent to heaven was clear on politely requesting God's attention for a request. However, Dane was not one to lose his cool. Business can change all the time. He quickly breathed out and calmly replied, "Why is God not here? Not to say this isn't pleasant at all." Said something about how he can't really do things in contact with hell man. "So I am a middleman," Pierce answered. This wasn't how Dane wanted things to go at all. He needed to be the one to say it to God to sell it. Pierce would most likely butcher his selling points. "It is unavoidable, I suppose. I wanted to ask for a favor that would end up assisted our mutual friend Johnny." "See, wait, hold up." Pierce spoke up. "What is Gat involved in?" Dane groaned, hated being cut off. He is in the middle of fulfilling the rest of his deal with God from back when he prevented Satan's plans of war. I believe that if he is training someone else to use the halo, I could be of assistance by finding an ally of support to this new holder of the halo. Dane decided to skip parts of his planned speech, deeming it unnecessary for this conversation. "I would go to Earth, with a smaller window than Johnny of course, and find a suitable ally to help in Johnny's successor's growth for God's plan. I mean, shit, I don't think that is a bad idea. You did help him down there against Satan, so I don't doubt this." Pierce went silent for a second. "Funny thing is, God told me to listen to you and say yes." Dane's eyes went wide. God already knew. Sure, Vogel knew of his all-knowing nature, but he assumed that the overall sinfulness of hell was like a barrier for him to not see the evil shit happening down there. He said yes already. "Yeah," God said he found out from Kinsey after her last trip to see Viola. He said that the boss would be coming over from Purgatory to give you the portal to Earth and that you have 2 years. I want to know how you knew what happened to Johnny when I didn't. He was here before he left for Earth. Came for the sword. Of course he took the sword." Izuku felt numb as he regained consciousness. Everything felt sore, especially his upper back. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw the white ceiling. That wasn't his home's ceiling. "About time you got up, kid." The now familiar voice of Gat came from his right side. "Was beginning to think I should shake you awake." "What happened?" Izuku's voice was hoarse. "How long was he out?" "I assumed that you took too much energy from the halo. Not hurt bad or anything like that, however. Just had the halo overload your system." "I never had that problem, probably because I was way stronger than you when I took this thing, and I was the one who used it a lot after Satan ditched it a couple millennium ago." Johnny explained. "Like I got a drop of water in a cup, but someone turned on the hose from a fire truck on your cup. Does this mean I can't use it? How long have I been here? Is my mom okay?" "Cool it, brat." Johnny held a hand up to silence Izuku. "First off, your mother is fine. She chewed my ear off and I am glad for God's anger management class for that. You passed out like I don't know the time, but this is the night, couple hours after we met. Not even a reason to come to the hospital in my opinion, but your mother flipped her shit. I never said you can't use the halo, just that it overloaded you at first. Probably why all the marks and glowing bits are gone too. Trust me, that thing does not let you die easily." "What did you mean when you said to stand up? You didn't expected this, right? How do I learn to properly use it? Can you teach me?" Izuku kept shooting off questions. "I'll start with the easy ones since you want to keep giving me quizzes. I have stated to my intent of teaching you before, brat. I will make sure by the time my time is up you will have at the least a grasp on the halo." "Hell no, I did not expect you to scream and pass out shooting a wave of energy bullshit around you. I was expecting you to grow some wings." "Wings? Why would I grow wings? Did I grow wings? Will it be hard to learn to fly?" Izuku sat up and tried looking at his back, only to fall back down, pain flashing through his entire body. That hurts. Halo must have out your body into overtime with the energy it gave you. I got an itch on my elbow and shoulder when I got it." Johnny mused. "So why am I hospitalized if I am the next person?" Izuku groaned. "Shouldn't there be a step between an itch and getting sent to the hospital?" "I am not one for thinking things through, but it might have multiple reasons." Johnny held up some fingers. "1. I got it as a grown and physically strong man. You got it as a scrawny 6-year-old. Izuku mumbled that he was actually 10, to which Johnny ignored. 2. While I was in hell I got new powers for that and if it works like a muscle I practically worked that thing through the roof. Third is just amusing. But this thing is the halo of an angel turned devil. It might not have taken as eager a liking to you because I guess you still have morals. So it won't like me. Izuku sighed. Having a power source that dislikes him would not make anything easier. I said it was amusing, so don't take that reason to heart, brat. Plus that thing is not sentient. I only know of one sentient weapon and I left that in hell. Johnny stood up and started walking out of the room. A doc told me you should be good to go sometime tomorrow afternoon. We start getting you and that halo acquainted then. Johnny left the door open as he left, making Izuku groan as he did not want to get up, not even sure if he was energized enough to. It didn't matter as his mother soon bolted into the room and wrapped her arms around Izuku. Don't ever scare me like that again, Izuku and Ko scolded, holding Izuku so tight he had trouble breathing. Sorry, Mom. Izuku gulped in air as his mother released him to sit in the chair Johnny Gat had left moments ago. Are you mad? And Ko's eye twitched. Of course I'm mad, she lightly whacked his head. You just put yourself in a hospital listening to a foul-mouthed man who told a barely convincing story. You better be glad he was telling the truth and that nothing worse happened. Sorry, I will tell him to take back the halo and give it to someone else. Izuku felt a sag in his. As much as he wants this opportunity to become a hero, he doesn't want to make his mom worry like that. Now why would you give it back? And Ko moved over to Izuku's bed and wrapped him up in a soft hug. As much as it worries me that this stranger showed up and offered you a demonic object, I can't ignore what you and him both are trying to do here. What sort of mother would I be to not let you chase your dreams, especially if there is someone offering to help you do it, sweetie? Part of her was still hesitant to let this happen, but her knowledge of the man who should have been a father made her think this would. At this point, both Midoriyas had tears welling up in their eyes. Thanks, Mom. I promise to be careful. You better try. And Ko sniffled, knowing better. Her son has the same reckless streak as her to do good and try their best. I gave him a long, sternly worded talk to make sure he understood that he better have your safety as his top priority. I may believe I am allowing this too easily, but I believe that no matter how crazy he seems, he has her well-being in mind. Johnny listened, leaning against the wall outside the door. Johnny had honest worries that the kid, Izuku, he should start calling him by his name, wouldn't want to have the halo anymore after the earlier incident. He had even more worry about Inko using that weird ability of hers of moving objects somehow. He had seen her use it earlier to move Izuku carefully after he passed out, to rip off Johnny's poor gat. Relief was an easily seen feeling he had when he heard Inko give some uneasy support to her son about him taking the halo. It almost made Johnny guilty that he had a feeling God wanted the halo passed to someone else because something was going to happen and the halo would be a helpful tool in it. Am I interrupting something? Johnny heard a voice he knew shouldn't be there right now. Turning to the speaker, he saw Dane Vogel in the flesh, which shouldn't be possible since he was dead and in hell. That logic, however, was shit, seeing as how Johnny is currently on Earth, well and alive almost 2 centuries after he actually died because of God giving him this state to be able to pass on the halo. Vogel, what are you doing on Earth? How are you on Earth? Johnny felt no ill will but was prepared to throw down with the remnants of the halo's power in him if this was a trick and not Vogel. I made a deal with God, or Pierce if you count who I spoke to. Dane answered as he stopped 2 meters from Johnny. Lowering his voice, he spoke again. I know you don't care about other people and their reactions, but you should really quiet down about stuff relating to the afterlife and our timeline. Yep, that was Vogel, speaking condescendingly without intent of being condescending. Well then, why don't we take this into the room then? Johnny gestured to the room with the Midoriyas. Do they already know? Dane asked, not moving. Brad has the halo already. Why do you think we are in a hospital? Johnny pushed open the door to see both Midoriyas turning towards him. You got bored and went on several rampages before, so how was I to know? Dane bowed to the confused family. Greetings, I am the chairman of the New Hades branch of Alter and sent here to assist. I don't need a damn babysitter. Johnny snapped. Inko ignored Johnny's response to Dane and shook Dane's hand. Inko Midoriya, am I correct in assuming that New Hades is from hell? Indeed it is, Dane said with a smile. I was actually the one who gave Mr. Gat the halo when he got there. Izuku chose this moment to jump in. Wait, you both were in hell? Inko looked at him for saying hell for a second, ready to scold, but she didn't yet. Doesn't that mean you are dead? Good eye. Yes, I have actually been dead for quite a bit longer than Johnny here. Died when his friend shot me through a window. Had it coming at that point, Johnny stated. Wait, you are dead? Inko looked wide eyes between the two who looked very much alive. Then how? God. Johnny cut her off. It was part of a deal. And I died well after I spent time in hell pissing off Satan. Izuku was completely confused. Wait, God is real. Better I have been playing golf with the overdramatic, powerful homeless guy. Johnny chuckled at his own joke he knew God would ask about when he has to return. Essentially a while back, while the last of the saints were alive, Satan had a plan to conquer heaven that involved their boss's kidnapping. Johnny here prevented it, and as a result God felt that he owed Johnny Dan explained as he was cleaning his fingernails. Johnny, in a moment of selflessness, ignored his own feelings of wanting to be reunited with his true love in heaven and asked for Earth to be reborn with all the lost lives brought back. God actually didn't see this decision coming. Expected him to want to be in heaven with Ms. Aisha. Wait, Izuku rose a hand. What happened to Earth? Dane turned towards Johnny. You haven't explained anything, have you? I talked about the halo. Johnny shrugged. Dane pinched the bridge of his nose. Should have guessed. Anyways, we can properly explain the timeline once I have done a bit more of my assistance. Is that alright? That way we won't have to explain twice. Izuku nodded slowly. Inko then asked, explain twice, is someone else coming? Indeed, I came to offer assistance similar to how I helped Johnny in New Hades. Give advice and tips on your powers and whatnot. I also planned on leaving you an ally. Johnny narrowed his eyes. Who? Dane stood up and adjusted his orange tie. Just going for some symmetry. You took your descendant as a prodigy, and I am planning on offering my descendant the spot of right-hand man to your prodigy. Johnny's eyebrows lifted above his sunglasses. You had a kid. How I thought everything during and after Stillwater disappeared with it. Dane cleared his throat. During a more gray area of my time before renovating Saints Row, I had a fling while in Japan. Until recently, I actually didn't know that this line existed. Plus, I wasn't born in Stillwater, so I don't count in that non-existence part. What's Saints Row? Izuku asked. Home, Johnny said with no further words. I keep hearing Stillwater and it sounds like a city. Inko started. What do you mean by it doesn't exist? Dane decided to answer that. We can explain in much better detail after I find my own prodigy. For now, the quickest I can explain is that God erased it from history. Izuku thought that just made it more confusing. Speaking of your prodigy, do you know where he is? Johnny questioned Dane. Just like you, I was told before I got dropped here by your boss. They left me with a compass that will lead me to him and then disappear. My boss delivered you. Johnny grinned. How did they get you here? They thought it would be humorous to reenact them killing me by shooting me out of my own office window in New Hades. Johnny laughed at that. Gotta admit that is funny. God whacked me over the head with a golf club. I only had a gut feeling to lead me, not a compass. So I was meant to accept the halo. Izuku spoke up half-heartedly. No kid, it was entirely a free choice. I only lied about not knowing if it was you or not and the danger of the halo blowing you up. Johnny took off his shades and used his sleeve to wipe them. You told him it would blow him up, Dane asked, only half shocked. My baby wasn't at risk of that. Inko was very much livid that this man would lie about such a thing. You lied to test me, Izuku stated lowly, almost whispering as he stared at Johnny. I lied to you and made up a risk so I could see if you had guts. I already knew you were mine and I could have given it to anyone. I almost decided to give it to that rude kid with the weird fire hands because I thought you were a wimp. Johnny sat down in a chair next to Inko, who shot him a dirty look for calling her son a wimp. So why bother testing me? Izuku asked. Aisha would have killed me if I didn't give a great-grandchild or whatever of ours a shot, Johnny said. Dane had smirked and knew that Johnny was partially lying. He knew the guy was soft when it came to loyalty. Dane also had heard of how Aisha could be sometimes. Dane made a motion with his hands to garner attention in his direction. Sorry for changing the subject at a touching point. What happened on this earth that I have seen people with mutations and the such? Inko looked confused for a second before she realized the source of confusion. Do you mean quirks? Like when the boss wears a hot dog suit and runs around with a RPG? Johnny looked confused while Dane looked at the saint like he was stupid. I don't think she meant personality quirks, Dane deadpanned, and normal things don't apply to them. So it was quirks you had confusion over. Inko ignored the randomness of what Johnny just said. Did quirks not exist in your timeline? They did not, Midoriya-san, Dane answered. So are quirks purely physical alterations? How long have they been around? They started showing up around the early 21st century. Not all are physical quirks like what you have seen, but those you have seen are called mutation quirks. So close to the time the Saints really affected our history, or when the Zen appeared. Fascinating. Dane cupped his chin in one hand. Dane also took notice of the kid trying to look smaller during their conversation about quirks. Possible he has a weak one that he is embarrassed of. I am a 4th-generation quirk user. Inko made a cup in the stand next to her float into her hand. I have a form of telepathy where I can bring small objects closer to me. Any quirks involving guns? Johnny asked with excitement. There is the pro hero Snipe, Izuku said with some of his love for quirks overshadowing his attempt to hide himself from what he knew would come. His quirk is called homing and he has perfect accuracy. Quirk is accuracy kinda lame. Johnny was hoping for something like having an assault rifle built into his wrist, or rocket launcher fingers. It actually lets him control the trajectory of all bullets he shoots. He once shot a criminal in the knee from on the other side of a building during a hostage situation, Izuku said with more building enthusiasm. Alright, kinda cool. Johnny pictured how he would use it to shoot people up their ass. Do quirks tend to stay in family? Dane asked, clearly interested in the very idea of quirks. Do they evolve as they pass down? Sometimes quirks from one parent get passed on to the child and it does evolve. Sometimes the child gets a combination that is new. Sometimes a new different quirk that has no relation to the parents develops. Inko explained. So it is completely up to chance, sometimes Dane half muttered to himself. Have people with quirks not appeared in hell? Inko was confused how he couldn't know something like this. Everyone starts off for the most part as a husk in New Hades. And nothing is ordinary there, so it must have slipped by my attention. Dane was ashamed that he didn't have the slightest bit of information on quirks before he came here. He always tried to plan ahead and missed a huge detail. What cool quirk do you have, kid? Johnny asked, drawing attention to Izuku, who looked depressed at the thought of answering the question. I don't have one, Izuku said, looking down and trying to hide his face. Inko wrapped him in a new hug. Dane gave no reaction, but inwards he was irritated with Johnny's either inattention into the kid's behavior this whole time or his callousness. While Dane was no bright patch of sunshine, he didn't like when young are hurt. Inko spoke up, without letting go of Izuku. 80% of the population of the world has quirks. Most of the quirkless are senior citizens at this point. A child in the 5th generation has a 1 in 20 chance of being quirkless. Quirkless people are sadly treated poorly because they are seen as weaker. Johnny spoke in a flat tone. I don't see how that is a problem for Izuku. Izuku looked up at seeing the person who has been calling him a wimp since they met yesterday actually say his name. So he has no quirk, so what? Johnny shrugged. Johnny, I do. Dane tried to cut in. Johnny cut Dane off by holding up his hand. If I had to guess, most people bullied you because they have quirks and you don't, which is why you act like a wimp. Inko was about to attack this man if he kept going like that. Johnny never took his eyes away from Izuku's. I can guess that a quirk is a single one-of-a-kind special ability that everyone has, like that kid with the sparking hands that beat on you or that guy I saw with a bear's head. They all have their quirks and they can go shove it. Dane was not expecting Johnny to turn to trying inspiring to the kid, expecting more along the lines of telling him to go himself and man up. But Izuku tried to speak. Once again, Johnny cut someone else off. Let me finish. Kid, until yesterday evening you probably led yourself to believe that you had no hope of even having a normal life, so you fixated on something so high it could distract you from what you know to be reality. You probably berate yourself in a mirror. However, you have guts. I told you that you could gain powers, along with a chance to go chase your dreams, but at a big chance of dying. I made it seem like I had virtually no clue of you being mine and that it was a big chance of loss, but you took a leap. Johnny cleared his throat. Rather than stay in your crummy situation, you wanted to get off your ass and go higher. That's real man shit right there. Izuku practically had stars in his eyes at Johnny's words. Johnny smirked. Now look at you in a hospital bed. You have so much power that your body had to knock itself out to adjust. Inko was now smiling that this man had made Izuku feel better. Dane was looking at his compass that pointing towards the door to the room, clearly trying to lead him out for his own prodigy. Izuku's entire mood changed to ecstatic. What powers do I have now? I don't know. Might have the same as I did. But seeing as how this thing acted different for you than me, I feel like we both are in new territory. Johnny walked towards the door to leave. I gotta eat and you need to sleep before we begin tomorrow. Once Johnny left, Dane stood to begin his own departure. The meeting was nice and I shall see you again when I return. Mom, did he mention what he is going to have me do? Izuku asked as he looked at his mom. Inko shook her head. He didn't even bother asking me about if I would allow it. Can I go with him, Mom? Izuku begged. As long as you don't turn out just like him and visit me. Inko somehow didn't have faith in the first request. Deal. It was noon the next day, which was Sunday as a newspaper told him. By the time the compass had led Dane to an apartment building in the Kanagawa prefecture. Being technically dead did wonders for Dane's stamina that he didn't need to rest or cool down as much as he walked since he left the hospital during the night, taking the train seldomly as he enjoyed fresh air that didn't smell of lava and burning flesh. Going into the building, the compass pointed at the stairs, and he followed as it led him up 2 flights before it pointed straight at a door, signaling he had found his descendant. Knocking on the door, he had only to wait 10 seconds before it opened, revealing a short blonde woman with big blue eyes. Dane assumed that she must be an older sister. Greetings, I am Dane Vogel and I am here with quite an intriguing offer for Anito Monoma. Is he around perchance? Dane closed his compass and bowing his head slightly, the woman returning the bow. Hello, I am Hane Monoma, my brother is here. If you would like you can come in for tea while I get him. That would be delightful. Dane followed her inside, sliding off his dress shoes at the door. He sat at the table and he must admit, the apartment was quite lovely. A nice smell of what he guessed was tangerines and a theme of the color orange not being too overdone. Soon the kid he was here for walked into the dining room. Nito was just as skinny and small as Izuku. Dane noticed that physically, however, Nito currently has a one-up on Johnny's prodigy, if only slightly. Nito had on khaki slacks and an orange polo shirt, so at least he has a decent mind and appearance. Hi, I was told you have an offer for me. Nito stood in the entrance of the dining area, bowing his head slightly as he spoke. Indeed I do. Would you like to discuss it in full detail once the tea is done and your parents come? Dane offered a smile, wanting to go the opposite route that Johnny took. My parents aren't here. Nito sat down across from Dane. Their work takes them around Japan. It would be disastrous of me to make this offer without a legal guardian here. Dane thought out loud. Perhaps he could make an appointment for a later day. That's actually not a problem, Hane chirped as she came to the table with 3 cups of tea. I am of age and I take care of my little bro here when mom and dad are touring the country. Touring the country? What line of work are they in? Mom is a model and dad is her agent. It's actually how they met. It's so romantic, Hane said with excitement. Dane noted that she seemed to be a very happy and optimistic person. Nito took a sip of his tea. Does this offer have anything to do with my quirk? Originally Nito guessed it was a ruse offer to get info on his parents, but this guy didn't know who they were. I am sorry if it offends you, but this isn't about your quirk, but rather you and a fascinating but dangerous offer of a role to fill in the future. Dane quite enjoyed his tea, glad to know down his line people still stayed civil and holding to respectful skills. Nito raised his eyebrows. If it isn't about my quirk, then why is it dangerous? I can't really reveal much before any acceptance of the offer, but it is more of a support and helping role to someone who has to take up another equally dangerous offer. I helped the teacher of this new person and I felt it my obligation to prepare the next generation of this duo, although the new duo won't have grudges against each other, hopefully. Nito narrowed his eyes and thought, Dane liking that he would take his time to think through possibilities, especially if Izuku turned out like Johnny and shot first and asked questions never. Hane sat down her cup of tea. How dangerous is it going to be? How soon is it? My partner wants to start straight away with his pupil and I have a limited time to do my part. I'm only here for the beginning, which will hopefully only consist of training them both to be ready. Ready for what? Nito raised an eyebrow. That part even I don't know. I only know that my partner was assigned to train someone to be ready for something and I wanted to help. The table stayed silent for a moment while everyone sipped their tea. Nito then nodded. I'll do it on one condition. A man of negotiation. Dane was ecstatic to teach him his silver-tongued ways. That is reasonable. What is your condition? Why me? Nito set down his tea. You don't know my quirk and anything, but you chose me. Partial symmetry, Dane answered, garnering looks of confusion. My partner is teaching someone of his own. Nito widened his eyes. We're related how? I believe 6 generations. Dane decided to start off vague, to see how quick Nito could figure it out. Are you a distant cousin? Hane asked, but immediately shook her head. No, that seems off. Dane sat in amusement as he saw the wheels turning in Nito's head. Wait, are you a great-grandfather or something? Add a couple more greats and you will get there. Dane smiled. Good to see my pupil is sharp as a tack. Wait, why do you look so good for someone that old? Hane looked Dane up and down, confused how this man could say something ridiculous like that. He looked about the same age as their dad. That is part of the bigger explaining that was also promised to the other kid. I would enjoy telling you now, but it would be easier to tell you both at the same time. Nito had a spark in his eye. When do we start? We can take the train to Musutafu right now if you'd like. Dane looked at Hane. If it is all right with you, that is. Nito looked at Hane, silently hoping she would allow it. Hane waved Dane off. It's fine as long as I can come and hear this explanation. Well, this sounds like the beginning of a great mentorship. Let's just hope that my partner doesn't do anything stupid before we get there. I gotta admit this is stupid now that I am thinking about it. Johnny Gat rubbed his chin as he looked over the edge of the building that he and the Midoriyas were on top of. You thinking? Ko yelled at him. Why would he jump off? Leap of faith and shit. Johnny answered without removing his gaze from the edge he was standing on. I had to fly around floating piles of rocks and lava and shit when I got them, but I don't have them yet. Izuku mumbled as he rolled his shoulders, hoping that wings would come out in that moment. Figured they needed a jump start. Johnny turned away from the edge and back to the Midoriyas, like something needs to trigger them. What if Izuku doesn't have wings at all? Inko calmed herself down before asking. You said yourself this halo reacted to him differently than it did to you. Johnny rubbed his chin again. Maybe. For all we know, he has the powers from the simulation. That armor we had does mess with DNA a bit. Johnny mumbled about the suit using DNA to trigger the powers. Gat cleared his throat. Anyways, if that is the case, the halo might have absorbed the powers of the suit, and because of reasons you can learn on your own down the road. Try to jump, but tap into the energy of the halo. Izuku nodded and immediately tried jumping. And he's succeeding in jumping like any other 10-year-old. How do I use the halo? Right, I forgot to explain that. Okay, do you feel the power at all in you? I always felt a persistent buzzing in my palm. Izuku stood still and focused on his insides, trying to find the power at all. Every part of him felt the same, so he couldn't notice any difference at all. I don't feel anything different. Johnny sat down on an air conditioning unit. Maybe try picturing the halo and touching it again mentally. Izuku reset his stance and tried to picture touching the halo, soon feeling an itch all over his body. The itch disappeared and a warmth spread outwards from his. Nice. Johnny walked up to Izuku and inspected the lines that reappeared all over his body. Looks like you found it. How do you feel? I was itching at first and now I feel warm. Like these marks are heating me up. Izuku moved his left arm about to see the green and purple vein-like marks, both sets giving off a slight glow. It's interesting that you have more of these than I did. And the color green is new. Maybe you yourself added more to it somehow. Johnny felt a buzz in his pocket and pulled out his phone. Hold this thought, kid. Dane got his kid, who seems as eager as you to move into this stuff. Johnny looked over to Inko. Is there a burger place around here have food over explaining all this stuff? Inko nodded. There is one down the street from here. Nice. Kid, your first assignment is to keep your grip on that stuff stable and like that until I have a burger in my hand. Izuku nodded. Right. This is no freckle ass, but it'll do. Johnny salivated as he gotta go eat an actual burger for the first time since he died decades ago. Dane and his apprentice had just arrived, Inko making Johnny wait out of courtesy for them to arrive before entering the shop. Dane had pulled a large sum of money from a pocket to pat the workers to not let in any new customers for a bit so they can talk in peace. Dane, having gotten a salad as he found the burgers to be greasier than he would prefer, spoke up. Right, so now we have all gathered here. Now I believe we can answer more questions. Izuku spoke first, his concentration on using the halo slipping for a second. How are you dead but here? Hane raised an eyebrow. Dead, I assumed it was just a youth quirk. We come from an alternate timeline where quirks didn't exist. For all we know, they might have if Earth didn't explode. Johnny spoke through bites of his burger. Earth blew up, but how Nito was shocked beyond repair by that. Alien got mad at my boss and blew it up. Johnny got a dirty look from Inko for swearing. So aliens are real? Izuku asked with excitement, forgetting that those aliens destroyed Earth. That is something that is probable. Dane answered. There are numerous small and big differences between our timelines. I believe so, even if it isn't the Zen. Nito spoke up. The aliens that destroyed Earth were the Zen, but why did they do it exactly? The Zen were ruled by this one egotistical and tyrannical asswipe whose name is Zinniac. I didn't pay attention much, but they would take the best specimens of each planet they conquer and put them in these pods of nutrients and stuff, like a collector's case for an action figure. Johnny digging into his second burger. They put people they capture in the pods because they would use it tap the prisoner's mind into a simulation, a virtual world that would use the person's darkest and deepest fears against them to break them mentally so they would serve the Zen in conquering other planets and such. Dane added. How do you know that part? Johnny looked at Dane. You were dead way before the Zen showed up. While you were antagonizing Satan, I was conversating with Kinsey about Earth. Satan. Hane felt her eyebrow go practically into her hair. The devil, yes, Dane confirmed. After Johnny and the rest of the remnants of humanity defeated Zinniac and stole his empire, Satan thought to kidnap Johnny's boss for an attempt to take over heaven. The devil thought your boss could fight God? Izuku asked with a bit too much excitement for Johnny's liking. Cool. If you think that is cool, then I gotta let you know that Zinniac kidnapped me years before he invaded Earth and put me in a maximum security chamber because he thought I could single-handedly stop his whole empire. Awesome. Izuku had stars in his eyes, excited about having this man as his teacher now. Hell yeah, it is. Johnny grinned. Dane cleared his throat loudly. Back to the subject at hand, please. Inko tapped the table. How does this play into the two timelines exactly? Ah yes, I can answer this one. Johnny took a swig of his drink. Satan's plans to invade heaven involved a wedding between his daughter Jezebel. She's alright but sings too much, and my boss, who afterwards would have been put into leading Satan's army against heaven. Meanwhile, heaven was having problems at that time because of Earth blowing up. That apparently gave him good timing to invade. Plan sounds dumb to me. You entered hell to rescue your boss with the plan shoot the devil in the face. Dane deadpanned. And I shot him in the face, didn't I? Anyways, I kicked Satan's ass and he cries and kicks me. Kinsey, the boss, and his daughter out of hell, and God pulls me aside to tell me thanks and that I did him a solid and I can have one anything goes request I can ask him for. My whole plan was to go to heaven when I remembered Aisha was there. She's your great whatever grandma, by the way. However, I asked him to bring back Earth and give everyone else their lives back. Is that how the timeline split? Hane asked. See, God was actually surprised by Johnny going with the request of bringing Earth back, thinking that Johnny would want to be with Aisha. Dane fixed the end of his suit jacket sleeve. God then explained how if he brings it back the same, the Earth will just repeat with the Zen. So Johnny decided to compromise this by having them both discuss a set of changes to the Earth. Not much discussing on my part. Johnny pulled a knife out of seemingly nowhere and started using it to clean his fingernails. I said that as long as the rest of the saints could live close to normal, I was cool with it. So he made this timeline. Pretty much everything is the same back in history up until the founding of two cities, Stillwater and Steelport. They don't exist, as well as anything done in the cities. So people born there aren't real, like me. However, outsiders who just happen to move to the cities are alright and still existing, I guess. Is that why you said you technically don't exist here? Izuku pondered. Yep, anyone born in those cities never came to be, which would include me and some of the other saints. But God went with my request and set us in the timeline around when we actually lived during our own. So like 20 humans total knew of the previous timeline. Everyone kinda just did their thing to live normally, except the boss who took up fishing. That's not normal, Hannah asked. For them, no. Boss has no patience. So what happened to these and this is centuries past when they attacked for you guys? Inko spoke. That is something neither of us knows about actually. Dane answered. My first guess is that is why God wanted Johnny to pass on the halo. In this timeline they might have gotten wiped out, which seems unlikely, or just don't care for Earth. That brings us to now. God gave me like 5 years to pass on the halo and train you in using it, preparing you for whatever I guess. Johnny put money down on the table to pay for everyone. Pointing at Izuku he added, I'm going to get you strong as hell and make a saint out of you. I have tagged along to help and train young Monoma-san to be a powerful ally. However, I only have 2 years. What will you be having the boys do? Inko worried for her son's state of health around Johnny. My plan was to teach this knight how to use every power of the halo I had and make sure he could hold himself. That changed slightly, due to the thing acting differently than I planned or thought it would. Now I guess I gotta just make sure he can work with whatever it gives him. Do you mean halo as in the floating ring above angels? Hannah drew a circle in the air above her head with her finger. Yep, kid has what was originally Satan's. Johnny nodded. Where is it? Nito searched the air above Izuku's head that was empty, absorbed into him. Picture it like a second nervous system that gives him powers, and it also can't be removed unless he himself willingly removes it from his possession. Until he passes it off to someone it is bound to him for eternity. Dane made to stand up. Shall we take this to a better place to begin? Johnny shot up. Finally the fun part. Is there an open place around here that we can use to train without attention? Inko thought for a second before nodding. I know a perfect place for that. Dagaba Municipal Beach was their destination. A once beautiful beach that now was a cluttered mess of trash left there, ranging from crushed cans of soda to broken down cars and refrigerators. People stopped showing up to the beach soon after the trash had started gathering there, so it was a perfect place for Izuku to begin learning his powers. This place looks almost as bad as the row back before your company touched it, Johnny commented to Dane. I was thinking similar thoughts. However, I don't see the corner girls or have a guy trying to sell me fake watches. Dane replied, Gainen. A laugh from Johnny. Coming to a stop in the middle of a clearing of the garbage almost as big as Izuku's whole apartment, Johnny pointed to a fridge. Alright kid, let's see if you got this power at least. Charge that energy and try to lob it like a base at the fridge. Right. Izuku stepped into a stance and started to pull on the halo's energy, something that is becoming increasingly easy for him over time. After he felt the lines cover him, he tried to flow the energy towards his left hand, only to shoot to his feet and launch him into the air. He got shot over a pile of cars and landed on his back, thankfully in the sand. Izuku and Ko yelled as she ran around the maze of garbage taller than all of them to find her son. Kid, you alright? Johnny called out. Johnny turned to Dane. Any clue why that happened? I believe his body isn't prepared enough to wield it properly. Keep in mind you got it as a grown man and he is a small kid. Perhaps you should start with physical conditioning for him and go from there. He can almost perfectly channel it to him, but he can't do anything yet but apparently jump far. Looks like he has super strength is my guess. Dane gave his report. Nito approached the conversing adults and spoke. What about me? What will I be doing? Dane turned around to face Nito. Ah yes, don't think I would forget my own pupil. I brought my own gift from New Hades to pass on. Dane removed an orange altar pin from his suit jacket, orange glow flowing from it. This can also be absorbed into you like the halo for young Midoriya-san. It has a cloaking ability that will shroud you in light and give you a minor upgrade in strength and speed while using it. You can also fling parts of the cloak as a long-range attack. The cloak should protect you from energy-related attacks. It does have a current limit of 2 minutes, but I believe you can improve that. Nito took the pen and stuck it to his shirt, immediately feeling a warmth flood into him. How can you be sure that it will do exactly what it did for you? For him, Johnny questioned. The halo isn't the same for the kid like it is for me. Because the halo is a huge power source of so much potential energy. The pin is limited and was made by me and Kiki to be better protection for me. Wait, so I can only use it for a limited amount of times? Nito was bummed out if he could only use it so much before it was gone forever. No, it is limited in how far it possibly could go compared to the halo, but it can be used for only so long before it needs to recharge. Dane corrected the confusion. I'd be ashamed of myself if I gave a lackluster gift like that. Go ahead and try to use it yourself. All you have to do is focus on that feeling it gave you when it first connected itself. Nito nodded and focused on the warm feeling from before. An almost solid cloak of translucent orange light surrounded Nito. Izuku and Inko came back at this point, and Izuku saw Nito's cloak. Pool does that protect from attacks? From what I believe, only energy-based ones. Nito answered without losing focus on the cloak. Hey, try lobbing your stuff at him instead of a fridge, Johnny ordered. Test his cloak and test your power again. I don't want you to fall behind. This really smart, Hane asked, not wanting to see Nito get hurt. I believe the cloak will hold against a shot from Izuku-san. Dane nodded. I'm all for this as long as the boys are too. I can do it, Nito nodded with anticipation. I'm ready, Izuku declared. Nice, let's go. Johnny clapped his hands. Izuku nodded. Got it. Not wanting to fall behind, Izuku tried to do what he did earlier, except instead of trying to draw all his energy into his body, he only focused on his left shoulder to his fingers. He made a throwing motion with his arm, and of lime green energy shot out towards Nito, hitting him dead in the energy, making a small blast effect. Both kids got pushed back by the force of the force, Izuku slamming into the fridge from before. Nito's cloak had a few cracks in it, but it was still holding up as Nito got up from the ground. You brats okay? Johnny asked. Yes, both of them groaned from their spots. All right, now I want to talk about shit before I make you two run laps around the beach. Johnny pointed to the sand in front of him, signaling for them to sit. Once they both sat down, with their respective guardians behind them, Johnny spoke again. Now this shit I am going to put you to thought for the next 5 years before God pulls me back in the afterlife isn't going to be easy. You two might start to hate me, but I could deal with that. I am here to prepare you for handling that halo. It was my goal to pass it off and prepare you for any troubles you might have because of that thing. What sort of troubles? Izuku raised his hand. Demonic. That thing first belonged to Satan, so it might be like a beacon to other smaller demons if my guess is right. Johnny started tossing a broken bottle from hand to hand. Demons, Izuku exclaimed. I'm going to be hunted by demons. Nope. They won't hunt for you, because how would they know that thing is here on Earth now? If you did something to reveal the source of your power, then they might want it. That, or like smaller demons, they will see you as an alpha and try to follow you. Dane cut in. Basic husks need to feel purpose and can become summons if you gain that power from Johnny. Right. Husks, though, I don't believe are here currently on Earth. But if you know stuff about that, Dane, you gotta make sure everything is known for these two. Will I be a target too? Nito asked. Guilt by association. You actually might have more of a target, however. Dane stated. Izuku-san has the halo of the fallen angel, most power weapon of all in hell. He will be seen as an alpha to them regardless. Most demons followed Satan because he was the most powerful. That changed when a mortal with the halo beat him in a fight. Now if you were to be in hell, they would try to follow you, Izuku, just because of the halo. So it would be smart to keep you kids out of hell because the ensuing chaos, among other things. So a target is on my baby's back now, and Ko wouldn't have allowed any of this to happen if she knew that. Demons are not really allowed into Earth unless they are higher up like any of the new archdukes. But Satan wouldn't risk them, nor would God just allow them to enter Earth like that. Is Satan going to take back the halo from Midoriya? Hane asked. Not likely. I pissed him off pretty bad, and he will probably try his best to avoid anything to do with me. Gat dropped the bottle he was tossing, missing a catch and not even watching as it fell. So I should have nothing to worry about then? Izuku asked. Johnny shook a hand. I figure no, but now you know just in case. Doesn't matter once you get better with the halo. If I can beat Satan's ass bad enough to screw over the hierarchy of hell with a couple hours of that thing, then 5 years of me teaching you the ways of the saints, you should be untouchable. Back to my main point I wanted to get to. I wanted to make sure you both have goals. By goals, I don't mean for the training. I mean afterwards for yourselves. Something to steer your training better than my idea of be prepared for shit plan. I want to be a hero, Izuku stated. I also want to be a hero. Nito nodded. Hero? Johnny looked confused. Is that a job in this timeline or still just a TV thing? Yes, after the emergence of quirks, society changed and some people used their quirks for crime, while some people used their quirks to stop them, becoming pro-heroes. Inko explained. Also super cops. Johnny nodded. Never thought I would teach a saint to be a cop, but it is something I can do. How does one become a pro-hero? Dane was intrigued by the idea of pro-heroes. We can prepare you for the best possible path to that. UA is the goal then? Izuku got excited. It is the best school for students to learn to become pro-heroes. All Might came from there. Nito nodded along. Already had been making plans to get to UA for the past few weeks. What is UA? Exactly, a school that only teaches to be heroes? Dane asked. A highly respected high school that is for the best. Izuku could barely contain his excitement. It also teaches high school education, but at a higher level. Who the is All Might? Johnny asked. Izuku looked appalled that someone doesn't know who All Might is before he remembered that Johnny wasn't from this time. All Might is the strongest hero in the world. He is Japan's current #1 hero. Bet I could take him if I had the halo, Johnny boasted. Alright then, we have our game plan. I will train you both physically so you aren't wimps, and Dane will offer advice to improve and focus on your academics so you both can get into this school. Dane, before your time is up, I would like you to leave notes and a plan to help me keep their academics going above and beyond. I want these two to be the best of their generation. That shouldn't be difficult for me to cook up. I request that you keep complete silence on the original of your powers unless you can trust that person to not make a dangerous situation out of it. Dane asked, keep in mind that you can't keep going as quirkless Izuku if you try to use the powers in public. Does this really count as a quirk? Izuku asked, having Nito touch his cheek. What was that for? Nito pulled his hand away. My quirk is called copy. I can copy any quirk of the person I touch with their current level of control if it isn't a quirk that requires a physical alteration. I didn't feel a gain of your power, so it isn't quirk-based. All this stuff is demonic. Not evil, but definitely somewhere there. How long can you copy quirks for? How many can you hold? Nito turned to Dane, who asked the question. So far only 2, and for 5 minutes. I can't use them at the same time, rather having to switch them. The blonde kid answered. Anyways, your powers aren't a quirk, but they should still be passive like they are. Dane said to Izuku. People won't react well to learning of the halo, I imagine. Johnny clapped his hands before pointing at Nito. So your copying ability means I gotta teach you to be good at getting in close to people and knocking their shit more than the brat. Why can't I learn that style too? Izuku knew the main reason being Nito's quirk, but he still wanted to know all he could. I am still fairly confident you will have wings, so I think a style of mid-range would fit you. You can get close for sure, but with wings you would be better off with a more mobile style. Johnny explained. So will the wings be like permanent growths I will always have because I don't seem to keep all the flowing lines on my body like you do? Izuku pointed to the faint glowing purple on Johnny's right arm. For me, they only were out when I was using them. These marks are still on me because I still have a bit of the stuff in me. If you keep using the halo more and more, the lines for all we know might stay permanently on you. Cool, Izuku muttered. Right, well, I believe that we should make a schedule to keep for the upcoming years and have you boys keep to it. Dane fanned his face, somehow hot compared to the burning everything in New Hades. Try to also keep up appearances at your respective schools, and Nito, I will find out about a secluded spot closer to your home as I feel this is a tad far. Now that we have the pep talk and shit done, I want you kids to run laps through this maze of crap. Johnny climbed to the top of a pile of cars that allowed him to see over most of the garbage. Once you start to feel tired, that's when you count down for 10 more laps. After that, I am going to have you both use this shit as weights. Wanna do some hero work? Let's start with cleaning this shithole up. Not all good things are glamorous and cool. Some of it is going unnoticed and cleaning shit stains, so this place is perfect. I also think it wouldn't be unwise that you two should go to church or something every Sunday because you definitely know God and all that is real. No, with proof from a crazy guy. Without his foul language, Johnny does make a few good points. Get to it, lads. Dane moved towards Johnny. While they do this, I will find a library and prepare an academic plan. At this time, both Izuku and Nito had said a quick see you later to their respective guardians and started their treks around the beach. Go ahead. By the time I'm done with their first day, they will be glad to collapse in the sand and just read. Johnny grinned like a madman. Next couple of years are going to be fun. We're here to train them, not run them into the ground. Dane reminded Johnny. I can combine the two. Johnny stated. I don't doubt it. Dane chuckled. So do you think the kid can learn powers for that thing without using altars like I did? You never attempted to create your own powers and only used the ones Satan had before he made the crack worse. I believe he can do it with the energy that thing has now. Dane mused. So the crack won't bother him? Johnny asked with a bit of worry. That crack and the reason it got worse were two different scuffles between Data and God. As long as Izuku doesn't fight God or anything close to that, he should be fine. Dane assured Johnny. Alright, nice. Now I just gotta mold him into a saint. Johnny grinned. The murdering gangster kind or the wacky jokester murdering kind? Dane questioned. We'll see how he fits into the saint's mindset as we go. The saint replied. That was how the legend of the heroic saint, one of the greatest heroes to live, began. The beach shook and sand rose as a glowing purple and green object crashed through a broken-down car. Oh, the object. Izuku Midoriya yelped as he tried to climb out of the car with the Izuku-sized dent in it. Sorry, Izuku, I kinda got excited. Nito Monoma apologized as he landed next to the car, his orange glow disappearing. Nito helped him out and they both heard laughing and glared at the person who found it funny. There's Sensei, Johnny gat. Blonde brat, that was great, Johnny said between laughs. You knocked him into next year. If he did, I wouldn't have to hear your laughing. Izuku grumbled as he rolled his shoulder. I'm just glad the super strength works in my defense also. Sorry, Nito apologized again. He didn't mean to punch as hard as he did. It's cool. Now I know how to react to being launched into a car. Screaming oh is what you learn, Johnny mimicked Izuku in a girlish tone. You're a horrible grandpa, Izuku shot. Bah, you love me. That calls fighting for the day. Start your laps, little ers. I feel like he only swears to demean us at this point. Nito sighed. I ignore it. Izuku started a slow pace. No, you picked it up from him. Nito kept stride with Izuku, who only sheepishly chuckled. Johnny watched them start their laps and pulled out his journal, the one Dane left 2 years ago when he finally had to return to hell. Johnny found it hard to believe that 4 years have passed since he started training the kids, felt like it was only a month at most. The academic layouts that Dane had left were spot on and kept the boys at the top of their respective schools. Nito's moving to Musutafu earlier that year definitely helped with training them with longer sessions. The academic plan was close to a finish as the boys ate everything that Johnny threw at them. Both boys were physically fit enough to give Johnny a run for his money back when he was in Stillwater, and they were half of his age from back then. However, Izuku started to take a physical leap above Nito. Even without tapping into the halo, Izuku was going to grow into a force to be reckoned with. Nito, instead of pushing harder into his physical potential, went instead into strengthening his tactical mind. While both boys had an advantage over the other in their respective fields, they still could give each other a run for their money. Izuku still hasn't gotten wings yet, but Johnny knew in his gut that the kid would get them. Izuku has improvised by using his super strength and speed to either just run or take giant hops everywhere, molding a fighting style that had him hopping and bouncing off of everything to attack from pretty much all angles. His has managed to perfect the energy from before and make a new element for it. Johnny couldn't be more proud of the kid, save for the fact that the kid taking up some of his traits made him glad he got to meet his descendant. Izuku's casual clothing seems to mimic his attire from right before Steelport, albeit with a green shirt underneath the signature jacket Johnny gifted him. Nito managed to increase his time limit for his own copying quirk to 10 minutes with 2 quirks. His strength with Dane Vogel's gifted cloak also increased. From the limit of 2 minutes, he moved it up to 5. Nito quickly took to Dane during his time there and, like Izuku did with Johnny, began to mimic traits of Vogel's, wearing suits outside of training and being more of the strategist of the two. Soon the boys would be starting their last year of school before they get into UA, which was no doubt of Johnny's that they would get in and rule the school. This last year, Johnny plans on spending honing every skill they currently have and not trying to push them too hard. Can't be a threat if you can't handle the basics. Only thing besides that was getting Izuku his wings, and that was a whole other task. When you shits are done, we are going for a burger, Johnny yelled over the piles of trash that have slowly been disappearing over the years. Johnny had the boys take their time removing all the trash so that they could still have an unseen place for their training. Yes, sensei, he heard them yell from different sides of him. Satan cracked his knuckles, something that eased him and helped him from losing his temper, something he hasn't held onto well for quite some time. He hasn't had an easy time ever since that arrogant mortal decided to jeopardize his plans for conquering heaven. Once every demon, husk, soul, or anything with a thought process in hell heard that the king of demons and fallen angel had gotten beaten in a fight by a mortal, his control and authority has been dwindling. It didn't help to state the fact that the human had a powerful demonic artifact and a whole arsenal of weapons based on the 7 deadly sins. The fact remained that a mortal had beaten him into the ground. Now half of hell questioned themselves and others on whether they could beat him or not. Not that Satan would dare admit to them, but some have come close when they challenged him, but none have succeeded once that insufferable mortal. My lord, a lowly grunt from his army of demons interrupted his thoughts. What is it that you interrupt my thoughts for? Satan's voice boomed throughout his throne room, not bothering in the slightest to lower the anger and malice it held. A soul has requested a meeting with you. He claims to want to offer help. The grunt managed to word out without his fear of his master vaporizing him like he has done before. Reforming a body was a long and painful process he doesn't want to repeat. How would a lowly soul be of any help to me? Satan snapped. Send him away. But sire, he says he can deal with John, the grunt protested before he got hit with a blast of energy and vaporized. Never speak that name in my presence, Satan roared. A new guard rushed to take the spot of the one just sent to the demon's abyss. What will you have me do, my lord? The new grunt asked in a monotone voice. Bring this soul here and make sure he knows of the rules of my palace, Satan commanded, his temper slowly coming down. If this soul didn't offer him that damned mortal's head on a silver platter when he entered the room, Satan had half a mind to tear him apart and throw him into a pit of lava to let him slow burn to death. Satan only had to wait a minute before a damn husk. More insults to Satan's person, you ask him, with a purple visit was led into the room by his guards. Here he is, my lord. He has just been acknowledged of the palace laws. Well, what do you want? Satan asked. Hello on this fine day, my lord. The husk kneeled. My name is Dex, and I can bring you Johnny Gat's head if you would indulge me. Satan's grin nearly split his head apart. Pray tell me, how would you do that? He has been in heaven for quite some time. All I need is a bit of power and you send me to earth. Dex stayed kneeling. Why would I send you to earth? Satan's grin dropped. Satan himself hasn't been able to leave hell's realm in quite some time. If this was for a relic to bring that pest out of heaven, then he was starting to lose faith. It couldn't be for that mortal himself because he had passed away decades before. A source tells me he is there right now, Dex stated. Now why would he be in Earth's realm? Satan thought that this man either had bad sources or was pulling his leg, which would result in Satan damning him for eternity. From what I am told, he is passing on the halo. That part actually had Satan take a mental double take. The damned halo that originally belonged to him. The same damned thing the irritating Dane Vogel bought and lost. The same halo that the damned mortal used to disgrace Satan. If this is true, then he will be severely weaker without it, Satan said in thought as he rubbed his chin. Tell me what you need and I will consider this partnership. Dex smiled. Now he can get his revenge on Johnny for everything he did to Dex while in New Hades. You know, at first I thought that these couldn't compare to Freckle-E's, but after 4 years I can't deny they might be better, Johnny said as he dug into his second burger. You eat here every day, Nito grumbled as he picked through his salad. It's unhealthy. Well, I like it. Izuku finished his first burger and grabbed his second. Plus I eat here a lot too and I am in better physical condition than you, man. Nito rolled his eyes, hating that his best friend had a fact against his. You have the thing and it just makes you stronger. The team then looked at his teacher. How do you even pay for anything? You don't have a job. Gat hadn't bothered to get a job during his time on Earth, stating who cares, and devoted most of his time to training them or their academics. Johnny patted his jacket pocket. Infinite pocket, and I had made a lot of wages in New Hades and they are transferable to any currency. You guys can have some of the rest of the account when I leave. Call it an extra reward. I thought all you did was blow stuff up and shoot other stuff in New Hades. Izuku quoted Johnny. I did more, Johnny said without continuing that thought. Johnny told them both the history of the saints as the years went by, sometimes quizzing them over their knowledge. Johnny stated that as the next saints they need to carry on a legacy while paving forward. It showed the influence Johnny and Dane had on them when they both focused on the history, Izuku more excitedly than Nito, who was also enthused, just not as much Izuku. So how is school going to go this year, brats? Any final middle school stuff I have to move training around for? I still have to fill out my quirk registration. They gave me more time because I said it just developed recently and I want to know it all before it is written down. Izuku grabbed some fries. They let me enroll into Aldera this year, Nito added. Izuku whipped to face Nito. Really, finally you have been trying all of last year. Izuku was happy he can now spend his last year of junior high with his best friend. It's that I feel like they only wanted me there because I show promise and they want to use me for attention. Nito had only recently told the school his copying quirk and they immediately accepted him in. Even with his near-perfect records in every other area being known for months, people will use you for their own intentions a lot. Johnny spoke up. Gotta just ignore those and find the good ones who want you regardless. The school is like that, Izuku added. That's why Bakugo gets away with a lot. His quirk shows promise, even if he is an asshole. Johnny spent a good portion of the first few months of training running it through Izuku's head that from what he heard Katsuki was a dick. And to cut ties there unless he stops being a dick. Best to avoid him, I can guess. Nito agreed. From what he heard, Bakugo wasn't a nice person. So what will you put down for your quirk registration? Probably just my cloak and blast attacks. Izuku shrugged. Can't really write more without them wondering how in the short time I supposedly had it according to them I somehow unlock all this stuff and can use it like that. Izuku snapped for emphasis. That's smart, kid. Plus if someone gets full of themselves against you, you can bring out something they didn't know you could do. Johnny nodded along. I can assume your notebooks of heroes and their quirks, however, will have the real information. Nito asked. Izuku has a collection of journals he titled Hero Analysis for the Future and is currently on journal number 12. The journals have any observation he has made about the person's quirk along with theories and notes on the capabilities of the quirk. Nito has definitely helped improve the quality of the notes and they both use them to sharpen their own styles. I mean, if I have you in there with your true story, I should myself as well. Izuku reasoned. That's a secret journal though to just help us grow with our powers. Holding out a smaller purple journal. Currently has up-to-date info. You don't lose that, kid. Johnny warned. If someone finds that, they will think that you are either crazy, writing a dumb story, or find out the truth, and I don't think that people will take kindly to finding out a kid has demonic powers with unknown potential. Keep that somewhere safe. Izuku nodded as he shoved it into his jacket pocket. Right. So how well do you think school will go on Monday? And boy, Nito thought for a second. Probably people will make a big deal of it being our last year before high school. People will brag about going big to places like UA, and people will tell me not to steal their quirks from them when they learn I have a copy quirk. Sounds about right. So did you already add your pin's power to your registration? Johnny asked, trying to make sure the kids had everything set for their future. Yes, I made up how the cloak is a manifestation of my ability to copy quirks, and that's what it is before I copy one. Nito explained. Smart shit. Johnny approved. So how are you going to probably explain yours, brat? Johnny spoke to Izuku. Something about it being power I have always had but couldn't access because my body wasn't ready, and now it is, so that's why it came so late. Izuku answered. Got nothing against it. Although I still say it would be funny to say aliens gave it to you. I think it would be funny, but I don't want to get in trouble. Izuku shook his head. So what are we doing for the rest of today and tomorrow? It's only 7. Geez, kid, just relax for a day. I'm giving you both the day off for once tomorrow so you aren't dead tired for school. Johnny was glad the kid had a drive to him, but the kid hasn't stopped in almost 4 years. Johnny should feel glad he doesn't make them do much on Sundays. I just want to be the best hero and saint I can be, Izuku reasoned. Then tell your mom to let me give you that tattoo. Johnny shot back. I've tried, Izuku exclaimed. I'll bring that issue up probably near the end of my stay here. Johnny stood up to leave after he left money on the table. You both still have this weekend off, so kick back or whatever you kids do these days. After Johnny left, Izuku turned to Nito. So what now, you taking the train back home? As they walked out the door, Nito nodded. My mom and dad are going to be home this week before they go for a tour of Europe. Think they are going to try to give you a bunch of stuff as sorry for not being around right now, Izuku asked. Nito shook his head. It doesn't matter to me. I just enjoy them being home, and I understand their job takes them away a lot. They arrived at the train station to see that a train would be there in 5 minutes to take Nito the short trip across town to his home. See you, Izuku. See ya, man. Izuku fist bumped Nito as he turned to go home. The afternoon breeze was enjoyable today, and Izuku would love to go work out, but Johnny had a point to just relax before their last year of junior high, because it would probably be the last time he would relax for a while. Izuku figured he could write more notes on his powers and work on his new power he needed to find out what it did exactly. Currently, all he could do was make a blue in his hand, and it would disappear if it left his hand, almost instantly fizzling out. A loud explosion up the street startled Izuku from his thoughts. It was the apartment building he believed Johnny rented out, and Izuku rushed forward to find out what happened to see Johnny pull himself off the middle of the road, small debris falling off him. Is that how you want to play it, asshole? Johnny yelled up towards the burning hole in the building that used to be his apartment. What happened, Gramps? Izuku yelled as he ran up to Johnny to make sure he was all right. Apparently I have a score to settle. Stay back, kid, Johnny ordered as he threw his stone blast attack towards the ruined apartment. It went off and Izuku couldn't see through the smoke to know what it hit. Is that the best throw you got, Johnny? A voice came through the smoke. A figure walked out of the smoke, revealing a light-skinned man with a denim jacket, purple polo shirt, jeans, and a purple visor holding what looked like a high-tech crossbow. I expected more after all that shit you did in hell. Off. Johnny threw another blast that Dex blocked with a red energy he summoned with a wave of his hand. Your powers are worse than mine right now, so make it easier and die, Dex yelled as he aimed the weapon at Johnny, firing a wooden stake at him. No, Izuku used his super speed to jump at the stake and smacked it away from Johnny. Kid, go away, this isn't your problem, Johnny coughed a bit of. Johnny wasn't expecting Dex of all people to suddenly appear with demonic powers and blast him through a wall. That saints look out for each other, Izuku started down Dex. Didn't you tell me that? So this is who you gave the halo to, Dex asked. Surprised, Johnny passed it on to a child. You're making him a saint, Dex said the word with spite. Yeah, and he is gonna get initiated by kicking your ass all over this street with me. Johnny channeled the small amount of the halo's energy that won't dwindle out in him and leapt up at Dex as Izuku prepared a blast in his hand. Kid, go purple. Izuku nodded and the green of energy turned to its second element, which he simply defined as purple. Green blasts are his basic blasts that have a kick to them that unleashes its energy like a popping oon when it hits something. Purple, however, adds a bit of purple flames into it. The flames burnt like hell but would dissipate instantly upon impact. Close or far, he asked Johnny as Johnny slammed into Dex and swung him out of the building. Just chuck it, Johnny yelled as he threw Dex out towards the street. Izuku threw the blast, it hitting Dex in his left shoulder. Dex cried out as he crashed in the sidewalk near Izuku, not moving. Izuku started at the unmoving body. Was that it? Guy always was, I guess. Johnny landed next to Izuku. How the hell did he get to Earth? I have my ways. A voice spoke from behind them as a shot rang out. Johnny fell over with a stake in his right shoulder. Izuku whipped around to see another Dex standing there aiming the gun at him. Don't move and I won't shoot. Satan wants him and never said anything about the halo. Why should I trust anyone who made a deal with the devil? Izuku asked as he began to slowly channel energy to his right hand that was out of Dex's sight. No saint should even trust you to begin with, Dex. So you know my name. That means Johnny has been telling you stories about our timeline, right? Dex moved towards Johnny's body. Put both your hands in the air where I can see them, kid. I am not stupid. Izuku grimaced as he put both hands near his head. Yeah, Gramps told me about a who betrayed the saints and got what he deserved in hell. What happened there was them not letting shit go, Dex yelled at him. Ain't Julius blew the plier up on a damn yacht, he gets killed by the playa, and once they meet in purgatory, you mean to tell me that after one fight they are friends again? I did the same damn thing and I get so much more flack for it. Dex aimed the weapon at Izuku's head. For that bullshit you get to see Johnny in hell now. Right before Dex could shoot, Johnny rotated on the ground and kicked out Dex's legs. Izuku shot forward and slammed a superpowered punch to Dex's, launching him down the street. Dex landed on his feet and a dark red energy started surrounding him. Good hit, kid. Johnny slapped Izuku's shoulder as he stood up. Johnny turned to glare at Dex. Shouldn't fall for your own tricks, dumbass. Who said playing dead was my trick? Dex asked as suddenly some of the red surrounding him shot off onto the ground next to him. forming a second Dex that had pure red orbs for eyes. More red energy shot off of Dex, and soon many more clones of him stood there. You kept killing me so many times in hell, I guess all of us wants to return the favor. Hey kid, I think you should stick with purple for now. Johnny pulled more energy from his source out. Soon he won't have any left. Got it. How should I treat them? Izuku brought a purple blast to his hands. Oh, treat them like any traitor of the saints. Johnny smirked as he knew this would be a great moment to teach the kid. Now let's knock a. Nito was bored as he scrolled through his phone. No new heroics or events have occurred over the past few days, so nothing that really piqued his interest. A ping went off signaling that he got a news notification. It was labeled for everyone in Musutafu. Nito opened it and saw that a villain attack was happening nearby with possibly explosive quirks at play, and to stay clear of the area until authorities have handled the situation. Nito saw the area and notes it was where his and Izuku's sensei lived. Nito went to the news section and found a live feed from a news team trying to get a video of the event. Nito's audio wouldn't work, but he didn't need it to know he was staring at the back of his best friend standing over his ancestor as a man with a purple visor said something to him. Now he definitely needed audio. Come on, work, Nito muttered to his phone. Audio problems, a voice spoke next to him. Nito turned to see a girl his age that had a purple Heim-cut hairstyle and what looked like headphone jacks for earlobes. Not one to be rude, he nodded. My phone doesn't seem to want to work since I lost my earbuds. Can I help, she asked as a earlobe jack thing moved on its own to position near his phone. Go ahead. Nito expected her to take the phone in her hand, but instead the headphone jack near his phone went into the jack and the other one went into his ear. Before he could protest, he heard the sounds of the live feed. It seemed odd, and Nito started to wonder about how sanitary this was. Don't worry, I washed them a bit ago. The girl answered his unspoken question, her face a tint of pink. She leaned in to also watch the video. Sorry if this is weird. Just unexpected is all, Nito muttered, getting red from how close she was. He decided to focus on the video instead. Somehow in the time he wasn't watching, the man, now labeled as Dex in the caption, had made what looked like 20 clones of himself. I thought his quirk was explosion-based, the girl remarked. Must be one of the other twos then. Nito felt uncomfortable watching as his friend was gearing up to fight someone while Nito couldn't help at all. It made him feel better that Johnny was there at least. Sensei, he keeps cloning himself, Izuku yelled as he burned another one. The clones were very weak in defense. One hit against them and they were down. The problem lies in the fact that there are so many of them, and the real Dex kept popping out more as he stayed behind a barrier he made. Johnny head-butted one clone and threw a knife at another. Just keep punching until the real comes out. He has to run out of them eventually. Johnny pulled out his handgun and shot a wooden stake that was coming at him. Dex, you can't aim for shit that wouldn't have hurt. So why block it, Dex mocked. Gotta warm up somehow. Johnny started shooting the clones coming at him. Kid, want a gun? I don't know how to shoot a gun, Izuku yelled back, only to have Gat toss him a purple futuristic revolver. It's a good time to learn then that thing isn't powerful enough to kill anyone with one shot. It recharges, doesn't reload. Lock your elbow, hold tightly, and have fun, Johnny lectured. That's not enough to. Izuku got cut off as one clone jumped at him. Izuku immediately aimed the gun and shot off at the clone's head, hitting his mark. The gun fired a red beam that, even though not enough to kill someone, as Johnny said, the clone still died and turned into red goo. I thought you said that it doesn't kill. These clones are weak like the original. Of course one shot kills them. It takes like 10 to the head to kill a normal person, Johnny explained as he went to stomp the ground with his right foot. Close your eyes, kid. Izuku slammed his eyes shut and felt a large force slam into him, sending him back slightly, while a bright yellow light threatened to break through his eyelids. Once the light was gone seconds later, Izuku opened his eyes to see that all the clones gone and the real Dex was on the ground groaning. What was that? I never showed you my holy stomp, Johnny asked Izuku as he walked towards Dex, holding his right arm out straight to his side. All right, or I am gonna kill you properly this time. A flash erupted from his hand and Johnny was holding a giant double-edged sword that's blade was on fire, and the whole thing looked to be made out of glowing orange lava. Johnny went to swing down and cut Dex in half. Not this time, Dex yelled as he hit the ground, and a fiery orange portal opened beneath him and he fell through, as well as Johnny. Without thinking, Izuku zoomed forward and tried to grab Johnny's arm. Izuku succeeded and began to pull up. I got you, sensei. But who has you? Johnny exclaimed as the portal widened and pulled Izuku in as well. The portal snapped shut and disappeared, leaving no trace of the people that just held a fight in the middle of the street. Nito stayed silent the whole time he watched the fight, having constant stress watching his friend fight for his life against an army made of one man. He almost laughed at the impromptu shooting lessons if not for the situation. Seeing the sword that his sensei had only briefly described as the most badass sword for the most badass man put him in awe. That all disappeared once they disappeared. Nito wasn't stupid, he knew where they were. It pained him to know he wasn't there to help his best friend, and now it was crushing him to know that his best friend was in the worst place possible. His friend was in hell. The second the train stopped, he ran out of the train and back in the direction of the Midoriya's apartment. He channeled the power of his pin, which he dubbed the Alter Cloak, to himself and started using it to run faster to get to Izuku's apartment. He knew if he needed anything to help Izuku and Johnny, it would be at one of their apartments. He couldn't go to Johnny's right now as it was no doubt locked down, along with that whole block as a crime scene. About a 3-minute jog away from the apartment, his cloak's timer ran out and soon he was full on running with just his own speed. He reached the door of the apartment building out of breath and ran up the stairs to the apartment. He knocked hectically on the door and almost immediately Inko yanked open the door and gripped him in a tight hug. "Nito, where is my baby?" Inko was sobbing onto his shoulder. "I saw it on the news and my baby is gone." Nito hugged her back. "It doesn't matter, I am getting him back no matter what." Nito pulled himself away from her and made his way into the apartment. "Is there anything here that Sensei left or anything he gave Izuku?" "Anything his grandfather left should be on the desk with his journals," Inko said between sniffles. He wanted to make notes on them in the special journal. Nito ran into Izuku's room and over to the desk. So far Izuku only had 4 objects given to him by Gat, and looking at them right now didn't give Nito much hope. The first gift given to Izuku was a purple fleur-de-lis saint's medallion that he knew Izuku planned on wearing as a necklace. It fit in the palm of his hand and had nothing else going on for it that would help Nito here. Putting it down, he grabbed the next item. The second gift was a joke that he remembered hearing Johnny joke about a person named Pierce's simulated horror being a can of soda. Johnny got Izuku a custom-made foot-tall mascot of a purple energy soda called Saint's Flow that had the name Paul written on the bottom of the can. The face had an angry expression and the eyes were glowing red. This also wouldn't help rescue Izuku. Third gift was a small version of a weird gun that Johnny said would blow shit up with dubstep. But this one was more of a portable music player, not an actually weapon. The final object was the only thing close enough to hell that would possibly help him. Johnny gave Izuku a miniature version of what were spires that Satan made to shoot Johnny out of the sky after Johnny started to really tick Satan off. This spire had a purple heart unlike the yellow of the real ones, and Nito didn't know what to do with it. Channeling the little bit of his Alter Cloak that returned, he charged it into the spire, hoping that somehow it would just bring Izuku back. Nothing happened besides the mini spire vibrating from the energy, and Nito growled in frustration. Nothing here could apparently help. Nito exited Izuku's room to see Inko was standing there still with tears in her eyes. "Did you find anything to help?" Nito hated that he had to shake his head. "I'm sorry, Ms. Midoriya. I can still get to Sensei's place, but that might take a bit of effort right now because it is locked down. If anything is there to help, it might be taken away by the police." Inko was worried they might lose any hope of saving her baby boy. "Do you know where that thing took them?" Nito knew exactly where it took Izuku. He just couldn't bring himself to tell the woman who became a second mother to him that her son was trapped in the realm of eternal damnation. "I will find a way to help him." Nito hugged Inko again for reassurance and left the apartment. He didn't want to waste any time, so he rushed down all the stairs and out of the building as fast as possible. 10 seconds after leaving the building and going around a corner, he barreled into someone and sent them both to the ground. "I'm so sorry, I am in a rush." Nito pulled the person up without looking at them and immediately went back to running. Not hearing the person yell for him to wait, she stared at the phone. She tried to return to the blonde boy. He had freaked out on the train after the 3 people disappeared and ran off, leaving his phone in her hand. She had only been able to track him this far because she kept asking people if they saw the orange blur. Now that he didn't have that, she didn't know how she would find him. Nito soon arrived out of breath at the edge of the lockdown, where some pro-heroes were keep people out of the area as the police investigated all of the area to find out what exactly happened. Nito couldn't see any gaps in their watchful eye, but Nito did notice, however, that the backside of the building Johnny lived in was completely empty due to the fact that nothing happened back there. Nito quietly made his way in that direction, glad that most of the crowd was too busy healing at and fawning over the pro-heroes. Finding a back door to the building, Nito made a prayer of thanks to God that it was unlocked and made his way into the building. The portal spat all 3 of them onto the rocky ground, but only Dex landed on his feet. Johnny quickly got up, but Dex shot a stake into his knee, which brought Johnny down to a kneeling position. "Stay down," Dex ordered. "You, get him, kid," Johnny grunted. Izuku threw a green blast at Dex to back him up away from Johnny. Dex dodged it but wasn't ready for the one that Izuku threw from his other arm. The blast sent Dex back into a boulder. "Will you be fine?" Izuku looked back at Johnny, who was pulling the stake out with a pained expression. "I would say yes if he didn't shoot my damned bad knee. Kid, just keep him busy." Johnny winced as the stake finally came out. Izuku turned to Dex just in time to dodge a red blast that was aimed for him. "Could have just minded your own business, kid, and you wouldn't be here." Dex spat as he stomped the ground and sent out a shockwave that knocked Izuku off his feet. Izuku recovered quickly as Dex got in close and slammed the weapon's barrel into Izuku's. Izuku ignored it and shot off a purple blast at Dex that hit the shoulder from before. Saints don't abandon other saints, Izuku growled as charged another blast, and instead of throwing it he released it in a punch to Dex's jaw that sent him straight through the boulder again. Izuku's arm had semi-bad burns from releasing the blast on his own hand, but he ignored it to check on Johnny. I think I got him. Nope. Izuku heard the voice he was really starting to hate say as a blast hit him. Izuku screamed in pain where it hit him. Izuku attempted to charge another blast but screamed in pain as he could no longer feel beneath his left knee. Looking down, Izuku saw another wooden stake sticking through his track pants, right through his left kneecap, already showing a decent amount of. Izuku had to ignore the pain for Izuku charged more energy into right leg and launched himself in forward flip at Dex and slammed his heel onto the top of Dex's shoulder he had hit before, narrowly missing the head he was aiming for. You don't know how to give up. Dex winced through the loss of feeling in his arm, not even in its socket anymore. He aimed a small blast at Izuku to disorient him and then shot the damned impaler again, hitting Izuku's other knee. Once again staying down, Dex kicked Izuku's side. Seeing his great whatever grandson get shot and kicked sent a rage to Johnny he hasn't felt since Junichi. Johnny grit his teeth and channeled the last of his power into his fists as he pushed Dex into the ground. Don't you ever lay a finger on my grandson, you! Johnny yelled as he repeatedly punched Dex's face into the ground. Johnny didn't stop his assault until he felt rocks cutting into his knuckles, his peers having worn out part way through. Johnny stabbed the stake from his knee into what didn't look like a head anymore and left the body to care for his grandson. Shit, Izuku, are you okay? Johnny gently attempted to move the stake in Izuku's left knee to gain no response. Johnny was not going to lose his grandson in this ain't shit stain on the ass side of the Barrens. Johnny lifted Izuku into his back, holding Izuku's thighs in his hands, and started limping towards the road that would lead him to cars to steal and then alter. I mug. Izuku breathed out, a few tears falling on Gat's shoulder. I can't feel my legs. Johnny was freaking out internally but wouldn't lose his composure in front of Izuku. Don't worry, kid, I am going to get you some help. He felt Izuku start to go slack on his back and Johnny started to limp forward faster. Stay with me, kid, don't fall asleep. Sleep is the last thing you want. Johnny choked out. Is this what the whispers brought me to? A Jamaican accent spoke from Johnny's left side. Johnny turned to see someone he hasn't seen in a while. What are you doing out here? Johnny narrowed his eyes, not caring if he heard that in the past decade this man was reformed into the right hand of their mutual ally Blackbeard. This man still was a crazy violent asshole, which was coming from Johnny. The man merely waved his arm towards the area behind Johnny. I heard the whispers in my ear, and they led me to witness brutality, and I wonder what the whispers want from me here. Johnny didn't feel like waiting around for this crazy shit to give his own dumbass reason for his being there. Take me to Blackbeard or whoever can help him. I am not losing my grandson. Johnny half ordered, half cried out, landing a bit too hard on his knee. Right this way then. The whispers guide me to assist you. The man helped take Izuku off of Johnny's shoulders and onto his own. No use having you carry him in your state. Johnny narrowed his eyes further at the man. You better not do your voodoo bullshit to him, Sunshine. Before Mr. Sunshine could retort, a shot rang out as a group of 5 of Satan's grunts emerged from the street. Freeze, mortal, the Lord wants to see you personally. Take a number, Johnny shouted as he whipped out his .45 Fletcher. Before he could shoot, an AMP tank ran over the guards and parked so that the back door was in front of them. The door opened to reveal a smiling Dane Vogel, along with other familiar faces, all of them sporting small wounds. Welcome to hell. Get in, we have a lot to talk about. Previously on the Heroic Saint. Johnny narrowed his eyes further at the man. You better not do your voodoo bullshit to him, Sunshine. Before Mr. Sunshine could retort, a shot rang out as a group of 5 of Satan's grunts emerged from the street. Freeze, mortal, the Lord wants to see you personally. Take a number, Johnny shouted as he whipped out his .45 Fletcher. Before he could shoot, an AMP tank ran over the guards and parked so that the back door was in front of them. The door opened to reveal a smiling Dane Vogel, along with other familiar faces, all of them sporting small wounds. Welcome to hell. Get in, we have a lot of shit to talk about. Of course we have shit to talk about. Johnny stepped into AMP and turned to carefully take Izuku from Mr. Sunshine. Johnny noticed that the De Winter twins were also present there along with 2 of Dane's Ultra Demons. First off, Dex shows up on Earth and blows up my apartment with powers I have no clue how he got. Then that asshole tanks me and my grandson to hell and cripples him. Why the did you know to be here? One question at a time, Johnny, Dane said as he closed the door after Mr. Sunshine got in. Dex made a deal with Satan because he wanted to get revenge on you as much as Satan does. New Hades is at war right now. To emphasize that point, an explosion was heard outside the AMP. Satan is going door to door and hole in the dirt to crack in the wall with his lackeys and slaughtering anything that questions his authority. or has helped you in the past. Enough history lessons. I need my grandson healed. Dex had a damned impaler and hit both his knees. Johnny turned to the twins. Can one of you help him? We can't give him direct help, but we can keep him sedated so that we can wait for the help to get here. Kiki de Winter answered him as checked Izuku's pulse and made sure he stayed stable on the bench. And who the is that? Johnny asked as a shot rang out and the app slammed to a stop. Why the hell did we stop? Someone must have killed my driver. Viola de Winter cursed. She pointed at the two guards with them. Go outside and get this thing going to the hideout. Yes, ma'am. The two demons saluted as they went to open the back door to leave. Once they both stepped outside, bullets flew by, killing one of them. We're under attack. Stay down, the last guard said as he slammed the door shut to protect the people inside. Everyone inside heard sounds of gunfire and dark magic going off. Johnny made to get up. I'm going to get this thing moving. As he tried to open the door, Viola and Dane both pulled him back down into his seat. What the are you insane? Viola stared Johnny down. You can barely stand on the one leg that isn't wounded, and you no longer have nearly as strong powers as you think you do. You will get killed going out there. Johnny glared at Viola. I am not going to sit here while Izuku is hurt. He pointed at the barely conscious boy in Kiki's care. If he doesn't get help immediately, he needs help. Johnny wouldn't dare think what could happen. So you would rather get yourself killed? Viola stayed level with Johnny. Don't worry, we have this. Take care of taking pressure off of your knee. Johnny stopped glaring at Viola as he pressed both hands down onto his knee. I also got shot in the back. Johnny grumbled as he looked with concern at Izuku. You're not falling over, so your faster healing power must still be actively taking care of you. Kiki said as looked to Dane. Sweetie, just in case, can you check and bandage him? Dane nodded and Johnny stared at Dane, mouthing sweetie, to which Dane shrugged. All of the sounds of chaos outside stopped, and a few tense seconds later a knock sounded its way through the app. Everyone stayed at the back door, and Mr. Sunshine pulled out his machete and put his hand near the door. Looking back to Viola, who nodded to him, he opened the door, revealing a single woman with orange hair and a blue FBI jacket. Sorry, I got bored waiting for you guys at the hideout like you asked. I killed all of the demons that were here, Kinsey said as she climbed in and closed the door behind her, the sounds of the app moving again following. Kinsey, what the are you doing here? Johnny asked. I heard about a rumor that your old pal Dex and Satan and I got worried. I mentioned it to Viola, and as we talked, all the chaos started. I came along with Pierce and Shondi, Kinsey explained as she moved towards Izuku. So this is my great-great-great-great-grandson. Do you mean he is my great-whatever-grandson? Gat breathed out, adrenaline leaving him with new feelings of pain. Lines don't work in straight lines, Johnny. Kinsey deadpanned. Did you forget your daughter married my son? When did you have a kid? Gat really hated that his adrenaline left now. His back felt like hell. Did you pay attention to anything but Aisha after we got out on New Earth? Kinsey asked. Of course you didn't. Kiki, how is he? He can barely stay conscious, but he is fighting for it. I haven't tried to remove the stakes, Kiki answered. Does he have a healing power at all? Johnny groaned as he shook his head. He doesn't have that. Can't we give him one? Viola cut in quickly. The only ally we have right now that has powers close to that is Vlad, and his castle is under siege at the moment. No way we can even get to that island anyway to help him, so he can try to give Izuku anything close to it. Kinsey wiggled a stake to test Izuku's reaction, and he yelped in pain. We need these out of him right now anyways. Mr. Sunshine, can you give him any Loa dust to dull his nerves enough? Mr. Sunshine nodded and went to move to help, but Johnny blocked his path. Helling no, Johnny spat. You are not giving my grandson that crack rip-off. He is my great-great-great-great-grandson, and he is just as related to me, just the same as you. Kinsey snapped. He needs these out of him now, and if he doesn't have anything to dull the pain, he will scream loud enough for every demon in hell to find us before we get to the hideout. I have been the one watching over him for the past 4 years. Johnny didn't budge. It's not your call. Find something else. Under your watch he ended up in hell. You don't have control anymore. Kinsey stood to glare evenly at Gat. Move aside. Make me, Johnny said in a low voice. Is this really the time to argue about custody? Dane asked. Stay out of it. Both Kinsey and Gat snapped at Dane without moving their glares from each other. After a minute, Johnny grit his teeth. If he becomes addicted to that shit, then Satan is the least of anyone here's concern, he said with anger as he sat back down. Mr. Sunshine stopped in front of Johnny. If it helps, the Loa I use as a power is not as addictive as in Stillwater. It has several differences. Without looking at him, Johnny spoke. Do it before I change my damn mind. Mr. Sunshine moved towards Izuku and lowered his hand to just a couple centimeters above his face. I cannot risk doing it while he is this close to passing out. Someone needs keep him stimulated enough to stay awake. Kinsey nodded and put her hand on Izuku's. Good thing I traded in my demonic powers for electricity and telekinesis. Can someone hold him down while someone else removes them? I would, but I have to keep this flowing just right, and that takes all my focus. I will hold him down. Kiki held onto his arms. Dane moved to the stakes. The Loa is only active at this level he requires if I hold it active, Mr. Sunshine said. We must do each separately and swiftly. Be careful with them, Dane, Kinsey warned. On 3 you pull. Everyone ready? They all nodded. 1 Kinsey charged her electricity through Izuku to wake him up. 2 Mr. Sunshine's hand leaked out a smoky pale green smoke that Izuku breathed in, his now opened eyes turning misty as the Loa took effect. 3 Dane swiftly pulled the stake out of Izuku's left knee, which Izuku winced at. Got it, Dane said as Viola started to wrap bandages around the open wound. First one was a success, Kinsey chirped. How is he doing? Kiki tapped Izuku's cheek. Are you okay? Izuku looked up at her slowly, still affected by the Loa. You're pretty, Izuku slurred. Kiki smirked. Dane honey, I think you have competition. He is 14. I run a company, Dane argued. I doubt he has much standing in this competition. Kiki looked down at Izuku, who smiled, not really all there mentally to know what he just said. Yes, but he is adorable and obviously has good taste. He should be ready for the next one in a few seconds. Mr. Sunshine cut in. Okay, let's do it just as smooth as the first one, Kinsey said. On a scale of 1 to 10, how pretty am I? Kiki asked Izuku. Izuku blinked several times and nodded. Yes, Kiki grinned. I like that answer. Let's be serious until after he doesn't have wood in his knees. Viola sighed as her sister pouted. The Loa should be low enough in him for me to do it again, Mr. Sunshine announced. On 3 one more time, Kinsey said as she readied more electricity. The process repeated just as smoothly, ending with Viola wrapping his right knee. That was good for a first time. Kinsey checked Izuku's pulse to see it had evened out. He should be able to stay conscious, but the Loa will keep him disoriented and not fully aware of his surroundings. Mr. Sunshine moved to sit opposite of where Izuku was lying down. I'll keep watch over him, Kiki offered. I don't need you hitting on my grandson. Johnny spoke for the first time since they began the process. Not just your grandson, Kinsey replied. What powers does he have exactly? He currently has 2 blast-styled attacks, a green one that hits like a tank and releases a small shockwave around it. The second one is purple and just adds purple flames. He has super strength and speed and just recently found a new ability he isn't sure of what it does. Johnny answered. That's all you have in 4 years, Kinsey looked at Gat. That kid was a scrawny wimp before I found him, Johnny replied. Now he is built and fought a good fight against a demonic asshole. I can probably pass on my telekinesis to him or my electricity, Kinsey mumbled. Anything else about his powers? Unlike us, the stuff doesn't just leave marks on his one side. Johnny breathed out. Oh, let me see, Kinsey said with excitement as she channeled her own energy and tapped Izuku's, causing him to snap back up from trying to fall asleep. Izuku, can you activate your base energy? Izuku started at her for a second before it said in his head what she meant. Oh, that, Izuku mumbled without moving. Kinsey rolled her eyes. Izuku, you didn't activate it yet. Izuku looked down at his arms in disbelief. Oh, sorry. He took 2 seconds before he activated his powers and had the lines appear on him. Kinsey looked at them in wonder. You have that look, Kinsey, Viola remarked. What are you thinking? The green and purple seem to be separate but connected systems of the Halo's power. Kinsey then started mumbling lowly and too fast for anyone to pick up what she was saying. Kins, breath. Viola tapped Kinsey's head. Explain it slowly. Basically, he has 2 systems from the Halo and they can theoretically work 2 powers at the same time, unlike how all of us have to go one at a time. The green blast is probably from his green system and the purple one comes from the other. Same type of power, but I believe he can use both elements at once with separate hands. She turned to Johnny. Have you tried that yet? Johnny stared at her. You didn't think of it, got it. Kinsey turned back to Viola. As far as I know, he can gain more than the 4 powers that we held with the Halo. He doesn't have the same powers, I think. Johnny brought Kinsey's attention to him. I tried seeing if he could use any sort of stomp power that I have and nothing happened besides his super strength creating a basic force stomp. He might not be doing it right, or it is going to take a minute for him to get that. Everything might just need time for him to. Kinsey started mumbling too fast again. Viola fed her forehead. Sorry, I meant to say he might have any power. This is new territory for the Halo and it was used on Earth first, and that could affect how it reacts to its user. Because it is meant for a demon and he isn't, it could. Viola fed her again. Oops, what I mean to say is we used it in Hell even though we were not demons, it at least had a familiar setting of evilness around it. Even though it isn't sentient, things like that might affect it. So because Izuku is a human who has a genuinely good heart and since it was on Earth it had nothing familiar to associate with, Dane asked. This is all theoretical and it might be possible that it's just the way the Halo reacted to Izuku. Kinsey finished. That's just my theory. I just guessed I juiced it up a lot and that overloaded him. Johnny shrugged. That's possible too. Kinsey nodded. So what now? We stay at the hideout and do what? No staying. Johnny shook his head. I want to get him healed up and out of hell. We can take him to the warehouse downtown, Kiki offered. I believe we have some medicine to quicken the healing process. Isn't there a person you said has a full-on healing power down here? Johnny asked. I didn't. I said Vlad is the closest we have as an ally to that. Viola replied. That sounds like there is someone with it who isn't an ally, Kinsey remarked. Who? Johnny asked. They won't accept helping you, Johnny, Viola said, avoiding the main question. Who? Johnny repeated. Kiki answered that. Philippe Lauren. Johnny hated his luck. Hopefully we can set aside our differences for the kid. As much as I despise that French, we need him. He's Belgian. Nito wondered whether it was stupidity or the urgency in his mind to rescue his friend that made him decide to enter the building in the middle of the crime scene and not afterwards, in a clue hours after all the police and pro-heroes were gone. Despite his common sense telling him to leave before he got caught trying to enter the apartment, he still kept sneaking his way around to it. Sneaking wasn't really as hard as one would assume. It was an apartment building and people lived there. Luckily, it was just the apartment Johnny lived in that had the hole blasted in it to the street below, so that was the only apartment locked completely down. Nito just needed to wait until the police left for even just a minute so he could find whatever could help him retrieve his friend, if anything could. Nito peeked around the corner of the hallway using the reflection in his watch to see that the hallway was empty in front of Johnny's apartment. Reacting quickly, he bolted to the open door and underneath the police tape into the apartment. No cops were in view of the doorway, but he heard voices from what he assumed was the bedroom. I'm calling it for the night. A gruff voice yawned. I will have my boys pick back up in the morning. If it is okay with you, I would like to stay a minute or two behind to finish my thoughts before I leave. A second voice responded. Have at it, detective. I can't really pick a story out of this mess, but if you can, by all means. Nito heard the doorknob turning and leapt behind the kitchen counter. Let us know if you discover something we missed, Tsukachi. First thing in the morning I will let you know. The voice, now dubbed Tsukachi, agreed as both of them entered the living room area. Have a good night. Nito listened carefully to where Tsukachi was moving in the room. What he guessed was to the hole to the street below. How did this happen? By all means, this doesn't fit any of the quirks that were displayed. Tsukachi wondered out loud. A knock at the door interrupted the detective's thoughts and he went to see who it was. Nito heard him open the door. Hello, Toshi. Why are you here? I don't think you were one of the ones who responded to the event when it happened. Nito tried racking his brain for a hero in the area named Toshi, but none came to mind. Izuku and him studied a lot of heroes to a point that could be called an obsession, but this name eluded Nito's knowledge. He had to get a peek to see who it was. I wasn't, but I heard you were investigating and I thought to come see if I could help. I heard this one didn't end well and left too many questions. The voice deemed as Toshi spoke. Nito got a small peek, and what he saw could be described as just skin and bones. A tall but skeletal man with shaggy blonde hair that fell forward in two tufts. Extremely baggy cargo pants and an equally baggy t-shirt only made him seem much frailer than he already looked. Nito had some doubt this man could be a pro hero because his strength looked equal to a piece of paper. Indeed, this is a tough one. It's hard to explain who in the situation was the villain, as both adults involved acted violently and didn't seem to care about collateral. A kid was involved as well, and one of the adults gave him a peculiar weapon that I have never seen before. Have a look. Nito saw Tsukachi pass the handgun Johnny gave to Izuku to the skeletal man. This does indeed look like something I haven't seen before. It seems advanced to technology that is normally found. Do we know anything about it? Toshi studied the gun in his hands. I believe the man who gave it to the kid said that it was not enough to kill a man with one shot to the head. But those clones of the other man decks seemed to take only one before melting into that red substance. You no doubt saw them cleaning up earlier. I did. So where did they go exactly? Toshi asked as he handed the pistol back. I heard a portal of fire, as the news is calling it, ed them up all up. The man we believe to be named Johnny, as this Dex was calling him, was about to slice Dex with a sword of fire he summoned, and Dex must have opened it to escape or take the fight elsewhere. I don't even think any of the three knew they had people watching them. They mentioned Saints in Hell multiple times. Perhaps Hell is a hideout or codename for a place they all know. Toshi offered. Saints sounds like a group, perhaps a criminal organization that has accidentally revealed itself. I have suspicion to believe that. This Dex was called a traitor to the Saints by the child, who defended this Johnny and attempted to pull him away from the portal, which led to his getting taken as well. Dex looked like he had a long-standing grudge against Johnny, and the kid was just in the way. It bothers me if this is a crime organization and a child is in it. Child indoctrination of that caliber. Toshi gritted his teeth. So what has you confused, old friend? Every person involved displayed more than one quirk. These Saints might be working with him. Nito saw Toshi's whole body tensed up. If they have multiple quirks, they might be. I don't think, however, that he would allow his subordinates to fight amongst themselves like this, especially in the open and with the media attention it has gotten. If we do find them, we must get that child away from them at the very least, Tsukachi stated. Nito ate in a breath and wanted to scream when he thought he saw Toshi turn his head to look in Nito's direction. Nito didn't bother to try and peek around the counter anymore, not wanting to risk being caught. Did you hear something, Toshinori? Silence followed for a second before Toshinori answered. Must have been the wind from outside. All of the quirks don't fit in anything we have in the registry, nor do the people fit descriptions. The closest we have is that the one Johnny and the child are seen together with another child at a small burger place occasionally a couple blocks away from here. I will check with that tomorrow. Where they went to is what concerns me the most right now. The child, I fear, is not safe near them if they fight this chaotically. I agree. I think I am going to wrap things up here for now. It is getting late, Sukachi said as he also yawned. This case might take a few days. You can investigate more if you want, Tosh. I don't think they will mind if the number one hero offers his help. Nito's eyes opened at that part. Number one hero? That doesn't sound right because All Might is the number one hero in Japan. And this skeleton was nowhere close to looking at least as physically strong as All Might. Maybe it was a joke between friends. I will do a look over for a second and be on my way. Toshinori said his goodbyes. Nito realized he was in a bad situation if this person checked behind the kitchen counter. Why couldn't Nito come in here just 10 minutes after he actually did? Hearing nothing but silence, Nito didn't dare move. Maybe the man was standing in his spot from earlier and literally just looking over the place from there. You have no situational awareness, kid, Toshinori said from above him. Nito twitched and snapped his head straight up to see Toshinori staring straight down at him, leaning over the counter with his sunken blue eyes. Nito was at a loss for words. Wrong apartment. Kid, there was police tape on the door and you are clearly trying to hide. I don't know how you live, but I doubt that line. Sorry, I lied and broke in. Nito looked down. He just had to get caught. Why exactly are you here? Toshinori questioned Nito. Be truthful, son. Nito gulped at how intimidating a walking skeleton man somehow managed to be and decided to just be truthful. Without telling the whole truth. Trying to help my friend. So you must be the other boy, Toshinori concluded. Tell me why I shouldn't take you down for questioning. Because my friend and sensei are in trouble and I think only I can help them. Nito didn't like that he raised his voice for that. He shouldn't push his luck. So this Johnny character is your sensei? Toshinori asked. And Nito nodded. Why did they cause such a commotion? That was the other guy who started it. That guy is Dex and he has a feud with sensei, Nito explained. So he attempted to kill him, correct? Toshinori figured that the men wanted each other dead but might as well have someone involved in the situation. Give all possible facts was something you should always do. Yes, I know sensei seemed violent as well, but he only gets defensive over the saints and Izuku. Nito mentally told himself to shut up and not say his friend's name after the fact. Seems violent? Toshinori raised an eyebrow. You know this sensei of yours was ready to cleave Dex in half with a sword of fire, right? He threatened Izuku. Nito really needed to stop saying Izuku's name. While I agree that justice should be brought to those who threaten children, I don't believe justice is being cut in half in the middle of the road. I agree he did overreact, Nito responded. He didn't need to try to defend his sensei and pretend Johnny wasn't excessively violent when he wants to be. Tell you what, kid, I will help you help your friend, as long as I get an explanation of everything going on here from your sensei, Toshinori offered. Nito knew Johnny probably would make the situation worse when he came back, but as long as Izuku was in hell, he had to take it to being him back. Deal. So what were you here for exactly? Toshinori helped Nito off the ground. I don't know exactly. Nito was embarrassed that he had to point out the fact that he didn't plan this out better. Toshinori pinched his nose, now knowing how others feel when he rushed in without a plan. Just tell me what sort of thing you think would help. Nito couldn't say anything demonic because that would just make things worse. Anything weird at all, really. I just know that there is something I can find to help. Anything weird at all? That narrows it down little with this man, but I can work with that. Toshinori pondered on if he can cash in a favor with Tsukachi and see what they found that they took to the station. Let's do this. Why do we have to sneak downtown? I destroyed half of his shit before, so I don't see the problem, Johnny complained as they were in the back of a limo. Also, how is a limo your idea of sneaking? Viola pinched her nose, getting irritated with Johnny. We have to sneak around because Satan has his army looking for you and Izuku right now. He heard by now what happened in the Barrens with Dex and no doubt is out there himself. You aren't as strong anymore, Gat. You don't have the halo. Plus you are wounded right now. And you trying to destroy your way to talk to Philip would give him the wrong impression. Kiki added. The limo is a great camouflage because it is Centerpol property we stole. Philip is the guy who stabbed you, right? Izuku asked. Now completely fine in the head bar a small headache. The Morningstar guy. Kiki looked at Izuku, then Johnny. How much have you told him? I told him that Lauren is a French dick who caused us to invade Steelport. Johnny answered. He is Belgian. Viola and Kiki both deadpanned. Try to remember that before you try to talk to him. Why does it have to be Grandpa exactly? Izuku asked. I thought you wanted him to give me the healing power. Yes, we do, but I have no doubt that Philip knows of Johnny being related to you, and he also is a man of business. He will make a deal, and you are too young to make business deals with him in his eyes, I believe. Dane answered from the driver's seat. But I made a deal for the halo when I was 10, Izuku argued. Johnny and Philip are two different people, Viola stated. I can do it then, Kinsey said from up front with Dane. I'm also related to him, which everyone seems to forget. How come you never told me I was related to another saint? Izuku looked at Johnny. Because he doesn't pay attention to anything. Kinsey answered first. That stuff happened after I died, so I didn't feel concerned. Johnny shot back. I figured your son was gay or afraid of my daughter. It's not his fault that he had to like the daughter of a maniac that picked up on her father's traits. Kinsey defended her son. They got together before you even died. How did he die? Izuku whispered to Mr. Sunshine, not wanting to get involved in the arguing. I believe he died in a fight with a criminal. Mr. Sunshine answered, equally quiet. Izuku was about to ask about that, but his family got louder. I'm the one to go with him to Philippe, Johnny stated. I'm the one who has been teaching and looking after him for the past 4 years. So that means I should be the one to get some face time with him, Kinsey shouted back. Can you both quiet down before the people outside realize who we are? Viola hissed. Or do you want us to not get there at all? Kinsey and Johnny both glared at each other for a couple of seconds before they both looked at Izuku, who spoke up. Why can't you both do it? Kinsey nodded. That is fine with me, but I want to take over the last year that Johnny was given. What? Johnny's voice rose back up. Why would I allow that? Because you being on Earth is actually bringing Izuku trouble. Dane answered. Johnny was shocked that Dane swapped sides, and now wanted to know what he meant. How am I bringing the squirt trouble? His name is Izuku. Kinsey interrupted. If you want to be the main great-great-great-great-grandparent, use his name. Whatever. How I am bringing him trouble. Nothing has happened till today or yesterday. Izuku added. I can't tell time here, and the weird stuff threw my timing off. It was Loa dust, or my power similar to it. Mr. Sunshine corrected Izuku. Back to the main question. Your presence alone is dangerous for Izuku because you no longer have the halo. Viola finally answered the question. How does him having the halo make me the threat? Johnny asked. Because you still have the demonic powers, but nothing to hold them in, or filter them. It leaks out of you like a broken faucet, and it leaking out like that was the beacon that Dex used to find you so quickly. Wait, so I am letting demons know where I am every time I use my powers? Izuku asked, freaking out. No, you aren't. Kinsey spoke up. The halo and your unique way of handling it actually mask you, but Johnny is a flare. You don't have the halo either, so shouldn't you also be a risk? Johnny called Kinsey out. No, because I asked God for a trade. I don't have demonic powers. I technically have angelic powers of conducting electricity and telekinesis, so I won't bring more trouble. Johnny stated quiet after that. As much as he enjoyed teaching Izuku, he didn't want to put the boy in harm's way to continue with it. I have no choice then. You can have the next year, but I am dealing with this right now. Fine by me. Kinsey agreed. Wait, how am I supposed to receive a power from someone exactly? Izuku asked. I thought that my situation was completely different. Powers like Philippe's aren't unique and are possible to transfer to other people or duplicate it. The halo is unique, so any powers from it can't be transferred or passed on except the halo itself. All of your abilities that are similar to others that Johnny or Kinsey had are pretty coincidental. Kiki explained. We are here now, Dane announced as he parked the limo in an underground parking garage. I recommend you stay absolutely quiet and keep these on. Dane showed 2 burnt red jackets and full head helmets with blacked out visors, handing one to Kinsey and the other to Johnny. You 2 act like guards till you get to him or something. What about me? I can't really walk right now. Izuku indicated to his heavily bandaged knees. You get this. Dane tossed him a dark red hooded cloak that was way too big for him, with a mask that resembled a corpse way too realistically for Izuku, and Mr. Sunshine agreed to carry you earlier if you were still loopy from the dust, which you are not, but you still can't walk yet. You will be on my back, and the cloak will make you look like a hunch I have. Some demons have deformities like that, Mr. Sunshine added. I will have the mask so I look less like one of us, and I will pretend to be someone wanting business with Mr. Lauren. What does he do down here anyways? Johnny's muffled voice spoke through his helmet. He recreated the syndicate slightly. Dane answered. I have been wanting to speak about a partnership between Alter and him, but this chaos recently doesn't make for good business timing. Get going, everyone. Try to stay quiet and still, Mr. Izuku, Mr. Sunshine said as he picked him up. Remember, he is Belgian, Johnny, Viola added as the group of disguised people were leaving. Johnny made a fake laugh and flipped her off. I believe we have looked through every questionable thing and assortment of weapons your sensei has here, Toshinori called to Nito from the bedroom. Nothing peculiar here has been of any help. Nito cursed. He can't just not find a way to help Izuku. He needed something, and it angered him that he couldn't find it. Are you sure? The skeleton man walked back into the living room area. I can assure you, young man, that everything that is still here we both have gone through. Nito groaned. This couldn't get worse for him. However, I believe my friend you were eavesdropping on has just allowed me to go to the station investigating this and see what they took there to look into. Nito jumped up instantly, new hope instilled in him. Really, he practically yelled with excitement. Yes, but calm down. Toshinori didn't like how this kid kept reminding him of a younger him. You can go in now. Mr. Lauren is in his office. The secretary spoke up to the disguised people in waiting. Thank you. Sorry for such short notice, Mr. Sunshine said in a voice similar to the sound of gravel. The secretary waved him off as he walked to the door, his fake guards in tow. Izuku couldn't wait till he could walk again and not have to be carried around by someone on their back who was a complete stranger to him outside of stories of him being a voodoo freak. Hello, Mr. Lauren, it is nice to meet you this day. It is not a fine day, but nevertheless a new business proposition can always change that. Izuku heard the accent-thick voice of Philippe Lauren from across the room. It did sound French to Izuku slightly, but he has heard everyone correct Johnny enough to remember the man was Belgian. So shall we get right to business, Mr. Gat? Izuku felt the room drop a few degrees. How did Philippe already know that they were who they actually were? Mr. Sunshine tried to save the situation. Please do not take me for such a fool. I can tell that your guard right there is Johnny Gat from the bandaged knee and his posture that suggests his back is not doing so well either. Philippe deduced. Every person in hell right now has heard of the events in the Barrens by now, even with how recent it was. A few Y-stakes from a weapon lying around clearly indicate that either the boy I heard was involved got injured or Johnny is hurt. No one would simply come to me unannounced like this, which tells me you are in a rush. Johnny pulled his helmet off and put back on his cracked sunglasses. You got us. Indeed, but I was merely speculating with confidence. Izuku heard Lauren chuckle. Does that mean the boy is the other guard, or perhaps under this now unnecessary tarp? Mr. Sunshine pulled the cloak off of them and set Izuku down in a chair next to them. Izuku could now see that the office they were in had dark walls he assumed were red bordering on black, with a fireplace that currently had a fire going. A red star was above the fireplace, and it was across from a window looking down on downtown New Hades that spanned the entire wall. Sorry, Mr. Izuku, but no point in me holding you at this moment. So this is the boy. Izuku looked at Philippe Lauren for the first time. He was a man in what looked like his 50s with short, smoothed-back white hair save for a small bit that dropped over his forehead. A bunch of small scars circled around his left eye and upper left cheek. His left eye was replaced with a bright red glass. He wore a dark suit with a red vest and tie with a red scarf hanging around his neck. He doesn't seem like the threat I heard about him being, but looks can always be deceiving. By the way he was carried here and how red his bandages on his knees are, I assume you heard of my healing capability and want me to patch him up. This will definitely lead to an interesting trade. No, Izuku noticed this man could decipher all of it, just sitting there with not many words to go on, and it unnerved him. Actually, we were wondering if you could give him a version of your healing power, Kinsey said as she removed her helmet. Philippe raised his left eyebrow. He removed his cigar from his mouth, letting out the smoke. He spoke. Give him a version of the healing power now? That is an entire different deal altogether. You can see how I have all the reason to call in security for Mr. Gat here, but I doubt things wouldn't variate from how they happened last time we met. Johnny grit his teeth, wanting to punch Philippe's smug ass. However, I can be willing to partake in a trade of sorts, if conditions are met that I agree with. Like what? Izuku asked. Philippe looked at Izuku, none of the spite from his glance at Johnny present. I have no doubt that you are being groomed to be the leader of the new saints of this timeline. I ask that you instead of. Johnny cut him off. He is not being one of your Morning Star. Philippe glared at Johnny. I believe I am making this offer to. I am sorry, what is your name? Izuku Midoriya, said person answered. Yes, as I was saying, I am making this offer to Mr. Midoriya. And I will not appreciate any more rude cutting in like that. Kinsey stepped forward a bit. What is the offer for him? Philippe took a puff of his cigar. I was going to ask that he forms his own syndicate. I care not if the saints are at the helm. All I care is that the Morning Star have a descendant fill in one of the roles. From the way everyone was making a big deal out of this, I assumed it would be harder than that. Mr. Sunshine muttered. I can be civil, and giving the healing to Izuku is something I would do regardless. Why, I am related to 2 of the saints, one of which did damage to you. Izuku was confused why he would be so willing. I am not a monster. At the least I would have healed your ability to walk. I can't simply ignore an injured child. If I am being candid, I do not agree nor get along well the ruler of this place, and giving a power to a descendant of the human he hates the most, even if I hold similar feelings, is something that would benefit me in the mere enjoyment of knowing I did something to anger him. So this is out of spite for Satan. Johnny narrowed his eyes. Yes, we both might not like each other, but we both dislike Satan all the same. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I see us as even in our lives, but Satan's fits of destruction and waging war here is causing my business to not do as well. I do not worry about him finding out. As per his own rules of law here, I am almost untouchable. Philippe stopped to grab a new cigar. As long as you agree to having someone related to a Morning Star from our timeline in your personal circle, young Izuku, I will see that this deal is perfect in my eyes. Izuku mulled it over in his head. It wouldn't be the worst thing. He didn't even have beef with the Morning Star anyways. The person would technically be a saint first and foremost anyways. How will I find them? I believe that this should help you in finding them. Philippe placed down his cigar and pulled a small wooden box out from his desk. He turned it around and opened it, revealing a pendant of the Morning Star's red star. You can see the resemblance of powers in this to that of Alter's pin that Mr. Vogel and Kiki had made. I thought it would be wise to make one myself if my descendants were to become a part in this. It seems like now it was a good idea. No, I can simply put a drop of my on it and it will try to lead you to any persons related to me. It matters not if it were me or another morning star, but I only have my currently available. Philip pulled a small switchblade from his jacket and pricked his finger. Give this to them and the extra healing powers I will store in it. Izuku nodded. Is that when I get the full healing? I would normally say yes, but seeing as how you are bound for getting yourself in situations of danger as is what the saints do, I think it would be my best interest to do it now if you agree to all of these terms. I agree. Izuku nodded. I'm just confused because everyone said you wouldn't be one to make deals with kids. Not a proper businessman in that sense, but however we are in a peculiar situation seeing as how your relative and I don't get along. I'm also related to him. Kinsey jumped in. If that is so, then it is too late to be the representative of young Midoriya as the deal just finished being made. Philip stood up and walked around to Izuku. Channel whatever power you have to its base form and I can begin to mesh a duplicate of my healing power to you. Izuku nodded and the lines of purple and green appeared all over his body. It shall only take the smallest of moments. Philip held his left arm that was not holding his cigar to Izuku's and a pinkish red light flowed from his hand to Izuku. Izuku's lines all pulsed and a tinge of the light's color appeared in both sets of lines, dissolving as Philip's hand stopped glowing. It is finished. The healing is manual the first few times, but then it will become automatic and speed up a bit as it is used more. You can alter the healing speed manually yourself, but it takes the utmost concentration and it can leave you tired if you use it too much, as it does pull somewhat on your own body's power as well. You can also use it on someone else, but that can leave you both tired and drained. Please make sure to explain this to the new Morning Star. Izuku nodded. Got it. He then focused on trying to heal his knees, feeling as bone and muscle began to mesh themselves slowly back together. This is weird. He stopped at what he felt was 1/4 of the way through as his eyes started to feel heavy. So this was nice, but don't knock yourself out, Izuku. Johnny grumbled. Can you stand yet? Izuku yawned. I doubt it. Maybe doing this 1 or 2 more times should be good. Proficiency should increase with time. Philip placed the box with the star in Izuku's hands. The star will bind itself to whoever accepts it, much like your halo. It will glow brighter the closer you are to them, but will feel like a pull far away in their direction. So how do we get him back to Earth? Kinsey asked Johnny. No normal way is working because of Satan right now. Johnny thought for a second. Shit, we didn't think this all through. I believe that you can force open a portal in the Barrens if what I have heard to be true. It is extremely difficult to do and I shrug it off as a rumor, but I believe the ruler out there should know more on it. Philip answered as he sat back down in his chair. This was a good meeting, Izuku, and I hope to hear good things about this new syndicate, whether it becomes like the crime groups before it or a new entity. A group of demons flew past the window. Mr. Sunshine spoke. I believe that Satan might be moving his search to this area now. I have an express elevator to the parking garage from here. Try not to get crushed by any large objects on your exit. Philip pressed a button and an elevator opened. If I didn't hate you, I would laugh at that, Johnny said. Upon exiting the elevator, Izuku spoke from under the cloak. How are we going to get back? The rumor from Lauren is our first option. Kinsey led the way back to where the limo was. I have some faith that the nerd is going to get us out, Johnny said. By now he knows that shit is had and will be searching for a way to bring us back. I hope so. Izuku really hoped his friend would come through. Hunches do not have voices, Mr. Sunshine stated. Izuku immediately shut his mouth. Hey, worthy is the limo? Johnny questioned as he stood in the spot they left the vehicle at. They must have left. Mr. Sunshine put a hand on his machete. Or something is wrong. Guys, Kinsey called out as she held up a paper. Everyone gathered on her to see what it was. Because of the demons, they had to leave to not attract attention to us. A Cinderpaw limo would be questioned to help look for us or believed to be tracking us here. Wait, so the demoness know we are here now? Johnny pulled out his handgun. Bad time for me not to have the sword. I doubt that the demons know we are exactly right here, or else we would be surrounded right now. Kinsey channeled here electricity to surround her. But still can't be too careful. Sunshine, do you think you can fight with Izuku on your back? Johnny asked. It will be a hindrance, but I can manage. Mr. Sunshine pulled out his machete. I can throw some of my green blasts to help, Izuku offered, channeling some for preparation. If we come to fighting, that will help. Mr. Sunshine nodded. Now why would there be fighting? A cold voice with malice spoke from behind them. They all turned to see one of Satan's legionnaires with 10 grunts behind him, all aiming their rifles at the 4 humans. You can come willingly so that we can punish you earlier. Yeah, you. Johnny shot a demon in the face. Okay, everything should be in here, Kashinori said as he fed on the lights to the room that Tsukachi left the stuff out in for them to look at. He said there wasn't much. Just the tech pistol, a Ouija board that had holes in it, and some of that goop. Ouija board? Nito felt the sea in his brain as he remembered how Johnny told them he was originally ed into hell. That's it, that's what I need. Kashinori did a double take. Why the Ouija board? Nito rushed over to the board. He took it out of the plastic bag it was in and put its piece back on it. He placed his hand on the piece. You remember Johnny got right. Who Toshinori got confused. Was this boy really believing that those boards worked? He seemed smarter than that. Toshinori's eyes opened wider as he saw Nito take his hand off of the piece and it move over the yes. Do you know where he is? Nito asked as it moved on its own over 3 letters. H, E, and L. Can you bring him and my friend back? It moved over the yes. Will you do it now? It moved over the no. What? Why? It moved across the board again. Toshinori watched as it started to spell a word. S, then A, then T, back to A. Then it stopped on N. Good Lord Satan, Toshinori thought that this boy must be trying to mess with him or something bad is happening. What is happening, young man? Toshinori asked. Nito ignored him and spoke to the board again. I don't care about him and you shouldn't either. Give me my friends back. The board moved over to the no again. Toshinori saw a vein pop out on the boy. Nito immediately pulled out the alien pistol the police took. Give them back before I make what Sensei did to you look like a joke. Toshinori went to grab the pistol from the boy. Has he lost his mind? Young man, calm down. Toshinori tried to wrestle the gun from him without using his quirk. Nito moved away from him and channeled his orange cloak to cover him and the gun saved for the barrel. Let me save my friend, Nito snapped at Toshinori. He pointed the gun at the board. You hated what Johnny did to you, so you are going to despise me. Toshinori watched as the board started to spell out a phrase. Toshinori didn't know what was weirder about this situation, a boy holding laser gun to an old board threatening it, or the board that replied by spelling out try me. Okay, let's do this. Nito shot at once, putting a small burned hole through the S and yes. Want to help now? Nito didn't move the gun away from the board. The board moved its piece to the yes. Nito grinned. Good, open your portal thing and bring them here. What Toshinori saw next would be the beginning of what he would later call back on as the biggest headache of his life. The Legionnaire grinned once Johnny shit the grunt beside him. I love when they resist. Izuku, throw a green blast at the Legionnaire. You'll love us then, ugly. Nice one, kid. Gat shot another demon. Mr. Sunshine, I know you said you would be fine, but toss him my way. I can't be mobile as much anyways. Mr. Sunshine nodded and gave Izuku to Johnny while Kenzie stopped interference. I can't wait till I can kick them myself. Izuku threw another blast once he got on Johnny's back. Sunshine, you should go help the others if you can find them. Johnny jumped back to avoid the Legionnaire's swing. Izuku threw a purple blast at it to back the Legionnaire up, the blast hitting it point blank and in its right eye. AGH, the Legionnaire screamed as the blast dissipated to reveal the eye being completely burned away and purple marks covering the right side of its face. You little bastard, the Legionnaire snarled. Don't talk to your genitals like that. Izuku decided to be annoying. Good one, kid, but don't push him too much. Johnny moved them farther away. Not noticing a portal open behind him. Johnny, a portal. Kenzie tried to pull Johnny and Izuku away from the portal, but it ended up being her in as well. What the hell? Toshinori exclaimed as a fiery orange portal similar to what he heard of happening earlier that day opened in front of him. Suddenly 3 people fell through it. What is going on? Izuku, Nito yelled. Where are we? The man Toshinori recognized as Johnny looked around as he picked up Izuku. Careful, a red-headed woman yelled as she pushed Johnny and Izuku farther away from the portal as what Toshinori could describe as a literal demon erupted through the portal right before it disappeared. You can't escape me that easily, mortals, the demon roared as it attempted to attack Johnny. Toshinori couldn't stay in his malnourished form anymore and activated his, turning into All Might. You shall harm no one here, demon, because I am here, Toshinori, or All Might bellowed as he charged the demon. All Might, both boys in the room asked in shock. The Legionnaire was strong. This was no question, as it could take a couple hits from All Might at his 100% strength. Step away, mortal, the demon snarled at Toshinori. This does not concern you. I disagree. Toshinori punched the demon through a wall and outside of the building. Anytime an innocent is being threatened, justice will be there to protect them. Whoop his ass, All Might, Toshinori heard the green-haired boy Izuku shout. Toshinori wasn't ready to be punched with almost equal strength to his own and was knocked off his feet. Toshinori got back to his feet as the demonic thing shot past him and towards Johnny. Off you burnt shit. Johnny charged a punch at the demon's face, which barely made it flinch with the little amount of power he can use. The Legionnaire returned the punch, leaving Johnny barely conscious and having a broken nose. Become paste when you hit the ground. The Legionnaire threw Johnny into the air with incredible force. Johnny Kenzie attempted to launch herself into the air, but the Legionnaire charged her. All Might was about to jump himself into the air to go save the man, but a purple and green blur flew past him. Izuku flew through the air, catching up to Johnny with incredible speed, his legs screaming after he forced his half-healed legs to channel a super jump. Izuku caught up to Johnny and quickly grabbed onto his midsection. I got you, Grandpa, Izuku yelled over the whipping wind. How are you going to land, brat? Johnny groaned out. I didn't get that far. Izuku gulped. Izuku felt like he should have been freaking out, but he noticed something. He was slowing down, but the ground and buildings weren't getting closer at all. What happened? Johnny looked down and noticed how they were almost floating. Johnny looked up to see someone that made his jaw drop, before it turned into a grin. Hell of a time to get your wings, Izuku. What Izuku shouted as he turned his head to his side to see a wing almost as big as him flapping and keeping him hovering. The feathers and wings overall were a dark emerald green, but the feathers on the ends were all covered in a soft dark violet fire. He suddenly felt the feelings of the wings almost as if they were adapting into actual muscles in his body. The flapping almost felt as natural as opening and closing his hands, or walking. I got wings, he exclaimed with happiness. Nice job, kid. Now get us to the ground so I don't have to worry about you dropping me. Toshinori grappled the demon to the ground. Cease your violence, he slammed the demon's head down. Hold him still, the small red head ordered Toshinori as she grabbed the pistol from Nito and started unloading into the demon's head. The demon suddenly burst into more red goop that burned Toshinori slightly. What just happened? Toshinori asked as he stood up, looking at the red-headed woman who bagged up the Ouija board. Who are you? Nito asked her as she bagged up the board. Hi, I am Izuku's great-great-great-great-grandmother. She answered him. That is for using the board and bringing us back. Thank you. Nito was confused. Wait, you're Aisha. She looked at Nito with annoyance. No, I'm Kinsey Kensington. Though, Nito seemed to take that as enough of an explanation, but Toshinori wasn't satisfied. What is going on? Toshinori coughed as he dropped his All Might form, dropping the form to get the goop off of him. What is going on with you? Nito looked like he was going through enough shock to pass out. Hey guys, Izuku announced as he lowered himself to the ground holding Johnny. I got my wings, Izuku yelled in excitement as his feet touched the ground. Cool man. Nito forgot all about his shock over All Might to run up to his friend. Can we stay focused on explaining this all? Toshinori asked. Where's All Might? Izuku asked. That's me. Toshinori turned back into All Might with a puff of smoke covering him. And you all have a lot of explaining to do. Soon All Might had all 4 people in an interrogation room sitting across the table from him. All Might looked at Gat, whose nose looked like it has healed quicker than normal in the past couple of minutes. What was that thing? Johnny glared at All Might, clearly not wanting to give a word to him. Kinsey spoke up instead. A legionnaire. Gat snapped his head to Kinsey. Don't tell him shit. Kinsey shot a look at Johnny. Do you want Izuku to get in massive trouble for this? If we at least explain everything, he might be fine. That shut Johnny up. But he still wouldn't speak to All Might, clearly hating the situation they were in. What do you mean by legionnaire? Was it part of some army or group? All Might asked Kinsey, seeing as how she would be the only adult who would answer him. Can you keep massive secrets? Kinsey asked. I don't think you are in the area to request something like that. It's all an interconnected plot that needs to be kept secret because the information being known can be dangerous for these two. Kinsey gestured to Nito and Izuku, who was listening intently but also examining his wings. All Might studied Kinsey's face. If it is as you say, then I guess I must listen before I decide. You might want to get comfortable because this is a long story, Kinsey stated as she began to tell him about the task God laid out to Johnny 4 years prior for Izuku. What do you mean he escaped? Satan roared at the guard he just obliterated. A new guard took the dead one's spot. Sire, a portal was registered as opening in the area that the missing squad was searching, the new guard said nervously. Satan grit his teeth. How can this one mortal cause his to boil so intensely even when it is reported that the damned bastard was heavily injured and carrying around a crippled child? The child is gone too, Satan questioned as he continued down the path back to his palace. It seems likely. A husk that was nearby when they first entered the barrens said that when the child for hurt, the man lost control and snapped on your agent. The guard really hoped he wouldn't be next to get blown to bits. Satan smashed the door to his palace open. Perhaps the child could be a way to hurt that blasted man. How crippled was the child exactly? From the rumors, it seems the child had lost the ability to move around on his own, having to be carried around by people. That did sound like a promising blow to the moral of his enemy. Satan mused, sending another squad out into the mortal realm, but squashed that thought completely. As much as he wanted that bastard to suffer, he couldn't waste his people right now, and God no doubt is currently blocking pathways between hell and earth. My lord, if I may. The guard broke Satan from his thoughts. The war and plots against this mortal have all been disastrous, and it has been lowering moral and opinions as of late. Satan glared at the guard he could easily erase from existence. Get to your point. I was going to say perhaps it would be best to ignore going after him anymore. His time must surely be up soon, and that means that he would be watchful and prepared for anything. I believe it would be best to ignore the mortal and fix standings here in your realm. Satan had half a mind to just destroy his guard for saying he would continue to fail. But the insect did have a point in how it would be pointless and better to just reclaim his kingdom, as hard as that would be. The mortal having lasting effects on the status quo of hell. Perhaps you are right. Satan fell into his throne, thinking of how he shouldn't have kidnapped that mortal's boss in the first place. So is everyone all right now? Dane asked as he entered the hideout. Vlad successfully defended his castle thanks to Piers, who is still there before he has to go back up. Shakespeare is also fine thanks to Shandi, who is waiting to go back up as well. Kiki reported. Do we know where Johnny and them are? Sadly, we don't. I couldn't find anything in my contacts after we had to get lost. Dane didn't like that they completely lost trace of Johnny's group. A voice spoke from the doorway. They are okay and safe. It was Mr. Sunshine covered in some demon. We encountered a squad that was completely taken care of by me after a portal opened, and the 3 of them are back in the mortal realm. How can we be sure it isn't Satan who opened that one? Vile asked. Dane shook his head. Satan would have come out of it to squash them there. He wouldn't waste time to wait for Johnny. We could just use the fire pit to try to talk to them, Kiki stated. They are safe. Mr. Sunshine shook his head. The whispers tell me so, stronger than they have whispered to me in the past. Let's have the benefit of the doubt here and have faith that they are back on Earth. We can listen through the G-Vine to hear if Satan has them. All Might felt a headache. He assumed when they got defensive at first it was because they were average criminals who had child experiments. Not this whole timeline spout and God and a cursed halo. AMD, that brings us to when we got sent back here. Kinsey finished. All Might rubbed his eyes. I can see why you would want this secret if it were true. No small amount of bad people would want young Midoriya. Izuku, who was holding a green feather that had a small amount of purple flames on it, blushed, being called out by his favorite hero and one-time idol, Johnny, having replaced him in the latter. I can promise to keep the truth of that silent, and I will tell the police that this man was in contact with someone who gave him multiple quirks to finish a feud with Gat. Izuku was relieved no one was going to be in big trouble. However, Izuku felt he had spoken too soon when All Might began again. I will be overseeing these 2 for a few months as a probation for both of them violating the quirk usage laws in public. Midoriya for participating in the earlier scene, and Monoma for his disturbance with the board. Even if you boys had the right intentions, you must operate within the law. So I will be making sure you understand that. Izuku didn't feel impending doom from that and that it would be fine. You both will report here following classes on Monday, and I will have you submit new quirk registries to be more honest about what abilities you have without their origins. Kinsey nodded for them. That will be fine. Johnny, who hasn't spoken since before Kinsey started explaining their situation, spoke up. So can we leave now? All Might nodded. That is fine, but I require a word with young Monoma first. All Might wasn't surprised to see that Izuku didn't budge from his spit beside Nito, causing the adults to not leave as well. Young Monoma, today I saw a spark in you that made me think I found something I have been searching for recently. Nito's eyes were wide with confusion. What? You spent all evening since this event happened searching relentlessly for any chance to help your friend. Even when you had no idea of what it was, you still kept pushing yourself. You did commendable as well, young Midoriya, but this just to Monoma. Would you like to become my successor? All Might could hear a pin drop with how quiet the boys were. Successor? Nito's mind tripped. Did the number 1 hero just ask him to be his successor? All Might released his hold on his quirk in powered state, returning to looking close to his skeleton. Yes, my successor. You see, my quirk is also a power with a large secret like Midoriya's halo. It is called One for All, and it can be passed down unlike any quirk before it, stockpiling power as it goes through possessors, getting stronger with each person that holds it. Toshinori paused to let it sink in. Nito absorbing the information. I believe you are meant to be a strong person who will help Midoriya carry his burden, and this will help you as you do it. Nito didn't react till Izuku shook his shoulders. Dude, you gotta take this. All Might's successor. Izuku was proud of his friend and not even slightly jealous. Nito shakily asked a question. Why not Izuku? He is the one who fought someone out of his leg and faced on being in hell. He didn't crack in his bad situation, and all I did was run around breaking into crime scenes and threatening a board. All Might could see the subtle jealousy Nito had for his best friend. The one who had a strong power and a clear high place to shoot for in life he would no doubt get. Young Monoma, you broke the rules to help a friend in need, same as Midoriya. You held on to hope of the best outcome even though you know it was a slim shot. I believe you are just as strong as Midoriya. That seemed to make Nito better. And every strong person needs an equally strong ally and friend to help them when they can't do it alone. Nito nodded vigorously. I accept. I will become your successor. That is wonderful news. We will go over it more on Monday, but for now you all should head home while I explain the situation and end this investigation. Izuku walked into his apartment. Having been helped home by Johnny and Kinsey, he knew he would need help with his mom. Mom, I'm back. Izuku got tackled by his mother. Izuku, baby, are you okay? His mom death gripped him in a tight hug. Yes, I'm fine now. Izuku felt embarrassed with his 2 ancestors standing awkwardly in the doorway. Gat-sensei protected me. You had my back as well, kid. Johnny pat his back. Sorry, Ms. Midoriya, for any panic this has caused you. I'm just glad he is okay. Inko lessened how tightly she held Izuku. And then she noticed the wings that were silently hanging off of her son's back. Izuku, you have wings. Yeah, I got them saving Gat-sensei, Izuku stated happily. Are they permanent? Do I have to get you new clothes to make room for them? Inko didn't know if they had enough money to afford that. He should be able to make them disappear like a light switch. Kinsey stepped forward. Hello, I'm another one of his ancestors. Kinsey Kensington. Inko Midoriya. Inko lowered her head. At least this ancestor seemed civil and not foul-mouthed. Like a light switch, Izuku asked. Imagine using your power to make them back into you. Kinsey nodded. It's the opposite to bring them out. Just use your power and push them back out. Got it. Izuku nodded and tried pulling the wings back into the halo. He felt a tug on his shoulder blades and his stomach twisted. He felt the weight of his wings disappear. First try, Kinsey acknowledged. At least you have excellent control. Not at first. He tried to do a blast one time and instead super jumped on accident. Johnny chuckled. Power went the wrong way. Kinsey had a small smile at that part. Can I see your plans for the next year? Yes, sure, let's get out of here. Johnny led Kinsey out of the household into his destroyed apartment. Sorry for what you had to go through today, Mom. Izuku could imagine the freakout she had when she saw him on the news. Honey, once I saw Nito here with determination in his eyes, I knew it would be all right. Didn't stop me from freaking out, but it at least kept me together. Inko squeezed Izuku tightly for a second and let go, feeling bad as he almost toppled over. Izuku stopped himself from hitting the ground by grabbing the wall. Sorry, my legs aren't really good right now. Izuku didn't want to tell his mom how that happened, but he knew it would be inevitable. Inko guided her son to the couch. This doesn't look like something from the news, so it happened after the portal thing. Yes, the guy shot my knees because I kept defending Grandpa. He wanted me to just stay down. Izuku started to leak some healing power into his knees. Not enough to do anything significant at first, but at least speed things along. What happened to him? Inko had a feeling Johnny had something to do with the next part. I don't recall well because I was really disoriented, but I think Gramps went berserk on him. I also got a healing power from someone in a deal. Inko sighed. How many deals are you going to make with these people exactly? What was this deal? He just wanted me to have his line be an ally, so I have to find who this goes to. Izuku showed the small case from Philippe to his mom. Does it have a way to find them? Inko opened the box and looked at the star. He said it would feel like a tug in their direction, but up close to them it should glow. Are you going to search for this person immediately? Inko really didn't want her son to leave for who knows where after the last couple of hours he has had in his current state. Izuku shook his head. I think it would be best to wait for now and try to just work on myself to make sure I am prepared after this next year. Inko liked that answer. She stood up and at her son's head. Okay, go to sleep soon. You have had enough excitement for a day. All right, I'm just going to stay here. Izuku plopped onto his side on the couch, eager to sleep after the night he had. The next morning, Johnny and Kinsey brought the boys to the beach. The boys were confused why they were asked to come there by text, but came regardless. Everyone had to hate Nito, however, because he had lost his phone the day before. Now, normally I would complain about you boys not being at church or Bible study or whatever since it is Sunday. But I have something to say. Johnny had the boys sit in the sand while he sat on a broken-down car. First off, I am proud as shit of your improvement from little weaklings to brats I would have been proud of seeing in the original Saints. Especially you, Izuku, seeing as how you beat that cunt Dex's ass and helped in hell. Johnny got off of the fridge and got the boys to their feet, Izuku using crutches and having braces on his knees until they healed all the way. So as I see it, given the power by the boss, you are the new leader of the 3rd Street Saints. Gat did a slow chopping motion over both of Izuku's shoulders. You got your wings, beat up a traitor and taunted a demon that wanted you dead. I believe you will make the best comeback for the Saints however you deem fit. Izuku had tears of joy building up in his eyes, his idol congratulating him and making him the leader of his idol's timeline's greatest heroes. Johnny grabbed a box from the car. I have to leave today sadly, but I did get to ask God for some last-minute gifts to you. Izuku did a double take. Wait, you have to leave? Why? My power has a dangerous leak, kid. I'm a beacon for trouble and I can't let myself bring that to you. Don't worry, Kinsey will take over until you take those entrance exams for UA. And you brats will be set to show the world the Saints. Now let me open the box. Johnny opened the box to show an almost identical copy of Johnny's sunglasses, but with green lenses. These are a magic set that will bind themselves to you, brat. Basically, if you lose them, they will take a sec and boom, back on your face in perfect condition. I charged some of my power into it so it should boost your already stupidly high strength and give you some coolness to your look. I also asked that you can charge them to change into goggles. That way when you are flying you can see everything and not worry about shit in your eyes. Johnny handed him the sunglasses and Izuku put them on, grinning. Johnny pulled out a golden chain necklace from the box that had the purple pendant fleur-de-lis Saints. Same deal about it going to bind itself to you. Also will make your strength better and it will mostly be to represent Saints' pride and all that. Izuku happily put the necklace on. Thanks, Grandpa. The boy beamed. Remember that the Saints are about loyalty. We might be some unpleasant people with foul mouths, violent tendencies, and a bit stronger love for guns than regular people, but we always have each other's back. A bright golden yellow door appeared behind Johnny. That's my cue. Make the Saints proud, brat. Johnny turned to leave, but Izuku wrapped his arms around the man in a hug. I'll take you, proud Grandpa. Izuku let get of Johnny. I know you will, Johnny said as he walked through the doorway. Johnny didn't want to leave the kid who he had come attached to. Johnny was already proud of having that kid as his descendant and knew he would only rise from there. Once the doorway disappeared, Kinsey got the boy's attention. Johnny left me his journal for the next year. He wanted you both to work on what you know and perfect them as much as you can. Nito, this changes for you because that guy All Might wants to make you his successor, and Izuku, I want to teach you to at least be able to deal with some technological stuff on your own. Plus your wings means you need to be comfortable flying and summoning them whenever you need them. Both boys nodded. So what are we doing today? If you want, Izuku, I will give you some blueprints to that Zin pistol I have, and I want you to study them because as a final test before this year is up, I want you to build your own fully functional pistol like that. You don't want to have instant kill, which is fine, but you have to be able to defend yourself and make weapons on the fly. Because you never know if things could momentarily stop you from using the halo. Besides that, I have nothing else to add to Johnny's schedule for you too. You should take today off anyways so you can practice your healing power on your legs, Izuku. Alright, thanks Grandma. Izuku happily took the blueprints, but suddenly felt a dark feeling sink in. He saw a glare on Kinsey's face. Do not call me Grandma, Kinsey snapped at Izuku. Sorry, Izuku quickly shot out before she got madder. You will call me Mima, and that's final, young man, Kinsey ordered her descendant. Izuku didn't want to push her more. Okay, Mima. Kinsey instantly had a warm smile. Thanks, now you two go relax before you meet me and All Might tomorrow. She shooed them off as she turned to tinker with the debris on the beach. Once they got far enough away, Nito looked to Izuku and whispered, Izuku, your Mima is scary as hell. I know, that was scarier than being in hell. Izuku nodded. They both went to Izuku's to wait out their last day before their last year before UA. It was close to raining the next day as Izuku stepped out of his apartment with the crutches in hand. Nito was outside of his building with an unopened umbrella in hand. Not bringing your umbrella, Izuku? Nito asked as he kept a slow pace to stay beside his green-haired friend. Hey, I have my jacket and I can always hold a purple blast in my hand to warm up. Izuku shrugged. Should you really keep the sunglasses on at school, I would at least place them on my shirt. Nito indicated to the glasses Johnny gave Izuku that Nito was sure he never took off because of how much Izuku treasured the man. I can claim I need them. Still haven't filled out my quirk registry yet. Izuku countered. Do you have the paper with you? Nito had updated a new paper for his quirk that he would turn in when they would meet with All Might and Izuku's crazy grandmother. Izuku nodded. In the bag. Figured I can fill it out during class when I zone out. Might as well make use of that time. Did you mention everything like he asked you to? Izuku referred to All Might. He will get mad if I didn't. You should mention everything also, and if the attendant questions you, just say you got so excited that when you first got it you spent every minute awake trying to study. Nito opened the front door of the school for Izuku, who thanked him silently as he made his way into the building. Do you know how long you will need the crutches? Shouldn't even be the rest of this week. I used it too hard when I first got the healing and I'm just nudging it at this point so I don't get tired. Even if I pass out, we thankfully have the same class so you can prevent people from writing on my face. Did they do that before? Nito didn't remember Izuku saying anything like that has happened. Nope, but I would like to keep it that way. Did you fill out your application to UA? They entered their classroom for the year that was empty save for the teacher. Yes, I can't believe you filled out yours before your quirk registry. Nito sat beside Izuku in the back of the classroom. Izuku rolled his shoulders. Well, excuse me for trying to figure out what the blue stuff does first. You have been trying for a couple of months. I don't think it is meant to leave your body when you use it. That's probably why it fizzles out as soon as you aren't in contact with it. Nito offered advice. Izuku rubbed his chin. Perhaps that's why you are the idea man here. Izuku would have said more, but at that moment he heard someone he disliked enter the room. Katsuki Bakugo. Hey Nito, that's him. Izuku whispered to Nito, who has never seen Bakugo before. Nito saw Bakugo and shrugged. Looks like an ass just like you said. Izuku chuckled. Yep. Wait, do you think he or anyone else knows it was me on the news set? Izuku didn't want attention from these people that picked on him in the past. Luckily, Bakugo sat down 3 rows in front of them on the other side of the room, not noticing them. Probably. Not that any people with green hair, but they might have not noticed it yet because of the recent debut of Mount Lady, who stopped a crime earlier Saturday yesterday. Ah yes, thickness saved me. Izuku nodded. Thick thighs do save lives. Stop talking. Nito sometimes questions why Ms. Midoriya let Johnny influence Izuku as much as he had. Alright class. Their teacher called everyone's attention to the front. The teacher cleared his throat and held a pile of papers. It's time for us to discuss your career paths. Izuku wanted to mentally check out. This last year of junior high will be the last mandatory year of school for some of you. Some of you might want to go into the workforce straight away, while some of you might want to go on to high school and maybe even university afterwards. So I'm going to pass out these survey sheets for each of you to fill out, and then the teacher cut himself off and chuckled. Oh, who am I kidding? You all want to follow the hero track anyway, right? Following that question, every person save for Nito, Izuku and Bakugo set off their quirks to show their excitement about going for the hero course. Izuku groaned at the loud noise. Is healing he was doing giving him a headache? Don't they enforce the quirk usage rule here? Nito asked Izuku, who shook his head and mouthed slightly. Settle down, class. Remember, quirks can't be used in the classroom, the teacher said with very little authority behind that sentence, clearly not caring. It's not like it matters for these extras. Bakugo spoke up. I'm the only one here who has what it takes to get to the top. Izuku looked at Nito and mouthed, get a load of this guy. Some of their classmates started to show their disagreement with Bakugo's words, while Bakugo set off a small explosion in his palm. Quiet, rejects. None of you even got a halfway decent score on the mock UA exams. While I aced it, that shows you are extras. Did we forget to take it? Izuku whispered to Nito. Nito whispered back, Gatsensei had us busy that day. Alright, I'm going to play solitaire then. Izuku pulled a deck out of his pocket. The teacher looked at Bakugo. Ah yes, Bakugo, you are going for UA. Correct. Of course. Bakugo scoffed. A top school for a top dog. I believe Midoriya and Monoma also have applications to UA. The whole class turned to face Izuku and Nito. What? Izuku asked, showing that he stopped paying attention to the whole class altogether. You're what? Bakugo turned to Izuku in a surprisingly quieter manner than was expected. You got in. I got an application filled in, Izuku answered. Bakugo had a look of confusion but just turned to face the front after a second. He would talk to Izuku about this later. Midoriya, please put away the cards, the teacher asked, and Izuku complied. Also make sure to fill out that sheet by the end of the week. Got it, Yotaro-sensei. Izuku put the cards away. Izuku stretched his arms behind himself and rolled his shoulders. Man, I can't stand classes anymore. Everything feels so boring, he said to Nito as they left the school for the day. Everything seems uninteresting because we already learned this 2 years ago. Nito did agree that school was the uninteresting part of the day. Bakugo wasn't as bad as he was made out to be. Yeah, he was surprisingly less Bakugo compared to usual. You also seem more like sensei, the blonde remarked. More on timeline of you will just do your own thing. I guess the weekend with Grandpa made me more like him with my humor and attitude, Izuku guessed. I filled out my sheet in class, except I don't know how to explain the wings or if I should mention them. All might saw them, so you should. Nito really didn't want his friend to tick off the man that could F them into the stratosphere. Oi, Midoriya. The two turned to see Katsuki Bakugo walking up to them. Can we talk? Izuku lowered his sunglasses. About what? First off, I should apologize for being a... Katsuki stated. Izuku looked confused. Really? I haven't done this before, so don't interrupt me, Katsuki snapped. I saw you on the news the other night. There is no way it was anyone else but you. I am not doing this as a way to get closer to someone else who is strong. I am just now aware you aren't that same wimp I bullied. I shouldn't have been like that. Did you have a life-changing event this weekend too? Izuku asked. Katsuki had an eye twitch. No, I just realized I wasn't as superior as I thought I was and it made me reflect. He then looked at Izuku's legs. That didn't happen on the news. Yeah, it happened after the portal. Where did you even go? The forest to the north, Nito answered before Izuku had the chance to mess up a lie. As long as you are okay now, I guess. Katsuki paused. When you are recovered, I want to see that quirk you have. I don't know how you have one now suddenly. Maybe it just took a while to show up, but I want to see it if you don't mind. Izuku nodded. I guess if you are really sorry, I can show off my cooler tricks when I have my knees back. Cooler, the explosive blonde shouted before he took a breath. We'll just have to see who is cooler then. See you, Midoriya, preppy kid. Katsuki walked away. Preppy kid. Nito looked at Izuku in confusion. Maybe he thinks you are cool looking. Izuku shrugged as he used the crutches to begin walking again. I don't think it is that. Yeah, you look like a nerd. You look like a hoodlum. You love the look, don't lie. At the police station, All Might was waiting outside with Kinsey. He was in his skeletal man-looking form and holding a binder similar to Kinsey's. Could you boys are here a few minutes early? Toshinori was glad that they did show up because he felt like Kinsey was asking too many questions about history that he admittedly didn't know. I filled out my quirk registration form. Izuku gave him the sheet that had all of his information on his powers. I mentioned a power that I still don't know how to use but what I have for it so far. All Might looked at the sheet that held parts of a big secret, musing how he had to beat around a bush for his own registration when he received one for all. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Quirk name, Saint's Flow. Abilities. When activating quirk, user gains 2 sets of glowing lines that loosely resemble a nervous system all over body. One set is lime green while the other is a dark violet. Super strength that gradually increases. Unknown limit but allows to jump around at incredible distances. Increased durability as result. Can channel more energy to attacks to give more power, but can result in pain or injury for user. Super speed that gradually increases. Currently can run at max speed of 100 km per hour. Healing ability. Can focus energy to heal self faster and others but can leave person tired after. Can give headaches if used too much. Blast. Charges up energy that user can throw like a projectile with different effects. Green blast. Energy forms into a green that when it is thrown breaks upon impact with force and sends a small shockwave of force that pushes everything slightly away from where it hits. Purple blast. Energy forms into a purple surrounded by purple flames. Flames do not burn user and burn out in a flash once blast impacts something. Flames disappear instantly but do burn anything near where the blast impacts. Blue energy that can be held like a solid object but so far unknown how to use. Energy dissipates instantly once direct contact with user is broken. Wings. User has a pair of wings that can be materialized with a flow of energy or vice versa. Wings are green in color and most feathers have small purple flames that are mostly harmless but give feathers a burnt appearance. Wings have own senses of feeling that user gains instantly. Wingspan is 6 meters. This is very thorough analysis of your abilities. May I ask why you named it Saints Flow? Toshinori asked Izuku. I thought it would be neat to name it after a soda. Izuku's face was turning red. Never heard of it, Toshinori said and instantly felt dumb because he knew this kid got powers from another timeline from people called Saints. Tell me about this unnamed ability. I can make blue stuff happen in my hand but I don't know what to do with it. I can't fling it so it isn't a new blast. Izuku made a pulsing of blue energy form in his hand. I haven't gained much progress with it. Try thinking of molding it like clay into something, Kinsey suggested. Izuku wondered why he didn't think of that before and pictured it turning into a base bat and willed the blue energy to do that. Izuku felt an eye twitch as the energy formed into a perfect base bat of blue energy. It was extremely light and felt like it had good structure to hit something with. Are you kidding me? 1 minute with it and you figure out something I couldn't in months? Kinsey smirked. Maybe you just needed your Meemaw. Maybe I'm just stupid. Izuku then formed the energy into a rope. Hey Nito, tug one end. Nito tugged on one end of the rope as hard as he could and the rope acted just like an actual rope. So I can make things that are solid. He wrote down the word mold over his old notes. I will study it more and then update my registry. Toshinori nodded. Let's turn these in for now before I tell you my updates to your schedule. Toshinori was both happy and irritated with what he just learned. He wanted to make the boys learn of volunteering and how not all heroism is spent in the spotlight, and how it is just giving back and helping with everyday problems. His plan was to make them spend the next year cleaning up a trashed beach near where they lived, but it turned out that they have been training at that beach for 4 years. They also had cleaned it up somewhat but still left enough trash to remain unseen. It was good that they had started early, but now it meant that they would finish that part of his schedule for them early. Now he had to rearrange stuff to keep them active. Izuku had summoned his wings and was poking the flames on a feather. So what is the game plan? Well, I was here to train you and I didn't really know as much about Nito being here, but All Might taking him as a student makes it easier for us to just split the time you both have into one-on-one classes with us for the training and teachings, your specific powers and skill. Kinsey stopped herself from full-on ranting the plan. Yes, I will train young Monoma in what I feel will prepare him for my quirk, and Miss Kensington will train young Midoriya in his skills she wants him to have. Any questions? Toshinori asked the boys. No sir, Nito said with seriousness. Toshinori then used one for all and turned into his muscular form. Let's go, plus ultra. Quirk name, Saints Flow. Abilities. When activating quirk, Izuku gains 2 sets of glowing lines that loosely resemble a nervous system all over body. One set is lime green while the other is a dark violet. Super strength. Unknown limit but allows to jump around at incredible distances. Increased durability as result. Can channel more energy to attacks to give more power, but can result in pain or injury for Izuku. Super speed. Currently can run at max speed of 110 km per hour. Healing ability. Can focus energy to heal self faster and others but can leave the Izuku as used on tired after. Can give headaches if used too much in a short time. Blast. Charges up energy that user can throw like a projectile with different effects. Green blast. Energy forms into a green that when it is thrown breaks upon impact with force and sends a small shockwave of force that pushes everything slightly away from where it hits. Supercharged green blast. Izuku forces more energy into a green blast that can multiply its effect. Can strain his arm and make his arm unusable for a bit of strain too hard. Purple blast. Energy forms into a purple surrounded by purple flames. Flames do not burn user and burn out in a flash once blast impacts something. Flames disappear instantly but do burn anything near where the blast impacts. Supercharged purple blast. Izuku forces more energy into a purple blast that can multiply its effects. If used too often in a short span, it too overloaded with energy can lead to danger for burning his arms. Mold. Blue energy that can be held like a solid object and molded into many things. Dense but lightweight. Can be used to bring things closer to Izuku or swing from object to object. If used for too long or the mold takes damage, can lead to a mental strain on Izuku that begins with a nosebleed. Wings. Izuku has a pair of wings that can be materialized with a flow of energy or vice versa. Wings are green in color and most feathers have small purple flames that are mostly harmless but give feathers a burnt appearance. Wings have own senses of feeling that Izuku gains instantly. Wingspan is currently 6 meters. The feeling of falling was once something that Izuku hated. In the past year, however, the feeling of the wind whipping past him as he soared downwards was a feeling he has come to enjoy when he flies. Sometimes Izuku would fly up high and let his wings go limp and just skydive. Every Sunday for half the day, or any time he wasn't training or going over schematics for his pistol, he would spend flying around the countryside beside Musutafu. Today would be his last day under his ancestor Kenzie's training, and tomorrow he would take the UA entrance exam, something that he was confident that he, as well as his best friend Nito, would pass as well. The past year has done wonders for Izuku as his training has shown its effects on him physically. He had enough muscle that one could easily mistake him for a Greek statue, and the lines left behind by his powers giving a faint mint green glow or a faded violet only added visual appeal to him. His hair, having been cut shorter to not get in his face, has become permanently swept back as if he was soaring through the air all the time. He kept the same clothing layout for the last year, staying with what Johnny called his celebrity outfit from when the Saints were international celebrity. Thankfully, when he summons his wings, he found a workaround so he doesn't have to tear every shirt he owns. He laces the back of his clothing with some power from his halo and it gives the clothing almost water-like texture. And his wings slip right through it. Izuku had not found a way to implement this ability of his powers to do anything but preventing his clothes from being shredded. However, Izuku opened his wings finally as he got close to the ground, sending sand into the air as he stood on the now completely clean beach. It has been clean for the last 4 months, but they still trained there whenever they had a chance, making sure that Izuku and Nito didn't use their quirks so they wouldn't get in trouble. "Hey Mimo, where is Nito and Yajai-sensei?" Izuku asked his eccentric ancestor, who was currently typing away on a laptop in the bed of a truck with blueprints scattered around her. Without looking up and still typing away, she answered. "Toshinori said he wanted to give Nito the quirk in private, which is fine because now we can do our final test on your weapon. Did you bring it?" She looked up as she finished, slight bags under her eyes letting Izuku know she stayed up again to prepare stuff for him. Izuku dug into his bag. Right here, he handed her the weapon. It was originally meant to be a small pistol that was the size of his hand, but both Izuku and Kenzie went overboard and it was closer to a sawed-off shotgun or a large flintlock pistol. The pistol looked similar to the alien pistol Izuku mimicked the technology of, save for the bigger size. The extended barrel and the cylinder being replaced by 2 coils that flowed with dark and light purple energy wrapping themselves around a battery that basically couldn't die but had to cool down if used too much. "How is the battery?" Kenzie asked as she held up the big pistol, inspecting all the lights and coils for any imperfections. "After the last one blew up, I decided to not charge it with my green energy, but instead the coils, which have an interloping filter and bits to it that basically make the battery charge itself," Izuku answered as he looked at the amount of cans she had next to her. "Shots are now really precise compared to the previous model, and I can fire a shot a second, 20 before it needs to recharge. Recharging is 20 seconds, but I can start rotating the dial on the top to help it cool down. It lowers it to 7 seconds. Kenzie handed it back to Izuku and grabbed some of the cans. "Shoot them as they fall." Kenzie threw them high in the air and Izuku aimed his pistol and fired, hitting all 5 of the cans, with the magenta shots of energy that dented the cans. "So you went with non-lethal shots still?" "For the main mode, yes. If you after grab the coils and twist and pull them back, they will lock into a lethal shot mode, but 1 shot from that mode is 20 of the normal shots, so it has 1 shot before it needs to recharge, and this mode is 30 seconds and the dial only removes 10 seconds of that time," Izuku said as he retrieved the cans he had. "Shoot one with it." Kenzie tossed a can in the air and Izuku shot it with a beam that was a dark, almost black purple. The can completely disappeared as it was burned instantly into ashes. "Shots like this are dangerous, so I don't plan on using lethal mode unless it is absolutely necessary," Izuku said as he turned the pistol back to non-lethal. "It's always good to have it if it is ever needed. After I have to leave this afternoon, you better keep working on improving it." "I definitely will." Izuku wouldn't drop making his own gun, seeing as how because of his 2 ancestors his love for them has increased a lot. "I will also keep a watch on the one subject you made sure I studied well." Izuku was referring to the Zen. Kenzie made it well clear that she believed the Zen did exist in this timeline, and she didn't want this Earth to end up like hers. Kenzie spent hours in secret with Izuku making sure he knew how to work around in their programming that she still had on her and that he would do his best to protect his Earth. "Good. If they do ever come in your lifetime, you will be prepared. If not, make sure whoever you pass the halo on to will be equally or better prepared," Kenzie stated. "So what schematics are you going to run me through today?" Izuku enjoyed that in his free time Kenzie made sure that he wasn't just brute force but also decently aware of how to work around, with, or in technology. Izuku wouldn't say he is the best, but he can definitely do damage if left with a laptop or phone for too long if you want it. "I was just give you this for your to work on for your hero outfit." Kinsey handed him a small notepad and Izuku flipped through it to see and was filled with all the notes that had mentioned about possible gear for his hero outfit. From a battery held in a vest-like harness for AoE attack that relied on him charging it then and there to braces for his arms and legs. Does this have the idea? Izuku asked as Ayla flipped through the complicated tech sketches and blueprints. Yes, they are in the back. Kinsey closed her laptop. Don't test those on anyone until you are completely and 100% sure that it won't hurt them. She stared into his eyes to make sure the boy understood. Yes, ma'am. Izuku nodded, looking at the notes for the dangerous idea he had months ago. Izuku had an idea to make basically power armor that he could give to an ally that could harness some of his basic powers. Completely understand. Good. Kinsey started to grab all of the scattered papers that were in the bed of the truck with her. Finally, we will spar so I can be confident you are ready. I've been ready, Izuku boasted as he took off his jacket so he wouldn't ruin it, placing the treasured purple and gray jacket that his idol Johnny once wore on the truck. Hopefully that confidence will help. Kinsey summoned her lightning armor and got into a stance down the beach from him. Izuku's faint lines flooded with the familiar green as purple energy. So one ability at a time. Nope, you have to pin me but use all of your powers successfully on me first. This one and it does count. Kinsey charged Izuku. Izuku started off by propelling himself into the air and flinging his green blast. It hit Kinsey's forearm, but Izuku didn't count it as a hit as she was smacking it to the side as it hit. She got inside of his guard and jabbed his flooding electricity into it. Jumping back, he kicked off of her knee and flung another green blast as he backflipped through the air. This one actually catching her off guard and hitting Kinsey's abdomen. Not wanting to waste opportunities, he swapped to his purple blast and threw one at her as his feet but the ground. Kinsey moved under the blast and shot off of the ground at Izuku. Arcs of lighting arcing off of her, letting Izuku know it wouldn't be wise to let her get in close again. Izuku charged 2 purple blasts, one in each hand, and threw them both at the same spot in Kinsey's descent on him. The blasts impacted each other in the air and a wave of purple flames erupted from the area they impacted and Kinsey got a slight burn on her sleeve as a result, her lightning working as a shield. Izuku used his super speed and shot off farther down the beach to figure out how he wants to implement his wings and mold ability. Figuring out his plan, he smirked and changed back to his green blast. He summoned his wings as he sped back towards Kinsey. Kinsey used her telekinesis to push a wall of sand in Izuku's way. Izuku moved around it to the left and got hit in the with a big arc of lightning. Izuku fell down but launched off of the beach with his hands and flipped over Kinsey, letting his wings keep him in the air as he charged a green blast in both hands and threw them to impact right in front of Kinsey. The green blasts hit and a shockwave of force knocked Kinsey down and Izuku enacted the rest of his plan. Swooping in close to Kinsey, he shot lines of his blue mold energy out and molded them to wrap around her upper body and arms to bind them to her sides. He flew up, keeping hold on the mold, bringing Kinsey up as well. Does this count? Izuku asked as he felt his grip on the mold weakening. For a spar, yes. Kinsey nodded and Izuku released the mold. Your mold ability has gotten better. It really had, seeing as how he couldn't use it in both hands at the same time before. Yeah, but I caused a nosebleed. Izuku pointed to his nose, which was leaking a small amount of. The more mold that is being used, the more strain I cause and more likely that I will give myself a headache or nosebleed. It will improve like your blast soon enough. Your blast powers are simpler to use in practice, and the combo of smacking 2 against each other was a practical nothing and not just an upgrade. The mold actually requires more to it and has so much potential that isn't as limited. Kinsey gave him a towel as they got to the truck. As he wiped the off, he noticed Nito and Yaji-sensei walking to them. How did you do? Izuku asked Nito, noticing the disgusted look on his face. I got the quirk, Nito said with some disgust. What's wrong with that? Izuku didn't know why something so great would get such a bad look. He had to consume some of my DNA in order to get the quirk. Toshinori stepped in. It can only be passed if the giver is willing and through DNA. Weird. So did you eat a fingernail or did he spit in your mouth? Izuku didn't really find it as bad. But he did get sent to the hospital with how he got his powers. I ate a piece of his hair. How can you be so calm about that? Doesn't it bother you a little? Nito asked, trying to defend his reaction. Dude, it is weird but nothing about this group is normal, Izuku said straight-faced. So you feel it yet? Nito shook his head. It needs to be digested and such first. Did you do your final test yet? Yep, got a nosebleed from mine. Izuku was proud that they both succeeded in their goals for training. Remember boys that the entrance exam is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Be in something comfortable and have a good breakfast beforehand, Toshinori reminded them. Is a burger a good breakfast? Izuku asked, planning on heading to his favorite place he used to go to with Johnny. Toshinori looked irritated half-heartedly with Izuku. As much as I want to make sure you don't eat that unhealthy stuff every day, I know you will. At least try something with less grease. Izuku looked like that thought of not having a burger was painful. That will be tough. Anyways, if I am taking over for your final practice today, all I want you to do is both of you to jog 50 laps around the entire beach. Toshinori changed the subject. Right, both boys said as they started off at different speeds, Izuku still leaving his powers on at 50%. So how exactly will you be leaving today if you aren't technically alive? Toshinori asked Kenzie while she was organizing her papers in a case. A pure white doorway will appear and I will walk through it and I'll be back in the afterlife. Kenzie answered. Is that the same way Gat left? Toshinori was still surprised by the two people from the afterlife that trained Izuku. Yep, before I leave I plan on giving Izuku a version of my lightning. Kenzie hopped off the bed of the truck and went around to the driver's side to put her case away. A version? Toshinori. Yes, he doesn't seem to have an aura or cloak ability like me, Johnny, or our boss did. I figured maybe I can give him a simple conduction where he could shoot it from his fingers or palms, since that might be a better fit for him. He can't surround himself in energy, but he can fill himself almost perfectly for that. Kenzie stopped herself before she would end up going on a rant about Izuku's many possible powers and ways to use them. That is intriguing, but what if he later gains the ability to flow his power around him as well? Toshinori had to admit that Midoriya certainly had very versatile abilities. My great-great-great-great-grandson is smart. He can learn to introduce the electricity to that, Kenzie stated with confidence. He could probably also introduce his purple flames from his blast and wings to that too if he does have the chance to do that. They both do seem to find new ways to use their powers. However, young Monoma is less prone to troublemaking. Toshinori learned hard that Izuku apparently had started to take to amusing himself by joking around, sometimes doing unorthodox things that would cause him trouble if he wasn't smart enough and charismatic enough to get himself out of problems. That's just the saint in him. Kenzie smirked. At least he doesn't act like the violent side of the saints yet. That is good. Wait, yet? Toshinori didn't want to know why she said yet. What do you mean? He took everything Johnny said to heart, and Johnny taught him about the saints and loyalty. If a villain were to hurt someone he cares about, he might act like a saint and react violently against that person. Kenzie remembered watching the boss rip out Siniak's head and spine. Let's hope he can stay calm. Later that evening, Izuku was saying his goodbyes to his great-great-great-great-grandmother, who was nagging him. Remember that smarts are just as important as strength. I know. Remember what I said about the power armor. I know. Make sure to not fall behind on your studies. Stay ahead, don't rush into things. I know. Make sure to keep a watch out silently for what I warned you about. I will. Nito, make sure he doesn't do something insanely stupid. Nito looked at her in disbelief. You know that is impossible. At least try. Kenzie then charged electricity to her hand and placed it on Izuku's shoulder. Here is the electricity like we discussed. Don't overdo it or you will be too numb to move. The same doorway that appeared for Johnny opened up behind her. Good luck, Izu. Bye, Mima. Izuku hugged her and watched her leave, the doorway disappearing, leaving the three guys on the beach. So is that it for your training, Yajai-sensei? Yes, you two have done marvelously, and I wish we could have met earlier and under better circumstances than we did. You two rest for the night and make all of your teachers proud tomorrow. The boys said bye to Toshinori and began their walk to the train station so Nito could get home. So did you ever find your phone, man? Izuku stretched his arms back beside Nito. I never did find. What happened to it? It's been almost a year, so I definitely won't be finding that one. Good thing I did replace it. Nito figured that he must have dropped it when he ran around trying to find help for Izuku when he got trapped in hell. Watch it be in your closet. Izuku chuckled. Speaking of which, did you hear that this year they have started a dorm system at UA? If it is in my closet, I would have found it by now. If UA has a dorm system now, it will probably be by class, and that means we both got to find a way to be in the same class or just hope it happens. Yeah, I heard that people move in the day before classes and the first semester begin. Izuku would enjoy having a top-floor room so he could hop out his window and fly to class. Well, all we got to do is make sure we pass tomorrow. That will be a breeze. Do you think Katsuki will make a competition out of it? Izuku already knew the answer. Over the past year since Katsuki had apologized, he has slowly become a decent friend to the two of them. He was still a foul-mouthed person by all means, but he obviously respects them and was becoming a better, was always competitive with Izuku as a way to get stronger. Luckily, it was never an antagonistic rivalry. Most definitely. How loud will he be when we do better than him? Nito also already knew the answer. Loud, Izuku stated. Let's crush this thing. The next morning, Izuku walked to the entrance exam in his training clothes, a purple tracksuit with a green tank top underneath. Excitement was an understatement as he felt so ready inside. He felt his energy eager to jump to his halo veins, as he called them, and he couldn't blame the energy. He was about to use 5 years of hard work and start on his path to be a damn good hero and saint. Izuku saw both Katsuki and Nito waiting for him by the entrance to the exam building. Izuku was only mildly surprised to see Katsuki, who was probably there to say something along the lines of "You better not fail." Yo, Izuku said as he tapped his sunglasses and waved. About time, Katsuki grumbled. You both better not fail. I will not be stuck with just extras here. Izuku pat himself on the back mentally for correctly guessing what Katsuki would say for the most part. Greatness doesn't fail, man, Izuku said with confidence. Try to keep up. Like I would fall behind. Katsuki scoffed and smirked. We shouldn't just walk in there with arrogance. Nito warned them. Everyone in there will have been working almost just as hard as us. Yeah, well, they are just extras, so it won't do them anything, Katsuki said. He was about to say something else, but Katsuki's foot hit an indent in the ground that sent him falling forward. Izuku was about to help him, but a smaller hand pressed on Katsuki's back and he floated in the air. What the Katsuki got confused about how he didn't reach the ground so he could have gotten up with style. Sorry, I saw you falling and used my quirk on you, a soft voice spoke. Izuku looked at the girl who had helped Katsuki. She was short and had brown hair in a bob and what looked like permanent blush on her face, which was also kinder round. It's bad luck to fall on a day like this. She pressed her hands together and Katsuki was back to standing on the ground. Katsuki whipped around to yell about how he doesn't need help from damn extras. I don't think he stopped because she had such an innocent smile on her face. But it quickly disappeared when she heard his tone. Now she looked afraid of him and Katsuki was just embarrassed he had fallen over and had someone help him. It felt like a blow to his pride. I'm so sorry, the girl squeaked. It's all right. Damn it, Katsuki's face turned red and he stormed off into the exam building with mini explosions popping in his palms. The hell was that? Izuku asked out loud. He turned to the girl. Don't worry about Katsuki, he is very colorful with his words. The girl nodded. Okay, I'm Ochako Uraraka, she beamed as she introduced herself to the two guys still left. I'm Nito Monoma, Izuku Midoriya of the Saints, Izuku proclaimed. Saints. Ochako didn't know if he meant the holy figure because he held himself more relaxed than she figured they would. Yep, I plan on getting a group together. This dude is my right-hand man. Izuku put his hand on Nito's shoulder. Oh, you are building a superhero team, that's so cool. Aren't you doing it a bit early though? Ochako had too much enthusiasm. But Izuku was loving it. Not a superhero team necessarily, but kinda. Izuku answered. We should get to the exams before they start. Okay, bye, it was nice to meet you. Ochako waved as they parted ways for their designated test zones for the written exam. It was done by schools and areas, so Izuku and Nito would be taking it in the same place. She was nice. Nito said, have you felt the star react to people yet? For some weird reason it doesn't do anything yet. Izuku pulled out the star that Philippe gave him almost a year prior. It would give a feeling to Izuku to go north at first, but after a few months it just stopped giving him that feeling, and now Izuku regretted not finding the person when he had the chance. Izuku figured that it might react at the entrance exam if he brought it, but he felt nothing. It might need to be closer to the person at this point. If you think you found them, let me know. It probably only had the drop you said that this Philippe gave it, and it almost used it up. Nito guessed. Possibly. Anyways, let's do this thing, Izuku said with excitement as they found their seats, where they were next to Katsuki, who was still red-faced and glaring ahead in thought. Yo, Katsuki, you good? Shut up and don't talk about it, Katsuki said in an even voice without stopping his glare towards the opposite wall, muttering about being a dumbass that tripped. Alrighty then. Izuku sat next to him. Can't wait for this part to be over so we can do the practical part. Please don't rush the test or do something stupid during it, Nito asked Izuku. I will do dumb stuff practical then, Izuku said. I know, man, that exam was too easy. Izuku groaned as he spun his necklace around on his finger. It was easy for us because of our teachers. Nito did admit it was easy but didn't feel like having kids who struggled glare at them. The glares would be worse for Izuku because he carries himself too close to Johnny's style and people would just assume he was a dumb and arrogant hothead. Only idiots would fail this. Katsuki agreed with Izuku. Katsuki didn't bother to ask about the teachers because Izuku had mentioned his quirk had a hired situation. Nito groaned into his head as more people shot dirty looks in their direction. The auditorium went silent as a person stepped onto the stage. The pro hero present Mike. What's up everybody present? Mike's voice boomed through the auditorium. Can I get a whoa yay? Everyone in the auditorium winced at the sound and stayed silent except for one. Izuku loudly whooped while standing on his seat. Thanks for your energy, present Mike said to Izuku, who gave a thumbs up. When present Mike spoke again to everyone's pleasure, he didn't tell into his speaker. Pay attention. Listeners will be seeing if you got skills to pay the bills in a 10-minute practice run at our replica city districts. First, however, I am here to explain the goal and rules of the test. You can take whatever equipment you want. Just gather at your designated meeting area after my presentation on the rules, you dick. Izuku had to fight the urge to mold a shovel and whoop again. Alright listeners, if you look at the screen above me or your very own handout, you will see that there are faux villains in each replica city. Loads of the baddies spread all over the battlefields. Each one will be rated as a 1, 2, or 3-pointer. Your job is to use your quirk to take out as many of them as you can and rack up a high score. Also, you can attack other competitors directly. That's nasty anti-hero stuff and it's against the rules, present Mike explained. Excuse me. Everyone in the auditorium turned to look at the person who spoke. It was a glasses-wearing kid with a stern look that appeared to be permanently stapled on his face. On the handout and the board above you there are clearly 4 types of villains listed, not 3 if this is an error. Then it's a huge embarrassment for a top-tier National Academy of UAS caliber. What is the meaning of this? Nerd. Izuku mumbled to Katsuki, who snickered slightly. Nito hoped that the kid didn't hear Izuku and react to him. And the kid rotated almost robotically to face Izuku. Quit making rude comments and jokes during a presentation. We're trying to pay attention, and you are being a major distraction. If you think UA is just for fun, then leave this place at once. Nito felt his eye twitch because he knew that would set off Izuku. You mean I am being a distraction? Izuku stood up and shouted back at the kid. I am making small jokes with the kid right next to me, and you're the guy interrupting the whole presentation with a stupid question that he was obviously going to explain in a second. If you can't deduce that, then you should leave. Izuku glared at the boy. Nito silently cursed Johnny Gat for rubbing off on Izuku like this. Izuku was so meek and quiet before Johnny started to really influence him. The auditorium went silent as the two glared at each other before Present Mike cleared his throat. Alright, save the aggression for the villains. I was actually about to get to villain number 4. The 4th type of villain is called the Zero Pointer. It's a big gimmick that goes wild near the end. They are too strong to be defeated in 8, they're just to stir things up, so fighting them is hopeless and useless. If I were you, I'd do my best to avoid that. Forgive me for my interruption. The glasses kid bowed and sat back in his seat. Izuku sat back down but didn't apologize because he was technically being provoked by the kid. Good one, Izuku. Katsuki nodded too. Show his respect for Izuku's shouting. Well, that's pretty much all I have, Mike went on. I'll leave you with a quote that my academy prides itself on: go beyond plus ultra. Now get out there and have a fun time this test. Outside by the buses to the different testing sites, Izuku nodded. See, I figured that they would separate schools. All 3 guys all had different buses written down on their paper ticket for the practical. This way we can't work together. Nito rubbed his bicep, feeling an odd tingling. That just gives me more room to show you how much better I am than you, Katsuki boasted as he began to go to his bus. Don't make me look bad by association. Make me look good by association, Izuku shouted back. See, and boy, this is my bus. Our test sites are actually right next to each other, so you should hear the sounds of how awesome I am. Don't blow anything up. Nito knew Izuku couldn't blow up too much stuff immediately with his powers yet, but he wanted Izuku to be careful. I'm only blowing up the robots. Green blast for this because purple might burn another test taker. Izuku tapped his sunglasses and they turned into goggles, and he tested them around his neck. Demand do this fast and spend my time flying. You really can't wait till every chance you get to spread them. Nito chuckled. Hell no, it is like sitting down for too long and having to spread your legs. Once we pass this, I might leave them out more. Izuku stepped onto his bus. Izuku went to go find an empty seat near the back but was tapped on his side. Looking at the person, he saw the girl Ochako from before. Hi Midoriya, was it? Ochako chirped as he sat down. Yep, glad to see you, Uraraka. Nice seeing we have the same test site. Izuku did find it nice that she always seemed happy, except when Katsuki scared her, but that didn't count. I'm just glad to pass the written part, Ochako groaned. I mean, I knew some stuff, but math is not my strong suit. Well, luckily we have the practical ahead of us, so you can send robots into space. How do you know my quirk can do that? Ochako only made Katsuki float after all. Just guessing. Izuku shrugged his shoulders. What exactly can it do? Anything I touch. With all 5 of these pads on one hand, I turn off gravity for basically. Ochako held up her hand so Izuku can see the pink pads on the ends of her fingers and thumbs over where the prints would be. I can release my hold in objects by touching both sets of pads together. That would be perfect for some rescue situations. Izuku mused. Ochako's happiness somehow got even bigger. I actually want to be a rescue hero. Number 13 is my idol. She is an extraordinary hero. Izuku liked her passion. My idol is my grandpa. He was a badass. What sort of hero was he? Ochako asked. The badass kind. He rescued a close friend from a villain with odds against him and destroyed an evil plot of the villains. Izuku avoided the fact that he was describing Johnny going into hell to beat the shit out of Satan. Wow, so you must be trying to make him proud and follow in his footsteps, Ochako said in wonder. She immediately shook with excitement. We both should make our idols proud and do the best we can. Plus ultra. Plus ultra, Izuku said back as the bus pulled to a stop in front of test site 4. Let's do this. Izuku and Ochako were too hyped as they basically bounced off of the bus into the front of the waiting area. The kid with glasses had meant to say something to Izuku about his rudeness earlier, but stopped when he heard what Izuku was saying to the girl Ochako. It would be rude to interrupt them trying to get each other mentally ready for the test, and he couldn't justify throwing off anyone's train of thought at something they were trying to make their idols be proud of them for. He would just talk to him afterwards. Hey Uraraka, can you step back while I activate my quirk? Izuku asked because he was sure she wouldn't like getting a wing in the face. Oh yeah, sure. Uraraka and some others moved back away from Izuku because they had no idea what his quirk would do. Izuku grinned as he felt the energy flood his halo veins and start glowing. He put his goggles on his face and removed his track jacket to tie around his waist. Achako had never seen a quirk cover anyone in such mesmerizing glowing lines before, and she thought they were so pretty. It also didn't help that she couldn't help but think about how strong Izuku looked when he took off the jacket. She was about to ask why she needed to step back when suddenly wings popped out of Izuku's back, full-on wings that were dark green like his swept back hair. But the feathers had small purple flames all over them on their edges that weren't burning them any more than they were when he brought the wings out. "Wow, Midoriya, that is so cool," she exclaimed. "I know. Good lord, it feels good to stretch my wings." As Izuku said that, his wings gave a few slow flaps. "How did you get those?" a random kid asked Izuku. I can summon them with the power stuff in the veins that are glowing," Izuku said. "It is easier to move around with them inside my quirk power source thing instead of on my back." Achako tried to put her hand near a wing. "Can you feel them? Do the flames hurt?" "After like 2 seconds of them being out, I have full-on feelings in them like I would my arms or legs." "The flames don't hurt, they just look cool, really," Izuku explained. "Are you related to Hawks?" another random kid asked him. "No," Izuku shook his head. People acting like they haven't seen a quirk with wings before. "To be fair, no one has quirk where you can summon them like that," the first random kid said. Before anyone could ask more questions, Present Mike's voice spoke over the speakers. "Start." Most people didn't move, but Izuku shot off the ground with a powerful flap of his wings and into the fake city. "Whoa!" Izuku screamed, loving the feeling of flying. "What are most of you waiting for?" Present Mike asked over the speakers. "Real life doesn't have a countdown. Go." With that, the practical part of the entrance exam begun. Nito was not having a good time. Ever since he got off of his bus, he has felt a weird tingling all over his body, and none of his abilities were working. His copy quirk, which he tested on this one blonde with an electric quirk, was completely off, and he couldn't access his pin powers at all. He could feel his pin powers, but they felt far off and out of his reach. Nito didn't know if this was a side effect of getting one for all or if he was getting sick or worse. Nito ran forward with a grin face as his test began, not noticing a pair of eyes watching him. All Might stood in his muscular form watching a wall of screens that covered all of the test sites. He was with the rest of the teachers of UA, as he was joining their staff starting that very semester. The teachers, as well as the eccentric principal Nezu, were there to observe the students for any admirable traits and to properly gauge some of the more prodigious students. All Might was worried about a facial expression he caught on his pupil's face. "Was Nito sick?" "You look worried," the peculiar mouse-bear hybrid Nezu commented as he sipped tea. "Perhaps your time limit." Nezu knew it was not high time limit, as the staff of UA was aware of All Might's condition. Nezu knew it was because All Might noticed a look on one test taker's face. If Nezu had to guess, this was one that All Might has his eyes on as inheritor of his quirk. "It's nothing to worry about." All Might hoped that was true. Izuku was having a blast. There was a feeling of euphoria from flying around the city, chucking his green blast at any robot he encountered. Izuku had lost count a minute ago, and it was like that mattered because he was flying too fast sometimes to see what number the robots were. Izuku knows he broke at least 30 robots. However, soaring around, he could see that most of the streets were covered in broken or turned off robots as the other test takers rushed around to get their own piece of action. Izuku decided to take a shot with a dumb idea to check his score. He had 7 minutes left, so he can afford to do this. He flew down to the ground, taking down 2 3-pointers as he threw 2 supercharged green blasts that knocked their heads clean off. Izuku landed next to a speaker pole and kicked it. "Hey, can I know my score?" Izuku looked into a camera drone near him. All Might felt an eyebrow twitch as his pupil's best friend kick a pole and ask a question. Izuku unaware of the whole staff of teachers watching him. Present Mike spoke through the speaker by Izuku. "Are you not keeping count yourself?" All Might watched as the goggles-wearing kid scratched the back of his head. "I got excited about flying and lost count." All Might couldn't see Izuku's eyes or most of his upper face under the goggles, but he could tell the kid was embarrassed about admitting that. "Izuku Midoriya, correct test participant number 7808, Nezu asked as he used his own mic to speak to Izuku. Nezu started seeing through scores for all of the test takers. "Yes." Izuku nodded to the camera. "Here we are. You have currently destroyed 18 1-pointers, 11 2-pointers, and 8 3-pointers for a total of 64 points. Quite remarkable for only the first 4 minutes. Nezu had to admit this kid will end up shattering the current high score set by All Might of 112 points. "Thank you." Izuku threw a green blast behind him at a 3-pointer that tried to sneak up on him, knocking its away. 67. He mumbled. "I will try to keep count now." Izuku launched himself into the air and slammed down on a 2-pointer. 69. Nice. Once he was gone, Nezu spoke. "Midoriya seems to be an interesting and no doubt powerful candidate for our hero course." The R-rated hero Midnight spoke up. "Not to mention those muscles." A sleeping bag underneath a coffee table grumbled a response. "Control yourself, Nimiri, he is a kid." Nimari narrowed her eyes sideways at the sleeping bag. Shouldn't you be watching the test to learn about who your future class will have? Once my class is finalized, I can just look them up then. The sleeping bag yawned in response. All Might was glad that Izuku had a good score, but he was still worried about his pupil's score. Nito didn't consider himself as strong as Izuku. Even without the power of his halo, Izuku was still incredibly strong. Nito wasn't weak, but he doubted that without his ultra powers he could punch these robots and do damage. Nito did, however, thankfully have wits and cleverness to have taken the robot arm of a broke one-pointer and used the gun attached to it to hit other robots in weak spots or their off button. So far, Nito has a total of 12 points, nowhere close to passing if more people were like Izuku and Katsuki, both of whom live for combat. He has taken down 5 one-pointers, 2 two-pointers, and a single 3-pointer. Until his quirk and powers decided to work properly, he couldn't do much more. It worried him that he had 5 minutes left. A ground-shaking stomp behind Nito alerted him to a 3-pointer behind him. It knocked him off his feet and prepared to crush him, but it started to vibrate before half of its parts fell off. "Are you okay?" a voice on the other side of the robot asked Nito. "I am now, thanks." Nito groaned as he pushed a piece of armor playing off of him. A arm appeared in his sight offering to help him up, and he took it. Being pulled up, Nito was face to face with the earphone girl he hasn't seen in a year. The girl let out a small gasp as she recognized Nito. "It's you, I have your phone." What Nito felt his brain lag as he looked into her eyes. Why did he have to do that right then? Oh, he remembered how he and her were using his phone, and he must have ran off with her still holding it. Thanks. I'm Nito Monoma. Kyoka Gyro." Kyoka looked behind her down the street to check for robots. "I can return it after the test. I don't have it with me, I left it at home." "That's fine." Nito decided to stop looking at her like an idiot and went to pick up the one-pointer arm. "We can meet after the test, I suppose, outside of the main exam building." Kyoka nodded. "That works." Bye. Kyoka ran off to find more robots. Nito sat back on the ground. "How come I can be the suave one, but the second I see a cute girl I become stupider than Izuku?" Nito smacked his face into his hands as he asked himself the question out loud. All Might inwardly felt a ping of similarity with his pupil who didn't know he asked himself that question with the staff of UA. Watching, All Might had never been good at talking to the females he felt attraction to. "It is almost time for me to release the 0-pointers. Nezu announced to the staff as he the button to release the gigantic robots from their holding. "We can get to see who has the makings of a true hero." Izuku had gained another 29 points before he decided to help out anyone who was struggling. He wouldn't outright take shots at any robot, but instead asked the few who accepted his help what they would prefer he did. His personal favorite had been the French guy with the laser stomach who asked him to become his twinkling buddy, referring to Izuku's glowing halo veins. Izuku was flying near what could be considered the town square of the fake city when he heard a speaker turn on. "Final bosses are arriving." Present Mike's voice boomed throughout every testing site. The ground shook below Izuku, and he watched as an insanely large robot came out of the ground. It had arms as big as the smaller buildings, and its head reached Izuku at the height he was flying, which was easily 12 stories. "That's a 0-pointer, Izuku gasped incredulously. "You got to be kidding me." Izuku watched as its multiple eyes started glowing red. The 0-pointer swung one arm and broke a building. "Oh cheeses," Izuku cursed as he flew as fast as possible to make sure no one was underneath the falling building. He saw 2 people and swooped them into his arms as he got out of the path of the falling debris. "You two okay?" Izuku set them on their feet. The female, who had the head of an panther, nodded. "Thanks to you, big guy." She actually purred. Yep, a guy with weird elbows and a huge grin slapped Izuku's shoulder. "Alright, you two go find other robots to deal with, I will fight Paul." Izuku flew back into the air towards the 0-pointer. The guy looked at the panther girl. Did he name that thing Paul? Nito could only look in disbelief as the 0-pointer in his test site punch a building and knock over the entire thing. "What the hell is UA?" thinking a nearby student exclaimed as they began to run the other way from the 0-pointer. Nito was about to run away when he saw someone that the 0-pointer had knocked debris onto. It was Kyoka. The 0-pointers represent overwhelming odds that can leave most people feeling hopeless, and they will see no choice but to run. Nezu explained. But a true hero will see the danger and run headfirst into it to make sure no one else has to be in danger's path. Izuku used a supercharged green blast to completely obliterate a chunk of a building that was flying in him. Izuku scanned the area to make sure everyone was safe and saw him. The glasses-wearing kid who pissed him off earlier. The guy had been hit on the head by some small debris and had his lower body pinned underneath more debris. Izuku stopped down next to him. "Are you okay?" Izuku lightly slapped the guy to check his conscious he was. "My glasses broke and I can't see." The guy replied slowly, "Definitely close to a concussion." "Alright, that means I will be your eyes for now." Izuku started to lift the debris off of the guy. "But I gotta know that name, my dude." "Tenya Ida." Tenya groaned as the debris lifted off of him. "I think my legs aren't in any condition to walk." "Alright, Mr. Ida, I will be your legs as well." Izuku was about to pull Tenya up but heard the 0-pointer speak above him. Target located. Nito ran forward to get to Kyoka. She had been struck by a rock on her that knocked her down and he didn't see her get up. Nito got to her and checked her pulse. She was okay but was knocked unconscious. Nito was about to pick her up when he heard what sounded like a giant robot speak above him. Target located. When the odds do not look good, a true hero will forego these odds and push as hard as they could to protect others. This is how we show who has the will to go plus ultra. Nazu continued. Izuku watched as the zero-pointer dropped its fist down on him. Izuku, not wanting to risk hurting Ida, used his mold to quickly place Ida far enough away to not be hurt by the fist and began to conduct the electricity his Mima gave him inside of him. Letting it begin to supercharge all over his body, he prepared to throw his fist at the zero-pointer. "Come at me, Paul, you expired can of ravioli," Izuku yelled as his eyes turned yellow with electricity. Nito felt a tingling all over his body as the zero-pointer threw its bus-sized fist down at him. Remembering All Might's quick lesson on One for All, he decided it was better to try anything than do nothing and become a Nito pancake. All you have to do is clench your butt cheeks, dig deep, throw your fist and yell smash. Nito didn't want Kyoka to get hurt, so he dug into his very core and began to throw his fist at the robot. Smash. All of the staff were torn between the two scenes that were playing out the same. Two boys who were attempting to lunch a robot that they were ants compared to. Once Izuku's fist hit the robots, all of his built-up electricity flowed around Izuku like lightning and shot upwards into the robot. His super strength came into play as well as the robot flew a good 20 meters into the air. The robot's hand and arm flew away from the rest of its body, and the amount of electricity flowing through it caused multiple spots all over the zero-pointer to blow up from the surge. Izuku screamed as the electricity burned him as it arced to the robot, leaving him in pain and not able to feel a thing as his wings disappeared and his glowing lines faded out. Izuku lost focus on reality as he fell backwards onto the ground. Orange light glowed around Nito's arm and red marks appeared on it as he punched the arm of the robot. A shockwave erupted, blowing dust and debris away from Nito as the entire arm of the zero-pointer crunched upwards away from Nito, breaking into multiple pieces. Nito screamed in pain as he felt very bone in his right arm break into 1,000 pieces and his muscles shredded to bits. The staff of UA stared in shock as both boys out their respective zero-pointers out of commission with an insane show of power. The harm they did to themselves was greater than what the zero-pointers were actually allowed to do in their programming. Of course, the test takers didn't know that because this was supposed to bring out the heroic traits UA was known for. All Might was beaming as he watched his pupil use One for All for the first time. He winced when Nito had broken his arm, but All Might knew that would happen the first time. And that is it, everyone. Thanks for coming today. You have been a wonderful crowd. Present. Mike signaled the end of the test. Ochako and everyone else in test site 4 barely registered the end of the test as they stared at the unconscious Izuku. Small sparks of bright yellow electricity sparking around him. Everyone was in shock of the amount of power he just displayed in completely destroying the zero-pointer, which only had a small portion of its parts left unscathed. Ochako helped Ida up. "What happened?" Ida asked. "All I heard was that one kid challenged the zero-pointer and a large flash of light." Ochako noticed the missing glasses and figured Ida couldn't have seen the display he had a front row seat for. A kid with cylinder-like elbows spoke first. "That complete badass just destroyed the zero-pointer with one punch. Is he dead?" a random person asked as they poked Izuku with a long piece of debris. "Let's get him to a doctor," the elbow kid said as he attempted to lift Izuku, only to get shocked. "Ouch, that stuff is shocking." Suddenly tape rolled out of his elbows and he began to wrap his arms with it. "Who else wants to help?" "I shall help, moi." Twinkling Buddy, a blonde with a French accent and twinkling around him, proclaimed. The tape kid gave the French kid type to use as insulation to protect from Izuku's stray electricity. "I can touch him to make him weightless," Ochako announced as she led Ida in Izuku's direction to use her quirk on him. "That will definitely help." The elbow kid grinned. "He deserves this after defeating Paul." "Paul?" Ida asked, confused. "He rescued me from its destruction and mentioned calling it Paul as he said he was going to stop it from hurting us," the elbow kid explained. Some more people came to see if they could offer help, a few laughing at hearing about Izuku naming the robot Paul. Disbelief was an understatement in test site 7. The boy who looked like he had an upset stomach the whole time and didn't do much just destroyed the arm of the zero-pointer in one punch. The punch was so strong it apparently couldn't be handled by the blonde because his entire arm was shattered. NNNNGGGGH. Nito bit his tongue trying to distract himself from the pain. "Aw, that hurts," Nito yelled. "Calm down, sweetie, I am here to help," a kind voice said as an old woman in a doctor's coat walked up to him. Nito saw her walking stick that was a giant needle and immediately knew that it was Recovery Girl, the hero with the best healing quirk. She hunched over by his shoulder. "Oh dear, this looks bad. I might have to give 2Es," she said as she planted a peck on his shoulder. His shoulder immediately felt so much better as his bones and muscles mended themselves back together. Nito started to feel tired and knew it was a side effect of Recovery Girl's quirk. Keep that wrapped up and don't use it too much for the next few hours, Recovery Girl said as she had the arm one more time and handed him some gummies. Have some gummies, sweetie. She then checked Kyoka and gave Kyoka a small peck on her head. Make sure she knows what is going on when she wakes up. Nito nodded as Recovery Girl started to leave to check on other students. Nito used his jacket as a makeshift sling for his arm to hang in and went to Kyoka, who was beginning to stir. What happened? Kyoka felt a headache coming on. Before Nito could actually answer her, the blind he tried to test his copy quirk and showed up. Dude, did you just break that thing's arm with one punch? Kyoka turned to see who was talking and saw Nito looking embarrassed, and with his right arm in a sling. When did that happen? Was the kid who couldn't fight the robots without a gun arm really that strong? Yes. Nito didn't like how close this guy was to him. That was so unbelievably awesome, the blonde exclaimed. You stood your ground and uppercutted that bot into the sky. Thanks. Nito backed away to get his personal space back. Is that why you didn't fight the robots earlier? Because your quirk is super strength you can't handle? Kyoka chose to jump into the conversation. Nito was flustered as Kyoka stared into his eyes, waiting for an answer. Why did he have to like those eyes so much? He had only known her for a total of maybe 20 minutes total. I didn't know that would happen. Nito practically mumbled. My quirk is to copy other quirks, and it has side effects of giving me a set of armor made of energy. I figured if I screamed I could summon the armor and stop you from being crushed. My quirk wouldn't work, so I had to try something. By the end of it, his face was beet red. Kyoka also blushed slightly hearing that Nito risked his life like that for a girl he barely knew. You didn't even know you would destroy that thing? The blonde was shocked. Dude, that makes it even more awesome. Nito was hoping that the blonde would stop getting in his personal space. Nezu was smiling as he watched the show he was seeing in Test Site 4. All of the people that Midoriya had saved or helped for no reason other than he felt it was right to do were turning around and trying to help him after he put himself out of commission. The shows of respect that they held as they did their best to get him to a medical professional made Nezu proud, and he knew that most of the ones helping him had hearts of heroes in them. This batch is already forming bonds that will only grow when the semester starts. Nezu sipped his tea. Present Mike clapped his hands together. A move like that to protect someone that you don't have a good standing with was so super psy. Indeed, he had no reason to help anyone except for his own kindness. He had already reached a point total that would guarantee him a high spot, but he went the extra mile. Attempting to comfort someone in trouble with confidence and humor even more shows he can be quick in bad situations. Nezu was wondering how the boy would fare in a game of chess. All Might was too busy watching his pupil, who was looking flustered as he was being praised by the electric blonde. Midnight spoke up. The boy in Test Site 7 also did commendable. A move like that when his quirk was malfunctioning was definitely brave. Indeed, it is quite a coincidence that both boys came from the same school and appear to know each other well. Nezu noticed a look on All Might, confirming his suspicion that one of these boys were candidates for All Might to pass the torch. Nezu, if he had to guess, would go with the boy Monoma who shattered his arm. The malfunctioning of his quirk could be explained by having received All Might's power recently. Achako was so relieved when they had gotten to the entrance of the test site and a nurse was walking up to them. What happened to this young one? Recovery Girl asked as she motioned for them to bring Izuku to her. He punched and destroyed the giant robot in one hit. The tape quirk kid was still in awe of what Izuku did. He shot so much lightning out of himself at it that hit blew up after he punched it into the sky. So he must have fried himself and caused a short circuit. Recovery Girl tapped Izuku with her cane to see sparks shoot off. He must need to be restarted soon. Do any of you dearies have an electric quirk as well? Here we need to jumpstart him. A girl with spiky blue hair came forward. I can shoot black lightning, can that help? Yes, dearie. Everyone put him down and take a step back. Who knows where his loose energy will go? Recovery Girl motioned for the girl to come to Izuku and hit him lightly, and don't hit him too hard but just enough to get things going again. The girl nodded and arcs of black electricity shot off of her fingers and into Izuku's. His body twitched and all of his glowing lines suddenly flooded back to full capacity. Izuku shot up to his feet. Where there you, Paul? Izuku yelled before he noticed where he was. Recovery Girl smacked him over the head with her cane. Language, young man. Shit, sorry. Izuku got smacked again. Oh, okay. Midoriya, you're okay. Achako was glad to see the Izuku was fine. How did we get here? Izuku removed his goggles from his eyes and let them dangle around his neck, revealing his eyes that had marks encircling the outside of his iris resembling bright yellow electricity. Dude, you destroyed Paul, and apparently your mind lagged to know when we jump-started you. The kid Izuku recognized as the one with weird elbows told him. Man, that was something else. Oh wait, is that nerd okay? Izuku turned and saw Tenya by Achako, who was using her quirk to make Tenya light enough for him to lean on her smaller frame to help him walk. Tenya bowed to Izuku. I am thankful that you came to help me. Even though on the test there was no reason to, and we didn't necessarily start on any good foot. What do you mean no good reason to? Izuku tapped his goggles to make them sunglasses while the elbow kid muttered how cool that was. This was a simulation of a real-life large-scale villain attack. Of course I should help everyone I see who needs help. Tenya mentally slapped himself across the face. Of course that was true. That was something all heroes should do, and the staff clearly made the incentives and rules mislead everyone away towards selfishness to find those truly selfless. This guy he dismissed had found out the true meaning of the test before he did. I apologize for my first impression of you being so negative. You found the tried meaning of the test before I did. I didn't really. I kinda let it be on the back burner that we were in a test after I got to fly. Wait, are my wings okay? Izuku panicked as he summoned his wings, which looked in good health. Okay, good, I still got them. Recovery girl inspected Izuku. Sweetie, do you need a? Izuku turned and finally realized it was Recovery girl. Recovery girl, wow, you are so cool. I actually have my own healing powers that I need to improve, so I have it handled, thanks. Recovery girl smiled, hearing about something else with healing capabilities. If you ever need tutoring with them, let me know. Who else needs ease? Recovery girl went to check on everyone else. Izuku yawned as he walked back to the bus. He really wanted to just fly home, but he didn't want to leave Ochako, who was asking him a lot of questions. How many powers do you have? Ochako was flabbergasted at the fact that Izuku seemed to have a whole arsenal of quirk-like powers at his disposal. Let's see if I disregard elements and upgrade 7. Izuku counted purple as an elemental version of his green blast. 7. Ochako was impressed. Your grandpa will be so proud of how you just used them. Oh, I know he is proud right now, watching me from heaven enjoying how I crushed Paul. Izuku was willing to beat Johnny, was telling everyone he could about that if he saw it. Ochako immediately felt bad. I'm sorry, I didn't know your grandpa passed away. It's fine. He walked into the next life happy with what he has done, and I plan on making him not regret teaching me. Izuku didn't want Ochako to feel bad about something she didn't know about. Dude, your grandpa must have been a badass to teach you all of that, the tape kid said from in front of them. I'm Hantashiro, by the way. My Mima actually taught me the lightning stuff. Well, gave me the gist of it. That was all improvising. Izuku figured she was upset with how much he overdid it. Dude, it sounds like your whole family is just awesomeness. Hanta knew that if they both got into UA, he should become friends with Izuku. Nito felt the glare coming from Katsuki as he got off of his bus with Kyoka and the electric kid who revealed he was Denki Kaminari. Katsuki wasn't glaring at his two followers as much as he was glaring at Nito's arm. What did you do to your arm? Katsuki asked as Nito got next to him. This dude right here just destroyed out 0-pointer. Denki praised Nito again as he leaned on Nito's good arm. Katsuki smirked. Destroyed yours also. Also, did you break your sights? I thought that Present Mike said they were impossible to destroy. Kyoka figured the Nito had a fluke with his, but apparently the robots had competition. How did you break yours? Katsuki, Nito asked. Katsuki's smirk became a grin. After the workout the other pests gave me, I had enough sweat built up to blow my way inside of the thing, and the inside is easier to blow up than the outside. You know that there were no points for that thing, right? Kyoka asked. PSSSH, like I care. I had 77 points, I just need to prove that I was superior to all of the extras in my site, Katsuki boasted. I wasn't the worst injured. Izuku made his arrival known as he had Ochako and Hanta with him. I fried myself blowing up my 0-pointer guys. He one-hit knocked out the robot and he shot lightning into it. That thing has parts all over our test site now. Hanta nodded. Dude, so wait. Denki held up both of his hands and printed to Izuku, Nito and Katsuki. You all three know each other, went to the same middle school, and broke the impossible robots where you were. All three guys nodded, Katsuki with an arrogant smirk and Izuku with a stupid grin. What the hell are they feeding you at that place? Manliness. Izuku grinned even more. Are you two ready to go celebrate like we planned? Can we join? Hanta asked. Izuku looked at the other two, Nito who shrugged and Katsuki who didn't care. Sure, sweet. All Might had always wanted to be a teacher. To pave the way for the next generation of heroes was something he found admirable. With his loosening hold on One for All because not passing it on and his injuries over the years, hero work itself was something he couldn't do as much anymore, with his time available for it slowly dwindling. However, evaluating the thousands of students that took the test today was something he didn't enjoy. Having to say which kids at the cutoff could go up into UA, and which ones didn't make it because UA couldn't simply accept every single student. Rescue points was a topic that he perked up at. However, when the staff had to watch moments where students unneeded still provided help to others and tried to keep everything together. Now we are at 3 students that definitely have shown strong use of their quirks, Nezu said as he brought up the information of 3 students. It was Izuku, Katsuki, and Nito. These are the 3 that single-handedly destroyed the 0-pointers in their test, correct? Cementos asked, having been busy with construction and just arriving. Yes, indeed. Nezu poured more tea. Each one immediately dealt with the situation of the 0-pointers, but in different ways. Let's begin with Bakugo. The clip played showing Katsuki running at the 0-pointer screaming die. While not immediately doing this to prevent others from being hurt, we can't ignore that he must have been aware of the risk it held to the others at the site and dispatched it by blowing his way inside and destroying enough of its parts to render it useless without causing it to break buildings more than it did before he got inside. I believe at the least he should be given 15 rescue points. Everyone agreed. No one argued with Nezu's reasoning. You really can't argue with Nezu sometimes, seeing as how he is a hybrid animal thing that has a rare quirk that makes him smarter than 99% of humans. I believe that is fair. While he does not initially show concern for the others, he does glance around afterward to see if anyone was in need. Vlad King nodded. Then Katsuki Bakugo has 77 villain points and 15 rescue points for a total of 92 points. Quite an achievement. That is in the top 5% of test takers. All Might was impressed by the score. Next we have Nito Monoma. Nezu played a clip to show Nito's first reaction of being scared but foregoing that to save Kyoka, using One for All for the first time to break his arm, destroying his zero-pointer's arm. At first he was scared like everyone else, close to running, but stopped when he saw Miss Gyro and risk of danger. With a malfunctioning quirk, he still went to hell her and made the surprising show of strength that destroyed the arm of his zero-pointer. I believe he should have 50 rescue points. All Might was ecstatic to hear the high amount of points his pupil had possibly made. He wanted to stay out of the discussion of it to keep his bias tool low. Does everyone agree? Nezu asked as he sipped his tea. Nezu was irked that it was mostly him talking, but he knew him logic made sense to everyone, so they saw no sense in speaking. Okay then. That means Nito Monoma has 12 villain points and 50 rescue points for a total of 62 points. All Might was struggling to hide his grin because he knew that with that score Nito was definitely in UA. For sure. Now we have our final interesting prospect, Izuku Midoriya, a young hunk. Midnight grinned. Yes, Nezu said without missing a beat. He has showed extremely high control of flying with his curious wings and being able to use those projectile attacks of his at the same time. While he did stop to ask us for his points partway through in a rather unorthodox way, he did keep pace and has shown to be versatile with his skill set. Nezu played the clip of Izuku first rescuing Hanta and the Panther Girl with no hesitation and immediately going to help others. He immediately dealt with helping anyone caught off guard by the destruction of the zero-pointer and then fought the zero-pointer once he had no other choice at that moment. The clip showed him use his mold to move Tenya's prone body to safety and charge his powers to punch the robot. Enough physical strength to launch it into the air, and that lightning of his was enough to make our entire zero-pointer blow up. Kid also remained calm and checked on anybody nearby with humor, I might add. Vlad King chuckled when he remembered hearing the kid call the robot Paul. Not to mention that he had made enough impact in the other test takers that they all helped him after he got himself hurt. Midnight loved the charisma that the boy had, able to keep everyone calm and reassure even the one he didn't get along with, helping them without hesitation and taking every person he helped away from danger before he fought the robot, and the way he had unknowingly rallied others together. I believe that Izuku Midoriya should be awarded 60 rescue points. Somehow I feel that is a bit low. The sleeping bag grumbled. Oh, even Shota is interested in him, Midnight gasped. That kid is something. State your reasoning, Aizawa, please. Nezu did admit it wasn't every day that Shota Aizawa was in support of a student. Normally he was the opposite if he even spoke at all. Halfway through the test he stopped gaining points for himself. He decided to stop and help others if they would accept his help. Several students have higher scores than they would have originally gotten if it wasn't for him. He didn't do it to make himself feel bigger, but instead because he wanted to help. He clearly wants to bring out the best in people, which ties in with rallying them. When he woke up he was ready to fight again, not knowing what was going on, and immediately was worried about the kid he last protected instead of himself. He even checked the wings he has shown intense love for last. I believe he should be given 75 rescue points at the least. Aizawa finished. Longest I have heard him speak here. Present Mike mumbled to Midnight, who snickered. I believe that is a good case, and I shall award him that 75 rescue points and an extra 5 for being the first student you have actually supported. Nezu grinned. Those 80 points along with his 98 villain points brings Izuku Midoriya to 178 points for the new record of the entrance exam, breaking the old record of 112 by All Might. Here that big guy Midnight strolled up to All Might. Apparently there is a new strong kid at UA. Good for him. I will enjoy teaching him if I get the chance. All Might has taught him somewhat already, and honestly the Kai was a good student if he wasn't bored and causing trouble. So how do you all think you did? Denki asked as everyone sat at a corner booth at Izuku's favorite burger place. Oh, I passed for sure, definitely with the top score, Katsuki stated as he pulled the bottles of hot sauce from the table beside there. Now I definitely got that. Izuku took off his sunglasses. PFFD, okay. Katsuki laughed it off, believing it was 40-60 in Izuku's favor on that. What the hell happened to your eyes? How, what you mean? Izuku used his sunglasses reflection to see the yellow bits of electricity dancing around in his glare. Oh cool. Wait, is that not normal for him? Kyoka figured. With the green and purple stuff all over him and the wings that disappeared, the electricity in his eyes wasn't weird. Nothing is normal for him, Nito stated. So is it a side effect of your ability? Probably, Izuku shrugged. My mold has started to cause bright blue in the lines on my hands and forearms. Mold like cheese. Denki was confused. No, that would be a weird ability. Izuku laughed. I call my ability mold because I can use blue energy to mold into things like clay around my hands. Weird that my lightning only changes my eyes slightly though. Well, it is only inside of you until you release it out at something. Nito pointed at his eyes. Your sclera is inside of your body technically, so that's probably why we can only see it then. Wait, my whole quirk is electricity. Why doesn't that happen to me? Denki used a window to check his eyes' reflection. Quirks can be similar and different at the same time. I just find it funny that every ability I have is a different color and they leave that color on my body in some cool design. I'm going to be a walking rainbow soon. How many abilities do you have? Denki thought that Izuku was a cool dude. Now let's talk about you guys. I gotta know about future UA students. Izuku really didn't want to talk about his quirk again. How can you be so sure that we all passed? Kyoka was glad someone wasn't dismissing her, but still it was a big thing to guess. Because great people flock together, Izuku said with enthusiasm, and Katsuki nodded. I don't associate with rejects, so you have that. Katsuki offered. Thanks. Kyoka didn't know how to react to not being called and reject like that. Why don't need swap phone numbers so we let each other know when we get our notice from UA? Ochako asked. Done deal. Izuku slammed a paper on the table that he quickly wrote his number on. We can make a group chat too. Hey, I do have a question though. Hanta got Izuku's attention. Why did you name the 0-pointer Paul? Nito sighed and smacked his hand against his face. You named it Paul? Yeah, I did. Izuku laughed. I named him the after my grandpa told me a story about a giant evil thing with red glowing eyes that they named Paul. So every time I see a giant thing with red eyes, I plan to name it Paul. But your grandpa wasn't in that story, Nito pointed out. Yes, but Mima was, Izuku retorted. Katsuki shuddered, remembering the one time he met Izuku's Mima and called her a hag, a mistake he would never make again. Barely, Nito replied. The story could only happen because of Mima, Izuku said. Plus I represent them all anyways, so